Welcome back to the campus, where the cherry blossoms are in full bloom, but the main character's social battery is already hitting zero. Xiang Queque arrives at Qingyuan University for the second semester, trying to keep a low profile. Immediately, a random upperclassman tries to play the hero by approaching her. He acts like he's doing her a huge favor by offering to carry her heavy luggage. This guy is a professional flirt, clearly more interested in her than the bag. He even has the audacity to ask if she has a boyfriend. While he's literally struggling to even lift the suitcase, he keeps fishing for her name and department. Finally, he gets blindsided by a total rejection. Queque hits him with a savage wordplay, basically telling him his business has nothing to do with her. Internally, she rolled her eyes. Does this guy think I'm a freshman who was born yesterday? It was a total rejection win, and she didn't even break a sweat. But as she turns to leave, she bumps straight into a solid chest. She stammers out a quick apology, and when she looks up, she sees a face that could stop traffic. It's her classmate Bai Ying. This guy is the school's legendary cold Adonis, and he basically radiates an aura that says don't even think about it. Suddenly, the class president and his buddy show up, wondering why Queque is lugging suitcases away from the dorms. She casually drops that she's living off campus this semester. The president tries to be a nice guy and offers to help, while Bai Ying just stands there looking like a moody statue. Someone notices the vibe shifting and comments on how the two of them look together. They claim the visual chemistry is actually insane. On one side, you have the cold, handsome lead, and on the other, a beauty with a graceful air. The shipping is real, especially since they're from the same hometown, so the peanut gallery suggests they should just date already. Both of them shut that down with a synchronized NO faster than a speedrunner. Later, at her private apartment, the graceful beauty mask finally slips. Queque is actually a total gremlin who lives for messy buns and chugging soda in her fuzzy pajamas. Internally, she scoffed. If they saw me like this, they'd be calling an exorcist instead of a matchmaker. She doesn't have a problem with guys in general. But the moment things get romantic, she's completely checked out. Pickup lines and flirting literally make her want to throw up. She's convinced that growing old alone is a much safer bet. But she can't slack off forever because she has a secret identity as a manhua artist, and she needs to get to work. The problem? Her publisher is currently treating her drafts like trash, rejecting every single version of her new outline. Just as she's about to have a mental breakdown, her phone rings. It's her online friend Shudong. They start chatting about her progress. She admits she's completely out of juice when it comes to inspiration. She even jokes that she's getting too old for the game. She rants to Shudong about being shipped with the campus Adonis, laughing about how disappointed people would be if they saw her real self. Shudong, being an absolute legend, tells her she's outstanding and unique just the way she is. Queque is literally moved to tears by how wholesome this guy is. She's convinced he's an angel sent from above to save her sanity. Cut to reality, and it's absolute hell. Of all the people in the world, she's stuck in a group project with the cold Adonis himself, Bai Ying. Even his yawns look like they're being filmed for a movie. But Queque thinks her online friend Shudong is way cuter. She tries to be professional and suggests a way to divide the labor. Bai Ying doesn't say a word, he just stares at her with those piercing eyes. He's looking at her so intensely it's getting weird. Queque is internally screaming for help because this dude is terrifying. She's heard he's the silent type, but being in his presence is basically a survival horror game. She never expected him to be this scary in person. She drops a stack of books on the table, trying to finish her half of the work. He looks up at her, and for a second, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, he drops a bombshell. He tells her that her eyes are really pretty. Queque is absolutely short-circuiting. For a split second, she thinks maybe he's actually a decent guy, but then he immediately ruins it by saying he saw wrong, and it's just her colored contact lenses. Queque is fuming. She forces a fake laugh, telling him he's so perceptive for noticing how natural they look. Internally, she's losing it. Is this person for real? What is he even up to? She decides to just focus on the report so she can go home. As she works, she starts daydreaming about ordering delivery and finishing her manhua. Her eyes start getting heavy. She starts worrying about laundry and recycling in her head, and before she knows it, she's out cold on the table. Bai Ying just sits there watching her sleep. He leans in close, and for once a tiny smile actually touches his lips. He reaches out for a book, and uses it to shield her face from the piercing sunlight. He whispers her name softly. It turns out he might have been looking out for her for a lot longer than she realized. Later, the weather turns and it starts pouring. They're both stuck at the building entrance, and Queque is penniless when it comes to umbrellas. Suddenly, Bai Ying reaches into his bag and hands her a folding umbrella. He claims he just happened to have an extra one today. Queque is caught off guard by the sudden kindness. She thanks him profusely and promises to return it tomorrow. He just says he's leaving first. She waves him off with a bright smile, thinking that maybe he actually is a considerate person. He looks stern, but his actions are surprisingly soft. As he walks away, the camera pans out to show him walking straight into the rain without cover. He didn't have an extra umbrella, he gave her his only one. Meanwhile, Queque's hard work pays off because her manhua, Romantic Girl, is finally a hit and on sale. She's on a rooftop celebrating with her best friend. Her friend asks why she's not out with her boyfriend on his birthday. They're having a great time, but then the friend reveals they actually broke up. Queque is shocked. Apparently, it's not the first time she's had to hear this. The friend is furious because the guy was a total jerk. He was apparently two-timing her with 4 different girls. They joke that the guy must be an octopus, even though octopuses apparently only have 6 legs in this universe. They decide to forget about the trash and enjoy the city lights. The friend then brings up Shudong again. She starts teasing Queque, poking her cheek. She points out that for a girl who avoids boys, Queque has been talking to this online treehole guy for years. She challenges Queque to admit she has feelings and just meet him in person. Queque gets super defensive. They end up in a playful wrestling match. Her friend eventually gives up, but warns her that she's never even seen the guy's face. She jokes that he might be some ugly, bald nerd. But the scene cuts to the library where Bai Ying is looking like a total model. A random girl approaches him. He looks up from his book. The girl is nervous, confessing that she's noticed him for a long time. She asks for his contact info, but Bai Ying is the king of savage replies. He asks her if she has hemorrhoids because she won't stop fidgeting. The girl is stunned. She runs away crying from the embarrassment. Bai Ying just sighs, clearly over the attention. Suddenly, he hears a voice calling his name. It's Queque, looking totally different in a cute outfit. She gives him a polite greeting. They share a brief, awkward look. Queque thinks that since he doesn't seem that scary anymore, she should really try to get along with him. She asks what he's looking at, and he casually tells her it's a shoujo manga. She's absolutely living for the gapmo of a cold guy reading romance. Her eyes light up with excitement. She asks which one he's reading. He holds up the book, and Queque's soul basically leaves her body. It's her own manhua. Queque is currently sweating bullets because her secret crush just spent the last 10 minutes reading her secret manhua. Bai Ying lets out a dry cough to clear the awkwardness. He looks her dead in the eye and asks what she thinks of the series he's holding. Then he drops the hammer, calling the plot too dramatic. Internally, Queque is dying of cringe, thinking about her mom kiss me please dialogue while he keeps critiquing. But then, he catches her off guard by admitting he actually kinda likes it. Queque's professional pride takes over, and she asks him to pinpoint exactly where the writing is slightly weak. He leans in dangerously close, making her heart skip a beat. He looks incredibly serious under those glasses. For example, he begins. He goes full editor mode, roasting the abrupt scene switches and the confusing subplots. Queque is totally blindsided by the technical breakdown. He even calls the female lead a Mary Sue and says some of the narration feels childish. He's not even done yet. Queque just stares at him, her ego currently in the trash. Classmate Bai Ying. She's genuinely shook. She asks if he's read a lot of books to know this much about storyboarding. He gestures to the entire library, turns out he's read all of them. Cut to the dorms, where Bai Ying's roommate is screaming at him to wake up before they fail college. He literally has to drag the sleepy Adonis out of bed. They're in a massive rush, and the roommate reminds him to bring a mirror and a brush. The campus is looking aesthetic as the morning bell rings. Turns out they're enrolled in a professional makeup class. The roommate is salty because Bai Ying overslept on registration day, leaving them with no other elective options. They're both radiating big I shouldn't be here energy. Suddenly, they spot Queque in the crowd. She's surprised to see the cold Adonis in a beauty course. The roommate immediately points the finger at Bai Ying for their situation. The teacher decides to skip the theory and tells everyone to get hands-on. The instruction is simple. Start applying the products you brought. Queque watches the boys struggle with their makeup kits. Classmate Bai Ying. He's currently trying to apply concealer like he's painting a fence. Internally, Queque is screaming, "That's concealer, not foundation, buddy." He moves on to drawing his brows like he's using a permanent marker. Then he tries to put on mascara, except he's trying to apply it to his lips like it's gloss. Queque can't watch this disaster anymore and steps in. She offers to teach him before he ends up looking like a Chinese opera singer. She tells him to close his eyes. She starts brushing on the products with professional precision. Even the legendary cold Adonis needs a little help with his glow-up. Queque is focused on the task, but then she notices his lashes are illegally long and his skin is flawless. Internally, she's fuming with jealousy, wanting to know what skincare products he uses. She goes through the steps: powder, contouring, and blending it all to look natural. Finally, she reaches for the lipstick. Bai Ying opens his eyes, staring directly at her. "Your eyes." Queque freezes as he stares into her soul. "Are very pretty," he finishes. She tries to play it cool, thinking it's a good thing she skipped the contacts today. But her brain is short-circuiting. She wonders why he keeps dropping random compliments just to startle her. She finishes the look, and he acknowledges the work. He looks down at the lipstick she's still holding. "I know," he repeats, looking like a total main character. Then he drops a classic straight guy comment, asking if her eye makeup took a long time. He gives her a deadpan look. Internally, she's done. Should have known better than to expect pearls of wisdom from this guy. Suddenly, the class president roommate pops up, begging for attention. Queque is startled by the sudden energy. The roommate is actually rocking his makeup and feeling himself. They all look like a group of idols ready for a debut. As class ends, a random beauty approaches Bai Ying in the hallway. She tries to be smooth. She asks for his contact info with a hee-hee laugh. Everyone is watching, expecting the cold Adonis to finally score. But Bai Ying throws a massive curveball. "Do you like guys?" He reaches out toward his roommate. The girl is completely lost. He puts his hand over his roommate's hand. The onlookers are caught in 4K with their jaws on the floor. What a coincidence. Bai Ying deadpans, "Me too." Queque is absolutely shook by the confession. The girl flees the scene immediately, apologizing for the bother. The girls in the background are literally floating away from the shock. The roommate is beyond pissed. He starts strangling Bai Ying for using such a gross tactic to reject someone. Queque laughs it off and prepares to head out. The roommate stops her. He mentions he has discount coupons for a pub and needs a third person for the deal. Queque is down for it, asking if it's far from school. Internally, she's relieved it's a group hang and not a solo date. It's just 5 bus stops away. The roommate checks the group chat and asks Bai Ying if he's joining. Who said that? Bai Ying stands up, looking ready to party, and admits he loves drinking. They hop on the bus to Qingyuan University. It's crowded, but the boys find her a seat ladies first. Queque thinks they're being super nice, but it triggers a bad memory from high school when a guy called her an ugly girl on the bus. It's an unbearable memory for her to revisit. She looks up at Bai Ying, who is standing right over her. Even without trying, his face has a magical power that makes people take a second glance. She pulls out her phone to vent to her online confidant, Shudong. She admits that while his critique was harsh, it actually solved her creative block. But then she gets hit with an insecurity way of asking if she's just not cut out for screenwriting. Shudong, who is actually Bai Ying on his phone right behind her, replies instantly. He tells her it's not about being inferior. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. He points out that while she struggles with story, her art is better than most people. In girls' comics, the art style is a huge part of the success. Queque starts thinking, should she ask Bai Ying to collaborate? The idea makes her excited. Are you looking for Bai Ying? Her inner thoughts ask. She thinks about her stunning visual imagery. If it were paired with his sophisticated script, they could create a super popular series. She looks at him, the plan taking root in her mind. It's a pretty good idea. It would be great for her and her career. Screenwriting is definitely her weak spot. But if she's looking for a shoujo manga writer, Student White Eagle might just be the perfect choice. The drinks are flowing, and Queque is busy flexing her high alcohol tolerance like a seasoned pro. Bai Ying just sits there quietly, sipping his drink while the class rep looks on in disbelief. He seems totally unfazed by the booze, maintaining his typical cold Adonis aura. He keeps knocking them back with a straight face, looking like he could drink the whole bar under the table. Suddenly, a random drunk guy stumbles over and starts hitting on Queque, trying to act smooth. Queque isn't having it and tells the creep to go kick rocks and drink the northwest wind by himself. The creepy old man doesn't take the hint and keeps pestering the group, making things awkward. The class rep tries to intervene, but the guy is relentless and clearly looking for trouble. He reaches out to grab Queque, but he's about to find out he picked the wrong table to mess with. A hand snaps out and grabs the creep's wrist with a firm grip. Bai Ying looks him dead in the eye with a terrifyingly calm expression that screams, "Don't test me." Instead of throwing a punch, he drops a logic bomb. He can't go anywhere because they need 3 people to keep their group discount. It's a total mood killer for the harasser, who just stands there confused. After finishing their meal, the table is a mess of empty plates and glasses. Bai Ying goes back to being his silent, brooding self staring off into space. Suddenly, the class rep's phone blows up with a loud ring. It's an emergency meeting for the student council, and he's officially on the clock. He's blindsided by the sudden work summons and looks completely stressed. Queque is confused by the sudden change in plans as the vibe shifts. The class rep apologizes for the sudden exit, looking like he's about to pull his hair out. He's rushing to pack his things as fast as humanly possible. He pays the bill and promises to grab a cab immediately to make it on time. Queque tells him not to worry about the rush. She says they'll just transfer him the money for the meal later on. He waves goodbye, leaving the 2 of them alone in the quiet restaurant. He screams at Bai Ying to make sure Queque gets home safely, but gets no response. As the class rep heads out, he hears a strange noise coming from the alleyway. He finds the creepy guy from before crumpled on the floor like a sack of potatoes. The guy is a total mess and looks like he just went 3 rounds with a pro wrestler. Internally, the class rep realized Bai Ying must have handled business during his restroom break earlier. Back at the table, Bai Ying is looking a bit different than usual. Queque notices he's starting to look a little glazed over and out of it. She realizes the cold Adonis might actually be completely wasted. She starts sweating, realizing she's now in charge of a drunk genius who can barely sit up. Bai Ying starts leaning in, radiating major main character energy. He asks her if she's okay in a voice that's way too smooth for someone this drunk. He reaches out his hand, and Queque's heart starts racing at the proximity. He grabs her hand, and the tension in the room is through the roof. Queque is completely frozen in place, unsure of what to do. His eyes are soft, and he's looking at her like she's the only girl in the world. She tries to call his name to snap him out of his drunken trance, but he just keeps staring with those dreamy, purple eyes. He's officially entered soft boy mode, and there's no going back. Flashback to the threat. It turns out when he left for the restroom earlier, he actually cornered the creep. He stood up from the table looking like a man on a mission. He told the class rep he just needed to step out for a second. He walked past the group with a look that could kill. He found the drunk guy outside and loomed over him like a final boss. The guy didn't realize his life was about to flash before his eyes until it was too late. Bai Ying asked him if he wanted to go drink the northwest wind, permanently scaring the soul out of him. Back in the present, Bai Ying is panting and looking completely spent from the alcohol hitting him. Queque realizes his face is redder than a tomato and he's totally gone. She tries to talk to him, but he's just staring blankly like his brain is short-circuiting. Internally, she gets a wicked idea and flashes a literal evil smile. She starts roasting him for having 0 alcohol tolerance while trying to act like a big shot. She peeks at him to see if her insults are landing. She wonders if she went too far and actually made him mad. She stares into his eyes, waiting for a sarcastic comeback. Instead, he sprouts imaginary puppy ears and apologizes like a kicked golden retriever. Queque's brain completely short-circuits at the cuteness. She can't believe this is the same cold guy from class. Internally, she's screaming because he's actually being adorable and she can't handle it. toilet. She tries to lead him home, but he's a total menace on the street. He decides to hug a lamppost and starts singing nursery rhymes about bunnies. Then he switches to a song about tigers, acting like a literal toddler. Queque is dying of embarrassment as people walk by. He's singing about tigers missing eyes and tails at the top of his lungs. In her head, they look like two lost birds in the middle of the night. He's just standing there under the street light, completely lost in his own little world. Queque wonders what her life has even become at this point. She asks herself why she's even singing along with this drunkard. She decides enough is enough and checks her phone to see the time. She thinks about calling his roommate to come pick up this hot mess. She asks him if anyone else lives with him besides the class rep. Suddenly, he pins her against the pole and tells her not to call anyone. He whispers for her to just look at him and nobody else. The proximity is insane and Queque is definitely caught in 4K. He tells her to only look at me, which is a line straight out of a romance novel. Queque is blushing harder than he is right now. Internally, she's just praying he doesn't throw up all over her shoes. She realizes that even cold, idealistic guys get super clingy when they're hammered. She tries to push him away, but he's stuck to her like glue. She notes that he reeks of booze, despite the super romantic atmosphere. He's acting exactly like a shoujo manga lead, and it's messing with her head. She stares at him, realizing he's basically a walking trope right now. She wonders if he learned all this from the shoujo scripts he critiques. Internally, she scoffs that he's a professional playwright even when he's totally blacked out. She looks into his eyes one more time, feeling a bit of a spark. She thinks about his talent and the potential of his scripts for her own work. She decides to take a gamble and asks him a serious question while he's vulnerable. She asks if he'd ever be willing to collaborate with her on a manga series. She waits for his answer, her heart pounding against her ribs. Bai Ying leans in and asks if she isn't afraid of being alone with a man for too long. Queque is stunned and doesn't know how to respond. She starts to give a polite answer to brush it off, but then her eyes go wide with realization. She repeats his name in complete shock. She asks him how he could possibly know about that fear. Internally, her world turns upside down as she realizes the only person she ever told that to was her online friend Shudong. The morning after a wild night, Bai Ying is barely holding it together while Xiang Queque stands by, completely stunned by his sudden confession. Before she can even process the fact that he's her online bestie Shudong, the cold Adonis finally hits his limit and faints right on the spot. Internally, Queque is screaming, but she realizes she can't just leave him on the pavement. In a move that would make any shoujo protagonist jealous, she decides to take charge and princess carries the unconscious hunk. It turns out this secret manhua artist isn't just good with a pen. She's actually low-key buff and super strong. Over at the Qingyuan University, male dorms, the class rep is busy doom-scrolling and complaining about the annoying student union meetings. He's wondering if Bai Ying managed to get Queque home safely when he spots something moving in the shadows. His jaw hits the floor when he sees Queque casually hauling his best friend back to the dorms like a sack of potatoes. The rep is absolutely disgusted, thinking Bai Ying is a total loser for making a girl carry him home. He immediately starts apologizing to Queque for the massive trouble. To vent his frustration, he even gives the sleeping Bai Ying a quick bonk on the head. Queque just brushes it off with a smile, claiming the dude isn't even that heavy. The rep prepares to take over, telling her to just throw him on his back. As she hands him over, Queque tells Bai Ying to be a good boy and cooperate with the rep. In his drunken haze, Bai Ying looks at her with a gaze so soft it could melt butter. He whispers her name, staring at her like she's the only person in the world. Suddenly, Queque's eyes go wide with a look of pure terror. She's hit with a traumatic flashback of a man, likely her father, complaining about his bad memory. The memory of being caught and told, "Don't touch me," flashes through her mind like a horror movie. The mental scars are so deep she can practically feel the rejection all over again. Blindsided by the past, she looks completely shook and ready to spiral. Bai Ying is just left hanging, watching her expression change in real time. Panicking, she blurts out that she's leaving first. She bolts away into the night as fast as her legs can carry her. Seeing that look of pure fear on her face, the vibe has officially shifted. It's clear there's a lot more to her story than just being a shy artist. The next morning, the sun rises over the dorms, but it's not a bright day for everyone. The class rep is hovering over Bai Ying's bed, trying his best to choose peace over violence. Bai Ying finally wakes up, and his head feels like it's being hit by a freight train. The rep wastes no time roasting him, asking if he feels even a little bit embarrassed about being carried home by a girl. Bai Ying freezes as he realizes that his memories of the night weren't just a weird dream. The rep demands he send her an apology text immediately or face her in person. Bai Ying doesn't even hesitate, he's already up and moving. The rep shouts after him, baffled that he's sprinting out on a weekend. Bai Ying is already weaving through the campus crowds, looking for the girl he accidentally blindsided. Meanwhile, Queque is trying to distract herself by texting her online confidant Shudong. She tells him there's something she's been meaning to share. Today is a huge milestone because she's doing her first ever offline signature promotion. The venue is absolutely packed, and while she's hyped, she's also terrified of being caught in 4K by a classmate. She puts on her best professional smile and thanks a fan for supporting her manhua, romance girl. Internally, she's a nervous wreck, thinking that blowing her cover would be a total disaster. She continues waving to the fans, trying to keep the imposter syndrome at bay. She's still haunted by whatever drama went down 3 years ago that forced her into hiding. Looking at the sheer number of people who showed up for her, she starts to get emotional. She turns into a sobbing mess of joy, calling her readers literal angels. She resets and prepares to greet the next person in line. fan. But as the next fan approaches, the air suddenly feels still. Her cheerful expression instantly glitches. Standing right there, looking like a total snack, is Bai Ying. He looks her dead in the eye and addresses her as Teacher Little Bird. In a quick cutback to the previous night, we see the class rep struggling to carry Bai Ying, wondering how Queque managed to do this without breaking a sweat. Back at the signing table, Queque tries to pull the ultimate "I don't know her" card, claiming she's just a distant cousin of the artist. Bai Ying just gives her a look that says, "Nice try, buddy." He leans in close, telling her to pass a very specific message to this cousin. He reminds her that her 2,000-word art history essay is due tomorrow, effectively catching her in 4K. Queque turns into a black and white sketch of pure despair as he casually walks away. Queque waves goodbye to the staff, feeling like her soul has left her body. Once she's finally alone, she whips out her phone to vent. She's short-circuiting over the fact that Bai Ying showed up at her event. She goes straight to her tree-hole friend, crying about how she's completely doomed. Her friend responds with some surprisingly chill advice, suggesting that having him find out might actually be a good thing. He tells her to take a deep breath and look up at the cherry blossoms if she's feeling anxious. As she admires the pink petals, she genuinely wishes her online friend could see this beautiful view with her. Suddenly, she spots a familiar figure standing under the trees. It's Bai Ying, looking like he stepped straight out of a high-fashion photo shoot. They both bow and apologize at the exact same time, nearly knocking heads in the process. Seeing her flustered reaction, Bai Ying lets out a rare, genuine smile. He's just relieved that she doesn't actually hate him for being a drunken mess. Queque flexes her manly strength, telling him not to worry about the carry-home incident. However, she lays down the law. He has to keep her artist identity a secret, or she'll princess carry him through the main office for everyone to see. Bai Ying gives her his word that he won't blab. She then nervously asks if he remembers the nonsense he spouted the night before. She starts backpedaling hard, hoping he forgot about the whole manga collaboration proposal. Bai Ying stays silent, letting the tension build. Internally, she's begging him to just treat it like he was overeating or something. She tries to laugh it off, saying nobody would want to work with a nobody author like her. Bai Ying looks her in the eyes and simply says, "Yes, I do." He confirms that he wants to collaborate specifically with her, leaving her totally stunned. She starts wiggling in confusion, trying to find any excuse to make sense of this. He checks his phone and realizes it's already 6 o'clock. To repay her for her kindness the night before, he decides to take the lead. He offers to treat her to dinner right then and there. As the cherry blossoms drift in the spring breeze, Queque is completely caught in the moment. Standing together under the pink trees, they've officially set foot on a path toward a very interesting future. When the school's cold Adonis becomes your personal editor, things are bound to get spicy. After their heart-to-heart under the cherry blossoms, Queque realizes she and Bai Ying are officially long-term partners, and calling him classmate just feels way too formal now. She awkwardly laughs it off, totally feeling the weird vibes of their new dynamic. Bai Ying keeps it short and sweet, simply telling her, "I'm here." Eager to get the ball rolling, Queque sends over the drafts and settings for her new manga project. She basically spams his phone with a mountain of files, titled everything from new project plan to ultimate final version 2.0. Silence hits the chat like a brick wall as Bai Ying stares at the screen, and Queque starts sweating buckets. The awkwardness is so thick you could cut it with a knife while she waits for his reaction. Internally, she starts panicking, wondering if her writing is straight-up trash. But Bai Ying finally breaks the silence by saying there are at least some promising parts. Then he prepares to deliver the real verdict. Bai Ying goes full savage mode, spraying her work with a Gatling gun of critiques about her female lead being out of character and the plot being too fragmented. Surprisingly, Queque isn't even mad. She's actually impressed by how his feedback fleshed out the entire story. He even offers to spend his afternoon off helping her refine the rest of the content if she brings her laptop. Queque is practically starstruck, thinking her wish is a command. Internally, she's doing backflips because her new partner is actually super reliable. Suddenly, a massive banj echoes through the air as fireworks explode above them. Bai Ying turns to her with that classic main character gaze and asks if she wants to watch the show. Queque's eyes are glowing with excitement, but then her inner student kicks in, and she realizes she hasn't even finished her school paper yet, so she tries to bolt before things get too odd. Bai Ying isn't letting her go that easily and reaches for his earbuds. He gently places one in her ear to share his music, creating the ultimate romantic setup amidst the sparks. Meanwhile, her brain is already mourning the sleep she's going to lose writing her thesis later. Even though his fingers felt like ice, her ears are currently scorching hot from his touch. The fireworks finally stop, leaving a quiet moment between them. Queque tries to get professional, bringing up how they should split the manuscript payment since his revisions are a big deal. Bai Ying hits her with the "I'm not short of money" line, and she internally scoffs. Look at this annoying guy flexing. She stands her ground, insisting that as party A, she absolutely has to pay her employee. He finally gives in, suggesting she just treats him to more meals in the future instead. Internally, she realizes that at this rate, she'll be buying him dinner until she's 80 just to settle the debt. Bai Ying gets surprisingly soft, admitting that this collaboration is a learning experience for him too. He actually smiles and thanks her for choosing him as her partner. Queque is caught in 4K thinking he looks 10 times better when he isn't acting like a statue. She tells him he should smile more at school so people don't think he has a permanent bad temper. She starts starts ranting about his aloof male god reputation and how he mercilessly rejects every girl who breathes in his direction. Bai Ying just gives her a blank stare, but after spending time with him, she realizes he's actually a total kind-hearted softie. When she tells him his heart is actually warm, the romantic tension suddenly skyrockets. The atmosphere gets super weird, and Queque's inner rabbit starts panicking. She desperately tries to change the subject by asking about the song playing in the earbuds. Another massive firework explosion drowns out the sound of her voice. Bai Ying leans in close, his face just inches from hers, and whispers that he might have liked her for a long time. The world seems to stop as they lock eyes. He slowly pulls the earbud out, keeping the intensity high. Queque is completely short-circuiting, unable to tell what's going on. She's blushing so hard her heart feels like it's blooming alongside the fireworks. But then, he drops the ultimate troll move, revealing that I actually can't tell was just the name of the song he was playing. Suddenly, she's back in the university office, completely short-circuiting while her senior asks if she's okay. Internally, she's screaming, but externally she plays it cool while the senior hands over a stack of posters that need finishing. The deal is simple. Finish these, get the certificate stamped, and secure those precious academic credits. Our girl is a total simp for grades and promises to get the job done. But she quickly realizes she's missing the reference pictures. She goes looking for help and spots a familiar face, but it's not what she expected. Standing there in a full suit and wearing literal bunny ears is the cold Adonis himself, Bai Ying. Apparently, he's been recruited as a model for a makeup class because they offered him cash, and honestly, he's killing the look. Queque tries to match his energy, noting they're both rocking suit jackets, and even mentions she's wearing a new perfume she got on sale. She starts flailing her arms around like a human fan, telling him to take a whiff because it smells amazing. Without warning, Bai Ying reaches out and grabs her wrist. He pulls her close, his face inches from her skin, sending Queque into an absolute panic. As he leans in to smell her, the world around them seems to fade away. His eyes are intense, and the toil that heavy, thumping heartbeat starts acting up again. That overwhelming sensation she felt back under the fireworks is hitting her like a freight train. But then, Bai Ying opens his mouth and absolutely nukes the mood by saying her expensive perfume smells like toilet water. Queque is fuming while he just stands there sniffing the air, wondering why he always acts flirty just to roast her 2 seconds later. But then he catches her off guard with a look that softens her anger. He actually smiles at her, and it's game over. The scene shifts to a crisis on campus where a mascot girl has sprained her ankle, leaving the promotion event in shambles. Sensing an opportunity for even more extra credit, Queque steps up and volunteers for the job. Cut to the reveal. Queque is now a giant, round peach mascot. She's determined to grind for those credits, convinced no one will recognize her behind the ridiculous makeup and the fruit suit. She starts hustling, handing out flyers and shouting for people to come win prizes. But the reality check hits hard when literally nobody cares about a giant peach. To make matters worse, a little kid walks up and asks why she has a PP on her head, and she has to explain it's a peach. She's sweating, depressed, and wondering where her life went wrong. She figures things must be just as slow for Bai Ying, but when she looks over, she sees she was dead wrong. Bai Ying is being swarmed by girls like a K-pop idol, and he's shutting down every request for his social media with a cold no. He notices the giant peach suffering in the heat and tells Queque she should take a break before she passes out. She pulls off the heavy headpiece, gasping for air as her pink hells around her face. Bai Ying looks at her, and you can practically see the gears turning in his head. He turns back to the crowd of girls and tells them that if they want a picture with him, it's not impossible. Suddenly, the crowd does a 180 and rushes toward Queque, begging for flyers. She's overwhelmed as everyone starts being super nice, and she tells them to calm down because there's enough for everyone. She's confused by the sudden popularity, especially since it's mostly girls. She looks over at Bai Ying and realizes he's the one pulling the strings to help her out. He looks so handsome when he's being helpful, and she wonders why he doesn't smile like that more often at school. As she watches him, she realizes her feelings are deepening. These small moments, like the look in his eyes, the memory of his whispers under the fireworks, and his rare smiles under the cherry trees, are all starting to add up. Even his drunk words under the nightlight make her want to be by his side right now. While our boy Bai Ying is busy pondering his role in this romantic tragedy, a mysterious girl drops some heavy lore about knights in the dark versus princes in the sun. He's left staring into the void, looking intensely contemplative as if he's deciding whether he's the main lead or just the guy holding the bags. Meanwhile, Queque is living her best life because she's finally off the clock and feeling absolutely refreshed after a long day of mascot work. They start walking together, and Queque notices Bai Ying looks suspiciously cheerful, which is a rare sight for this stoic editor. She actually pulls out a mental chalkboard to prove his mouth is upturned exactly 3 degrees more than usual today. Bai Ying plays it cool, claiming he just had a top-tier dream last night that put him in a good mood. But then he ruins the vibe by teasing her, saying he dreamed she turned into a giant balloon and cried because she couldn't draw comics anymore. Internally, she fumed. Is this guy for real right now? Queque isn't having it and tries to stomp away in anger, but her coordination is basically zero. She slips on the stairs, but Bai Ying's reflexes are cracked, and he reaches out to save her from a concrete sandwich. The catch is straight out of a K-drama, leaving them locked in a gaze that's definitely making Queque's ears turn bright red. Bai Ying's brain is still stuck on that prince versus knight talk, looking like a man burdened by his own handsomeness. Internally, he's going through it, thinking that if he could be the prince, No one would willingly choose to be the damned knight in the shadows. They break the tension awkwardly, with Queque trying to act like her heart isn't doing gymnastics while she apologizes for being clumsy. She tries to pivot the conversation to work, calling him an unexpectedly proactive workaholic while they head out to find dinner. But wait, the real reason Bai Ying is so flustered is because he's haunted by a guilty dream where Queque was looking way too suggestive on a bed. He wakes up in his dorm room screaming her name like a man possessed, his dignity officially leaving his body. His face is a total disaster zone of red, and he's clearly struggling to process the spicy mental images. His roommate is right there to kill the vibe, roasting him for sleeping like he's hibernating through every season at once. Flashback time. We see the lush greenery through a small grove behind the high school's art academy. This was their secret paradise, an abandoned garden where the birds and clouds seemed to belong only to them. Back then, Queque was struggling with the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was getting roasted by haters who said her romance comics were Mary Sue trash, and she was honestly sick of the constant negativity. But Bai Ying, her treehole classmate, promised her that one day she'd find someone who truly understands her. His words were the only thing keeping her head above water during those dark school days. Fast forward to the present, and Queque wakes up at the cafe, realizing she accidentally took a 5-minute power nap. Bai Ying has already carried the team and finished the entire project outline while she was drooling. She's hyped to submit it to the editor tonight, completely unaware that the guy sitting next to her is the one she's reporting to. They step outside only to realize it's absolutely pouring, but luckily Queque checked the forecast and came prepared with an umbrella. Bai Ying, being the classic unprepared male lead, admits he's totally umbrella-less. Queque invites him to share, and he takes over the handle, creating a textbook romantic atmosphere. He even tries to take her backpack, proving that his gentlemanly instincts are on overdrive even if he tries to hide it. He checks the bus schedule, trying to keep things professional while his heart is likely thumping out of his chest. Suddenly, Queque's jacket slips, revealing a shoulder that sends Bai Ying's brain straight back to that guilty dream. He's caught in 4K, short-circuiting as he tries to maintain his poker face. The memory of that vision is hitting him like a truck, making it impossible to stay calm. He realizes they've missed the last bus, which in any other story would be a major death flag for their platonic status. Queque suggests taking a taxi, but Bai Ying's face is so red he looks like he's about to overheat. He stammers out an agreement, completely losing his cool editor persona in the rain. Queque looks at him like he's lost his mind, wondering why he's acting so guilty and scared all of a sudden. A massive gust of wind tries to take them out, but they manage to hold on to the umbrella. Bai Ying proves he's got that main character energy by clutching an umbrella just in time to block a falling billboard from crushing Queque. Instead of a romantic, "Are you okay?" he just laughs at how she's constantly dodging death by furniture or tripping over her own feet. Internally, Queque is pouting because while he saved her life again, his umbrella is now a total wreck. Since they're both already soaked to the bone, Bai Ying suggests they just make a break for it and hail a cab. Queque gets a sudden burst of competitive spirit and challenges him to a race to the curb. She bolts instantly, determined to make him pay the fare if he loses. Maybe it's the adrenaline of the moment, or the fact that the heavy rain is totally messing with his focus. But he almost forgets how much he used to fear this girl just a month ago. Now, they're acting like a couple of chaotic besties, kicking up puddles and pulling off splash beams in the middle of a green light. In this moment, the laughter feels real, and any hidden tension is buried under the sound of the storm. But as usual, the realization of how close they've become only hits after the fact. Once they're safely in the taxi, the driver immediately clocks their vibe and calls them a pair of lovebirds enjoying the rain. To Queque's absolute shock, Bai Ying doesn't even deny it, coolly agreeing that the trip is very joyful. Queque's brain immediately short-circuits, and she starts fuming over why he'd just admit to something so scandalous. He leans and whispers that taxi drivers are notoriously chatty, so it's easier to just play along for some peace and quiet. Internally, she tries to convince herself that makes sense, but as she stares out the window, the awkwardness is reaching critical levels. They sit in total silence for the rest of the ride, looking like two people who definitely have a lot of things to talk about. They finally arrive back at the school, where the rain is still coming down in buckets. Bai Ying tries to be the ultimate gentleman by offering to walk her to the dorm under his broken umbrella, but she insists she's already soaked anyway. He drops a classic "text me when you're home" line, and she gives him a bright smile, promising not to worry him. As she walks away, he watches her with a look that screams down bad, muttering her name under his breath. Queque feels his gaze on her back and wonders if she's just imagining the intensity. Her heart is doing backflips as she disappears into the night. The rain continues to pour over the empty streets, drenching every passerby, and fogging up the windows of the cars driving past. Bai Ying leans back, whispering a final "see you tomorrow" to the empty air. Time for a little bonus recap of that spicy taxi moment. The driver was definitely enjoying the show, teasing that young couple for being so in love. Bai Ying's poker face was top tier when he agreed with the driver, but as soon as he looked away, his face turned a shade of red that would put a tomato to shame. Back at the school gate, Bai Ying was still being a certified simp, reminding her to text him because the storm was getting worse. He watched her leave with that same pained, longing expression, whispering her name like a secret. Queque could feel the tension lingering in the air long after she left him. His "see you tomorrow" was less of a goodbye and more of a promise. Later that night, Queque is at home in her pajamas, trying to gaslight herself into believing she doesn't have feelings for a super straight guy like him. She furiously dries her hair, convinced that any flirting from his side is just an unintentional accident. Suddenly, she checks her phone and sees 12 missed calls from Bai Ying and a message from her treehole editor. She's confused by the weird questions about breakfast and her new work. She decides she better call him back before he has a total meltdown. When she asks what's wrong, his voice on the other end is dead serious, telling her to just open the door. She freezes, wondering if he's actually outside. Internally, she's screaming no way, but as she reaches for the handle, she finds Bai Ying standing there, looking like a drowned cat but still radiating pure intensity. He's panting, clearly having run all the way there. He immediately starts scolding her for not answering her phone and staying out so late in the storm. She realizes she left her phone in the bathroom like a total klutz and apologizes for the chaos. She ushers him inside before he catches a cold and hands him a towel, wondering how Even got her address. He admits he checked the class records, and she feels a wave of guilt for making him worry so much. But then he drops the bombshell. With the rain this heavy, he's already missed the dormitory curfew. Queque's brain completely short-circuits. Does this mean he has to stay the night? She's panicking, but he plays it cool, saying he'll just find a nearby hotel to sleep in. He starts acting like a worried dad, reminding her to set an alarm for her early class and to bring her homework. As he turns to leave, she grabs his sleeve, her face turning bright red. She finally blurts out that he can just stay at her place for the night. Bai Ying's internal monologue reveals he really did come here just because he was worried. And seeing her safe was a huge relief. But now that he's officially been invited to stay, some very different thoughts are starting to emerge. The tension is officially hitting a boiling point as Bai Ying stands at the door, looking like a total drowned rat after coming back to check on Queque. Queque is immediately hit with a wave of guilt, realizing it's her fault. He's soaked for the second time tonight. As she worries about him getting home, the mood shifts into an awkward silence that could be cut with a butter knife. The realization finally hits that it's way past the dormitory curfew, meaning our boy is officially stranded. Being the gentleman he is, Bai Ying offers to dip and find a nearby hotel to avoid making things weird. But Queque isn't about to let him wander the streets in a storm, so she drops the invitation of a lifetime. He's staying at her place. She justifies it by pointing out there are 0 hotels nearby and she can't have his health on her conscience, though she quickly mentions a friend lives next door just to keep things slightly professional. Her master plan is to just crash with that friend when she gets back from the bar, leaving Bai Ying with the room. Bai Ying, clearly catching feelings, asks if this is going to be a massive inconvenience for her. Internally, she's in full-on no-big-deal mode, thinking, he's just a scriptwriter I haven't paid back yet. What's the worst that could happen? She tells him to hop in the shower before he catches a cold. But then they realize there's a major wardrobe malfunction. He has no dry clothes. Queque mentions she has some extra pajamas that might fit, though she warns him he might not exactly vibe with the style. Bai Ying is so down bad he doesn't even care, giving her a soft smile and agreeing to wear whatever she's got. As soon as the bathroom door clicks shut, Queque's brain starts short-circuiting. Her inner chibi is currently climbing a tree in a state of absolute mental collapse because a man is officially in her house. She tries to rationalize it with her inner conscience, reminding herself that he's just a straight-edged bookworm. Just be yourself, she tells herself, trying to manifest some chill before she loses it. She convinces herself there's nothing to worry about because the guy's head is probably just filled with romance comic tropes anyway. Suddenly, Bai Ying calls out from the shower because the water is freezing cold. Queque is baffled, asking if he even turned on the gas. While he confirms it's still an Arctic blast in there, she tells him to check the switch at the top, basically playing tech support through a door. But instead of staying behind the curtain, Bai Ying opens the door to get a better look. Cue the fan service, because he steps out half naked, showing off a set of abs that definitely weren't in the scriptwriter job description. Queque's eyes nearly pop out of her head as she screams at him to use his towel properly. He's totally unfazed, casually mentioning he is covered while Queque hides her face in pure embarrassment. Internally, she's fuming. Does this guy have 0 sense of personal space? Or does he just think I'm his brother? She tries to fix the water heater while keeping her eyes shielded. But of course, the universe chooses chaos, and they both end up getting blasted by the shower head. There's a long, silent beat as they both stand there, once again completely soaked. Bai Ying actually starts laughing at their terrible luck, realizing they've managed to get drenched twice in one night. They end up in a back-and-forth roasting session about who's more embarrassed, with Bai Ying teasing her for finally being able to look him in the face. It's a night of firsts that neither of them expected. Queque ends up having to blow-dry her hair all over again, feeling like the romantic butterflies from earlier have been replaced by the stress of babysitting. She feels like she's basically coddling a giant toddler who can't even handle a shower without causing a disaster. Another click of the door signals that the shower saga is finally over. Bai Ying announces he's finished and hopes the pajamas will actually fit. Queque looks up, dreading whatever aesthetic she's about to see. The winner is the bunny onesie, and Bai Ying looks absolutely ridiculous but somehow still pulls it off. Queque is dying of laughter, immediately whipping out her phone to catch him in 4K. Because he looks way too cute to ignore. She explains she bought it in a size too big, and tells him he should just keep it since it actually fits his tall frame. While they're hanging out, Bai Ying spots her Nintendo Switch and realizes she's a secret gamer. She admits she bought it on a whim, but hasn't played much because she has no one to play with. He asks about the friend next door, but Queque explains the friend is way too busy and has 0 interest in gaming. Bai Ying gets a glint in his eye, holding up a game cartridge and declaring that he's interested. He drops the want to play together line and the gaming marathon is officially on. They dive into a high-stress cooking game, and it is pure, unadulterated chaos. Between fires in the kitchen and falling into the water, they finally manage to clear the stage, celebrating with a high five. The gaming was so intense that Bai Ying's hands are actually swollen and red from mashing buttons. Despite the injuries, they realize they have incredible rapport, and Queque accidentally blurs out an invitation for him to come over and play again sometime. The second the words leave her mouth, her brain registers what she just said. She immediately starts backtracking, calling it nonsense and telling him not to take it seriously. Internally, she's spiraling, worried that she sounded way too thirsty by inviting him back so soon. But Bai Ying isn't letting it slide, looking down thoughtfully and asking if he can actually take that seriously. Queque is frozen, wondering if she just accidentally moved their relationship to the next level. The air gets thick with tension again as they stare at each other. Breaking the spell, Bai Ying asks if she has any coffee, explaining he needs to pull an all-nighter to organize his script outline. Queque realizes he's not planning on sleeping at all, even though he has a fierce teacher's class in the morning, but he's confident he can just sleep through the lecture. She finds the coffee powder on a high shelf in the kitchen. Even standing on her tiptoes, she can't quite reach the bag. She's about to go grab a stool when she feels a presence right behind her. She shouldn't have looked back, because now she's trapped between the counter and a very tall guy in a bunny suit. Bai Ying reaches over her, his arm brushing past as he grabs the coffee. It's a total Cabadon moment, and Queque can hear her own heartbeat thumping like a drum in her chest as he looks down at her. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a chainsaw as Queque and Bai Ying stand inches apart, sharing the same scent of shower gel. Queque is practically short-circuiting, realizing that Bai Ying smells exactly like her, which is a major red flag for her heart rate. Suddenly, the door bursts open as Autumn Xia charges in, screaming about bagging an SSR-level boyfriend. The two potential lovebirds scramble into a high-speed, "we're just doing homework" pose, trying to act natural while looking absolutely suspicious. Queque introduces a very confused Bai Ying, who's still rocking that ridiculous bunny onesie, while Autumn gives them the ultimate side-eye. Sensing the awkwardness, Autumn decides to play wingwoman and drags Queque away, leaving the poor guy standing there in his fluffy ears. As he watches them leave, Bai Ying is left alone with his thoughts and his bunny tail. Internally, he's definitely losing his cool, dropping the straight guy persona for a second to let out a massive blush. Back in the safety of the bedroom, Autumn isn't buying the act for a second, telling Queque that their performance was faker than a clickbait thumbnail. Queque is instantly defensive, clutching her pillow like a shield and demanding to know what she means by fake. She tries to claim they're just work partners and that a super straight guy like Bai Ying wouldn't have ulterior motives. But Autumn isn't convinced. Autumn points out that this is the first time Queque has ever let a guy stay over, which is a massive deal. She lists off all the times Queque acted like a total fortress, avoiding elevators with guys and refusing to be walked home. Queque goes quiet, her brain working overtime to process this reality check. She realizes that apart from her mysterious tree-hole classmate, Bai Ying is the only one she's actually let into her personal bubble. She wonders why she's so comfortable around him. Maybe it's because his poison-tongued attitude makes him feel safe. Being with him doesn't feel like a chore. Instead, it feels like she's finally found someone she can just be herself with. When Autumn asks if she actually likes him, Queque has a total meltdown, insisting there's no way she could catch feelings for him. But as she lies there, her face is glowing brighter than a neon sign. She stares at her feet, trying to ignore the butterflies in her stomach. Autumn just giggles, seeing right through the denial. She gives Queque a big squeeze, teasing her about experiencing the first stirrings of love. Autumn tells her she can like him with ease, especially since he's way better than the jerk Queque had a crush on back in high school. Queque's expression softens, but the mention of her past brings up some old memories. She hugs her pillow tighter, hoping this time won't end in heartbreak. She thinks back to that guy from her past and silently prays she never has to see him again. The next morning at the university, the cherry blossoms are in full bloom, setting a perfect mood. Queque finds Bai Ying in class and whispers a question about when he actually managed to sneak out of her apartment. He looks a bit sleep-deprived and mentions he accidentally bumped his head on a cabinet on his way out. He turns into a total chibi version of himself, showing off the imaginary bump while Queque worries about his medical bills. She reaches out to pat his head, wanting to check for injuries, but when she actually touches his hair, the vibe shifts instantly, and they lock eyes in a high-tension moment. Bai Ying's gaze is intense enough to make anyone melt. He looks at her with a smirk, asking if she's really an idiot for worrying so much. Queque realizes that Autumn was right, she only lets her guard down like this when she's with him. Their moment is rudely interrupted by their red-haired friend, who wants to know what kind of secrets they're whispering. He's suspicious because Bai Ying didn't even return to the dorm last night, which is a massive red flag for a straight guy. The two of them look like they've been caught in 4K, sweating under the pressure. To change the subject, Queque suggests they all team up for a film analysis paper. They decide to head to the cinema together, though the friend is still complaining about his radishes being stolen. The squad hits up the mall cinema for a night out. After the movie, Queque and the red-haired friend are geeking out over the epic plot twists. But the fun is cut short when the friend realizes he has a student council meeting he needs to attend. He asks Bai Ying to walk Queque home since he's heading in the opposite direction. He waves goodbye, leaving the main couple alone once again. As they ride the escalator, Queque asks if he actually has study questions to discuss. Bai Ying admits he's been thinking about their comic plot, specifically if love at first sight feels too fake for the readers. Queque laughs, reminding him that he was the one who acted like a little princess when he was drunk. They start bickering about their height difference, with Bai Ying teasing her about being a big dwarf. Queque gets salty, blaming the low steps for her lack of height. Meanwhile, the red-haired friend finishes his meeting feeling a bit tipsy from a post-meeting drinking contest. He wonders if Bai Ying actually managed to walk Queque home without any drama. But then he spots something suspicious. Autumn Xia is being harassed by some persistent guy on the street. Autumn is clearly uncomfortable and looking for an exit strategy. The friend steps in with a dark aura, ready to play the hero and stop the bullying. Back at the mall, Queque notices Bai Ying has gone quiet, which is unusual for him. She looks up and sees him watching her with an incredibly gentle expression. Just as she's getting lost in his eyes, her heel clicks on the escalator step. With a loud bang, she loses her balance and heads for a floor date. She ends up sitting on the ground, looking like a confused chibi. Bai Ying immediately kneels down, teasing her about whether she's trying to be a heroine in a romantic drama. He looks absolutely stunning in the mall lights, giving off major male lead energy. Quicky's heart starts beating nonstop, pounding against her ribs. Staring into his eyes, her mind goes completely blank. In that moment, she finally admits the truth to herself. She has really fallen for Bai Ying. After her clumsy fall, Bai Ying doesn't just stand there. He reaches out a hand and asks if she can even stand up. Queque takes it, feeling the spark, as he calls her his little sparrow and notes it's still way too early to end the night. He suggests they head to the beach to catch a sea breeze, looking every bit like a top-tier male lead. Internally, Queque is melting, thinking his voice is some kind of hypnotic riz that she just can't resist. Without a second thought, she gives him a simple sure, and the date is back on. Meanwhile, things are getting heated in the streets as a random harasser tells the red-haired Lin Yitian to stop meddling and scram. Lin Yitian, looking surprisingly serious behind those glasses, claims he's had some training and tells Autumn to get ready for action. He starts a dramatic countdown, and as he hits 2, he grabs Autumn's hand, making her heart skip a beat. But instead of a roundhouse kick, he hits one and absolutely bolts, leaving the harasser shouting "what the heck" as they disappear into the night. Back at the coast, Queque is vibing with the view and the stars, totally impressed by Bai Ying's secret spot. She spots someone selling sparklers and goes full goblin mode, wanting to light up all 20 of them at once. Bai Ying teases that she looks like she's offering incense at a temple, but he admits he hasn't been here all term. When she asks why, he turns on the charm, saying he's been too busy working on their comic to even think about anything else. Queque laughs it off, asking if he's finally enjoying the glorious life of a wage worker drone. As they light the sparklers, the atmosphere shifts into something more meaningful. Bai Ying gets deep, saying that even though making comics is tough, seeing people love his world makes it worth it, just like fireworks shining in the dark. He looks at her with an intense gaze, confirming he's serious about their connection. Queque is internally screaming, wondering if this guy has self-equipped special effects because he's literally glowing. She tries to break the tension by waving her hands around, accusing him of serving up soulful chicken soup like he's in an artsy film. They start bickering like a pair of brothers, with Bai Ying complaining she messed up his hair. But then the mood turns heavy as Queque looks at him, the fireworks reflecting in her eyes. She finally gathers the courage to drop the big question. How do you see me? The silence hangs between them as they stand by the railing. Back in the city, Autumn is catching her breath after their Olympic-level sprint. They're hiding behind some boxes, and the adrenaline is finally wearing off. Autumn realizes her hero is actually just a big bad wolf who runs away with his tail between his legs. Lin Yitian defends himself, pointing out that the harasser was huge and getting caught fighting by the student council would be a massive L for him. They both end up sitting on the ground, totally exhausted from the drama. Autumn sighs, wondering why she always attracts absolute jerks and losers. Lin Yitian is shocked when she reveals this isn't a one-time thing. She counts it up and realizes she's been burned about 26 times. The sheer number leaves Lin Yitian completely speechless. She admits she meets them at clubs and bars, knowing they're trash, but unable to resist a guy with a 10-10 body and main character energy. Lin Yitian asks if she's officially done with her latest boyfriend. Autumn confirms he's an ex now, because who has time for a potential abuser? She looks at Lin Yitian and thinks out loud that maybe a boring guy like him is actually the right move. Lin Yitian's heart does a backflip as he realizes she's actually opening up to him. He starts to say something, his face turning bright red. They look at each other, no longer feeling like strangers in the dark alley. The unknowns of youth are hitting hard for both couples right now. She breaks the silence by pulling out a lipstick to write her name, Lin Queque, on his arm. He's stunned by the coincidence when he reveals his name is Lin Yitian. Apparently, sharing a family surname is the ultimate kismet moment. Back at the beach, Queque is still waiting for her answer. Bai Ying looks down, his expression unreadable as Queque instinctively dodges gaze. He reaches out, but hesitates, the words caught in his throat. The distance between them feels like a mile. Finally, he drops the hammer. We are friends, isn't it? Queque forces a smile, her heart breaking in 4K as she agrees. She tries to play it cool, but the rejection stings like crazy. Later that night, Autumn is absolutely floored when she hears the news. Queque tries to cope, saying she shouldn't have expected a romance from an ironclad straight man. Autumn is ready to throw hands, calling Bai Ying a jerk and comparing him to Queque's high school heartbreak. They both lie in bed, realizing they've both been played for fools by men today. Autumn brags that she already met a cute veteran to replace her eggs. even though it's only been one day. She describes him as a stuttering student council member with glasses, and Queque thinks it sounds pretty amazing. Over at the boys' dorm, Lin Yitan is staring into space, completely down bad after his encounter. He's questioning why he confessed to a stranger and wondering if it was love at first sight. Both he and Bai Ying are standing by the window looking like they've lost their last brain cell. Bai Ying is overthinking everything, wondering if Queque's dodge meant she'd definitely reject him if he pushed further. He's terrified of breaking down the walls around her heart and losing her forever. To him, love is terrifying because if they fail, everything becomes meaningless. The two roommates share a synchronized sigh of pure agony. They're both trapped in their own heads, wondering if they'll only find love when they're 80. Their other roommates think they've both taken the wrong medicine, because they won't stop scratching their heads in frustration. The next day at the university, the sun is out, but the vibes are low. Queque and Bai Ying run into each other and exchange the world's most awkward "good morning." They both have massive dark circles under their eyes from a sleepless night of overthinking. They both lie through their teeth. Queque says she was gaming, and Bai Ying says he was reading romance comics. Internally, they're both screaming that they can't let the other know they were up all night thinking about each other. The awkwardness is so thick you could cut it with a knife. They both laugh about the coincidence of their lack of sleep. Bai Ying decides he's going to play the long game. He has plenty of time ahead. He's willing to wait for her to voluntarily let down her guard. Just when Queque thought her university life was finally looking up, a ghost from her cringy high school past decides to haunt her. This guy was the ultimate red flag, once mocking her in front of everyone by calling her a bumpkin and claiming his flirting was just for fun. He didn't stop there, laughing about how she'd turned red and calling her a deluded, ugly duckling while the poor girl was just trying to exist. Back then, all Queque could do was cry as her heart was shredded by his toxic just for fun games. But in the present, she's blindsided when that same voice calls out her name in the middle of campus. Bai Ying stands his ground as this mystery guy, Song, tries to act like they're old pals. Song plays the "you've gotten so much prettier" card, acting like he didn't once treat her like trash. Internally, Queque is screaming, "Damn this accursed fate," when she finds out they're both in the same art department. Song is hyped to be in visual communication, but Queque looks like she's seen a literal demon. Sensing the awkward energy, Bai Ying hits him with the "we're late for class" excuse and drags her away. Song is left in the dust, annoyed that he didn't get her digits. But he feels like he's seen the blue-haired editor somewhere before. Once they're safe in the lecture hall, Queque is still reeling. Suddenly, her phone pings with a message from her online confidant Treehole, asking what's been happening lately. Little does she know, Treehole is actually the guy sitting right next to her. He's playing it cool, teasing her for not reaching out in a while. Queque realizes it's true. She's been totally on their chat ever since she started hanging out with Bai Ying IRL. Her screen time with Treehole has plummeted. Internally, she realizes her emotional dumping ground has shifted from an anonymous tree to the very real man beside her. She accidentally lets out a PF in class, making Bai Ying look over in confusion. When he asks what's so funny, she just smiles. She tells him that even if he doesn't fully get her, she's just glad they're good friends. Bai Ying's heart takes a massive L at the good friend label. Internally, he's short-circuiting, wondering why she's dropping friend-zone bombs all of a sudden. Meanwhile, on the app, Queque decides it's time to be a good listener for once. She tells Treehole to treat her like a trash can and vent his problems. Treehole drops a massive reveal. He's fallen for a girl in his class. Queque is shook, having totally forgotten that Treehole is actually a guy. Her inner gossip girl is instantly ignited as she demands to know every single detail. Treehole admits the girl is a bit like her, totally phobic of romance. He's stuck in the mud and has no idea how to make a move. Queque, thinking she's a romance mastermind because she draws comics, offers to be his love coach. Bai Ying has to cover his mouth to stop from laughing out loud at the irony. He tells her he's also just happy they are good friends, but his eyes say otherwise. Internally, he's plotting a slow burn victory, thinking that if he baits the hook patiently, the fish will eventually bite. The school bell finally rings, ending the tension for now. Their classmate, Lin Yinan, rushes up with major main character energy, showing off 4 discount tickets to a local amusement park. He wants to go after lunch, but they realize they're one person short for a double date. Queque immediately thinks of her roommate, Autumn, who's been dying for a theme park day. The squad arrives at the park, and the vibes are immaculate. Lin Yinan is introduced to Autumn, and the two childhood friends are reunited in the most awkward way possible. Autumn is basically dying of laughter while Lin is a blushing mess. He tries to apologize for being a weirdo before, but he can barely get the words out. He admits he just needed to sort his feelings out first. He finally confesses that she was his first confession object, which is the most veteran cadre way to say he likes her. Internally, he's screaming at himself for being so cheesy. He's caught in 4K blushing and immediately regrets his life choices. But Autumn thinks the rabbit-eared boy is actually adorable. Queque and Bai Ying are watching from the sidelines like proud parents. They realize the way these two interact is pure shoujo manga gold. They decide to use their friends as reference material for their own comic project. It's the perfect excuse to keep hanging out. Suddenly, Queque gets an emergency rescue text from Treehole. He's at the park with the girl he likes and needs a way to get her attention ASAP. Queque is ready for battle, deciding to use every common tactic from romance comics. Her first tip: Take her to a dark, scary place so she relies on your boyfriend power. But Queque is built different. In the haunted house, she just feels bad for the NPCs working in heavy costumes. Next tactic, the suspension bridge effect. Throw her into a panic on a ride so she develops a sense of dependence. Instead, Bai Ying is the one screaming for his life on the coaster while Queque is having a blast. Final tactic, use the small animal strategy to look caring. This also fails spectacularly when Queque ends up in a literal beef with an alpaca. As the sun sets, Treehole texts her that every single trick was a total fail. He realizes the girl he likes is way tougher to handle than he thought. While waiting for the Ferris wheel, the group is hot and tired. Queque and Lin go to grab ice pops, leaving Autumn and Bai Ying alone. They grab a round of cute cat-shaped popsicles, but Autumn isn't distracted by the snacks. She notices Bai Ying has been gloomy and glued to his phone all day. He tries to lie and blame family stuff, but he's not a very good actor. Autumn sighs, knowing he can lie without blinking an eye. She admits that while Queque thinks he's a good person, she's not so sure she trusts a liar. She looks him dead in the eye and drops the ultimate truth bomb. So, should I call you Bai Ying or should I call you Treehole? Caught in 4K. Bai Ying is completely blindsided now that Autumn has officially connected the dots and exposed his double life as Treehole. He tries to play it cool, asking how she figured it out, while Autumn is internally screaming, because her wild hunch was actually 100% correct. Autumn lays out the facts like a pro detective. Bai Ying's phone activity matches Cookies like a mirror, and he somehow knew her exact dorm number, despite it not being on any public list. Song is left staring at her back, remembering the old Queque with the girl whose eyes used to fill with stars just by being near him. She demands to know exactly how long he plans on hiding his identity from the girl he's pinning for. Bai Ying goes silent for a moment, the weight of the secret finally catching up to him. He admits that he knows how terrified Queque was of the very idea of love, so he's just playing the long game and waiting for the perfect window to come clean. Autumn acknowledges that he's probably a good guy for putting in this much effort, but she warns him that she won't let Queque's life be ruined by another scumbag like her dad or that high school ghost Song Rui. Bai Ying gives her a soft smile, promising that to him, Queque is more important than any label or lover. This earns him a rare moment of genuine approval from the roommate. She tells him to go get her, but leaves him with a final warning. The longer he waits to tell the truth, the worse the fallout is going to be. Back at the group, Queque and Lin Yiting are wondering what took them so long. Queque immediately jumps to Bai Ying's defense, insisting he isn't a bad person and hoping they didn't get into a fight. To break the tension, they grab some color-changing popsicles. Queque is delighted when her tongue turns bright green, while the others end up with strawberry red and sunny orange. As they head toward the next attraction, the crowd suddenly turns into a mosh pit. People are pushing and shoving everywhere, threatening to separate the group. Queque panics and reaches out for a hand to stay steady. Someone grabs her and they end up locked together in the chaos. Once they're safe inside the Ferris wheel cabin, Queque breathes a sigh of relief, thinking she's sitting with Autumn. She looks up and realizes she's actually been holding Bai Ying's hand this whole time. It turns out Autumn was playing Wingwoman of the Year, orchestrating the whole wrong hand confusion to give Bai Ying a massive assist. Queque starts short-circuiting from embarrassment and tries to back away immediately. She apologizes for dragging him into her panic, but Bai Ying hits her with a heavy gaze. He asks if she really hates the idea of sitting with that much. Queque is totally flustered, realizing that if they were actually alone, she wouldn't even know how to breathe. Bai Ying points out the sunset, trying to pivot back to romantic atmosphere. Queque is genuinely amazed by the view, and Bai Ying thinks he's finally nailed the ultimate romance tactic from the comics. He waits for a heartfelt confession, but Queque's artist brain takes over. Instead of a romantic moment, she starts geeking out about how perfect the lighting is for reference material for their comic. Bai Ying is definitely facepalming internally as she forces him into a selfie for work. As the ride continues, their shoulders accidentally brush, making things awkward again. Bai Ying leans in close, and for a second it looks like a kiss is coming, until he tells her that her mascara is so clumpy it looks like fly legs. Internally, Queque fuming. I forgot this guy is a straight shooter with a 0% romance stat. Suddenly, her phone rings with a high-priority message from their editor. Their new series is officially going live in 2 weeks. The romantic tension evaporates as they both start celebrating like crazy. They get so hyped they start shaking the cabin, earning a stern warning from the park staff over the intercom. Meanwhile, in another cabin, Lin Yitin admits he wasn't actually scared of the rides. He just wanted a reason for Autumn to hold him. He promises to learn to like whatever she likes, even the nightclub scene. Autumn is impressed by his straightforwardness and finally agrees to go on a real date with him. A few days later, back at the university, life seems to be looking up, but the peace is shattered when a new transfer student arrives, and the girls are already simping over his handsome looks. Queque is blindsided when the guy walks right up to her and calls her Little Sparrow. It's Song, her high school bully, and he's clearly here to reclaim his favorite target. Bai Ying watches the interaction from the window, sensing the massive death flags. The drama is reaching a boiling point as we dive into the past, where the distance between the leads felt like an unbridgeable ocean. Bai Ying spent years watching from the sidelines as Queque sought shelter in a fake haven, unable to step in and save her from the lies. But the script is flipping now, because the bully who broke her spirit is back and looking for trouble. It's time for the running to stop and the real fight to begin. Bai Ying is finally done hiding behind his excuses. He's ready to drop the mask and face her with his true identity, no matter how messy it gets. No more playing safe, it's time to show his real cards. Back in the classroom, the vibes are absolutely rancid as Bai Ying stands as a human shield between Queque and her nightmare. Song, the king of of audacity, just smirks and asks about the other guy from their last encounter, clearly trying to mark his territory. He's acting like he's already the main character of this story. Song drops a massive reality check, claiming Bai Ying and Queque are just classmates while shooting a look that says he's ready to throw hands. Before a brawl can break out, the teacher storms in, screaming at everyone to get back to their seats before their grades catch a stray. He announces a high-stakes social survey project due next week, and failing means an automatic F in the course. While casually digging for gold in his ear, the teacher drops the worst news of the semester. Groups will be decided strictly by student ID sequence, leaving zero room for escape. Queque is absolutely blindsided when she realizes fate is a total troll, pairing her up with her literal high school tormentor. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, the situation is just as chaotic. Bai Ying is short-circuiting with rage, internally fuming. How could she end up next to that scumbag student number? Song immediately starts his reformed nice guy routine, offering to buy Queque water because it's hot out. Queque isn't buying what he's selling, hitting him with a first blood rejection by showing off her own drink. He tries to play the umbrella hero next, but she lands a double kill by revealing she's already layered up on sunscreen. When he goes for the triple kill with a dinner invitation, Queque shuts him down instantly, claiming she's already got plans with friends. Song is visibly sweating now, realizing his old manipulation tactics are hitting a brick wall. He tries to play the nostalgia card, acting like he's impressed by how much she's changed. Queque looks him dead in the eye, internally scoffing. After all these years, you're still the same fake piece of work. She asks him point blank if he's even tired of playing these exhausting games. Song is caught in 4K, looking genuinely rattled for a split second. He tries to laugh it off, claiming he's just super dedicated to the end-of-course project. He pushes his luck by reaching out for a head pat, thanking her for her concern. He's desperately trying to recreate the power dynamic from years ago when she was still under his thumb, but Queque dodges the touch like a pro, leaving him looking like a clown. She doesn't let the awkwardness linger for even a second. Her expression hardens as she prepares to set some ground rules. Queque takes full command of the situation, reminding him that she's the group leader and he needs to start acting like a subordinate. Internally, she's done being the bird in a cage that he can just manipulate whenever he feels like it. She turns her back and walks away with her head held high, leaving the bully standing in the dust. Song is left staring at her back, remembering the old Queque, the girl whose eyes used to fill with stars just by being near him. He reaches out, unable to handle the fact that he's lost his grip on her. He grabs her arm, demanding to know why she's giving him such a cold and unfamiliar look. Queque panics, struggling to break free from his grasp as she screams for him to let go. In the struggle, things go south fast as they both lose their footing. A massive bang echoes through the area as the confrontation turns into a literal accident. Cut to the infirmary where Song is playing the martyr with a bandaged arm, claiming it's just a minor scratch and no big deal. Queque is drowning in guilt, apologizing a million times for the accident. When a food vendor passes by, Song tries to order for both of them, but Queque stops him in his tracks. Song looks at her, totally stunned by her intervention. She reminds him that he's allergic to eggs, so the omelet rice is a one-way ticket to the ER. He's genuinely shocked that she still remembers such a trivial detail after all this time. Queque snacks that allergies are never trivial. Mentioning her mango allergy makes her swell up like a roasted piglet. Song gets a dark, nostalgic look in his eyes, claiming that being with her feels like no time has passed at all. He tries to act like he's been holding on to her every word since high school. He keeps up the charming act while eating his pork chop rice. But Queque's eyes tell a different story as the trauma of the past starts to resurface. She remembers the real Song, the hypocrite who mocked her feelings and called her a deluded, ugly girl to her face. Back in the present, Song asks what's wrong, sensing that his nice guy mask is slipping. Queque stands up to get him some water, her face becoming a mask of pure, cold professionalism. Song tries to grab her arm again, but quickly releases her, the tension in the room reaching a breaking point. He tries to play it off as a reflex, telling her not to get him hot water. As she walks away, Song realizes he's in deep trouble, because Queque is the only person who truly knows his secrets, and she's no longer his to control. Just as the hospital drama reaches a boiling point, a loudmouthed friend bursts into the room asking who was the one to catch Song lacking. Queque awkward chuckles, explaining that she's the one responsible for his current state. Song, playing the ultimate nice gay for the audience, tells her to head home since it's getting late, acting like he's not a total snake. As the door finally clicks shut, the masks come off. The friend immediately recognizes Queque as the pink fish Song used to mess with back in training school, and he's shocked she grew up to be such a baddie. Song's turns icy as he tells his buddy to watch his mouth before he regrets it. The friend is shook, wondering if the legendary pawn master is actually catching real feelings this time. Song doesn't answer, but his intense silence says everything we need to know. He's still obsessing over the blue-haired guy, Bai Ying, who came out of nowhere to ruin his perfect manipulation game. The friend hears the name and starts short-circuiting because it sounds way too familiar. Suddenly, it clicks. He remembers a Bai Ying from his high school days, but the version he knew was a total ghost, gloomy, unsociable, and someone everyone was terrified to even look at. Song demands to see a graduation photo to confirm if they're dealing with the same person. The friend promises to dig it up back home while Song stares out the window, certain he's seen that face somewhere before. Back at the dorms, Autumn is absolutely losing it when she hears that the jerk transferred classes just to stalk Queque. She warns Queque that the guy is a master of gaslighting and needs to be deleted from her life immediately. Autumn suspects this isn't just a coincidence. She thinks Song purposefully hunted her down. Queque tries to be practical, thinking surely a guy with such a massive dating pool wouldn't go to such creepy lengths for her. Internally, she realized if he actually did that, he's a certified weirdo. Somewhere else, Bai Ying feels a random chill as if someone is talking trash behind his back. Autumn insists that the only move now is to stay as far away from the snake as possible. But since they're in the same class and have mandatory trips coming up, escaping his clutches is going to be a mission. Queque is basically a puddle of stress at this point, clinging to Autumn for emotional support. Autumn tells her to dry those tears because she's officially coming up with a plan. A devious light bulb goes off in her head. The solution? Queque needs to get into a relationship. If she's taken, even a persistent predator like Song might actually back off. Autumn leans in with a smirk, suggesting that she should find someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. Not only would it ward off Song's harassment, but it could also serve as inspiration for her romance manga. And obviously the perfect candidate is Bai Ying. Queque freezes, her mind racing at the thought of actually dating the stoic editor. She starts imagining him being a total buzzkill, calling her gross for having sweaty hands, or complaining that her hair is too greasy during a hug, or even calling her ugly without makeup before ditching her. Internally, she screamed, "I'd rather die than date that terrifying man." Meanwhile, Bai Ying is out here catching a cold from all the cosmic shade being thrown his way. Night falls on the campus and Song is waiting for the tea to drop. He gets out of the shower and sees his phone blowing up with notifications. His friend finally found the legendary graduation photo after digging through his archives. He sends over the proof of who Bai Ying used to be. Song stares at the screen, his eyes widening as he realizes the truth. The friend describes the kid as an unfriendly loner with bangs so long you couldn't even see his eyes. Song looks at the photo of a gloomy, purple-haired boy and realizes the guy he's up against used to be a total loser. Even the characters are breaking the fourth wall, roasting the author for keeping Bai Ying off screen for 2 whole episodes. But don't worry, the glow-up is about to be legendary. The next day, Bai Ying shows up looking like he walked straight off a runway. He's rocking a brand new style, but internally, Queque is roasting him, thinking he looks like a nerd who secretly borrowed his cool roommate's clothes. She stares at him, trying to process the sudden visual update. She mentions that the company wants them to fly out for a party this weekend, and invites him along to talk shop. Bai Ying plays it cool, but he's definitely feeling the vibe. Queque is just happy to treat it like a professional learning trip since her draft is finally done. Bai Ying, however, is already daydreaming about some just the two of us quality time. He's imagining the ultimate romantic tropes. Maybe they'll get to the hotel and find there's only one single room left. Or better yet, get trapped in a cave during a storm or have a drunken heart-to-heart. His fantasies are immediately nuked when the class rep, Lin Yitian, jumps in and begs to join the trip. Queque, being way too nice, agrees that it'll be more fun with 4 people. She even suggests bringing Autumn and Xia along to make it a group outing. Lin Yitian is over the moon, thinking this is a honeymoon in disguise, while Bai Ying's head is literally steaming with rage. Internally, Bai Ying fumed, "My romantic plans just got gate crashed by 2 massive third wheels." As they prepare to head out, the school bell rings and Song retries to corner Queque one last time. He pulls the classic, "Hey girl, let's grab lunch" move, offering her any cuisine she wants. Queque doesn't even blink, telling him she's already got plans with Bai Ying. Song, persistent as a fly, asks about dinner instead. Queque sighs, deciding it's time to drop the politeness and be 100% real. She tells him straight up that taking care of him at the hospital was just a favor to settle a debt, nothing more. She looks him in the eye and tells him that keeping up this fake, nice guy act must be exhausting for him. She reveals that she knows exactly what he's really like and tells him there's no need to target her anymore. Song is blindsided, trying to play dumb as she turns to walk away. He finally drops the mask, clicking his tongue in annoyance and asking if she really knows who Bai Ying is. He tries to poison her mind, claiming Bai Ying is a cunning liar with a dark past. He hints that during high school and training camp, Bai Ying was hiding something serious. Queque stops and looks back, stating firmly that Bai Ying is her friend. She tells him that even if Bai Ying has secrets, she'll wait until the day he chooses to tell her himself. Song is left in the dust as Queque realizes she needs to actually consider the fake dating proposal to get rid of this pest. The squad finally hits the airport, ready for their big trip. Everyone's got a different agenda. The boys want romance, Autumn wants to go wild, and Queque just wants to network. They're officially setting off for the next arc. Meanwhile, back at the dorm, Bai Ying is still trying to perfect his bad boy look just to make sure he keeps Queque's attention. The business trip arc is finally in full swing, and the squad pulls up to a hotel so massive it makes their tuition look like pocket change. Autumn isn't letting anyone relax though, immediately cornering Queque and demanding she gear up in a high-tier gown for the upcoming corporate party. Internally, Queque was screaming, "Is this a business trip or a princess makeover?" as Autumn aggressively forced the fashion glow-up. Next door, the guys are catching all the chaotic energy through the walls, wondering if a wrestling match broke out. Lin Yitian realizes the duo has been low-key grinding on their comic career behind everyone's back, which is a total pro-gamer move. Once the guys are suited up, they head over to knock on room 888 to collect the girls. There's a brief moment of silence as everyone prepares for the big reveal. When Queque finally steps out, she's serving major main character energy in a shimmering pink dress that would make any influencer jealous. The group is absolutely vibing, with Autumn and Lin Yitian giving the look a solid 10 out of 10. Even Bai Ying has to admit that Queque looks like a literal doll, though he tries to keep his cool. They arrive at the venue, which is basically a convention for the elite, featuring legendary authors and screenwriters that usually only exist as names on a screen. Queque is basically short-circuiting from being in the same room as her idols when Rimu, their editor-in-charge, swoops in to introduce herself. Queque goes full fangirl mode, thanking Rimu for all her help, but the editor is more interested in the ship potential between her and Bai Ying. Queque's social battery immediately drains as she tries to explain they're just classmates, not a power couple. Rimu pivots to praising Bai Ying's script, noting that his work has a depth that usually only comes from someone who's seen some real stuff. Bai Ying plays it humble, claiming he's just a student of the game who listens to his editor. But then, Rimu drops a massive truth bomb, asking if the two of them have ever actually been in love. She gets brutally honest, telling Queque that her art is like a lavishly decorated robot. It looks pretty, but it's missing that soul and realism that only real-life experience can provide. Rimu's parting advice is basically go touch grass and fall in love if they want their next work to be a certified banger. Distraught by the critique, Queque decides the only solution is to get absolutely wasted with the League of Sorrowful Authors. She spends the night listening to veteran creators vent about toxic comments, back-breaking deadlines, and the struggle of explaining their brotherly love stories to their parents. Eventually, Bai Ying tracks her down in the middle of the street. A very drunk Queque warns him not to even think about a Princess Carrie because her pride is the only thing she has left. She then proceeds to slap him chibi style and demands that he join her in the trenches of intoxication. In her drunken haze, she reaches out and cups his face, looking into his eyes with zero filter. She hits him with a smile so bright it could power the whole city, leaving Bai Ying completely blindsided. Things get dangerously close to a K-drama confession as they lean in, the tension high enough to snap a guitar string. But instead of a kiss, Queque just giggles about how he finally smells like alcohol too, effectively ruining the mood. She then sprints off into the night, shouting her love for the world and China, leaving a very confused and very red-faced Bai Ying in the dust. Bai Ying stands there touching his cheek, realize he's been caught in 4K by his own feelings. The next morning, Queque wakes up feeling like she was hit by a truck. She slowly opens her eyes only to realize she's sharing a bed with a very much asleep Bai Ying. Her brain does a quick factory reset as she realizes she's in a hotel room with a dude. Then she notices the ultimate death flag. Her clothes have been changed. A scream that could wake the dead echoes through the entire hotel complex. Queque immediately goes on the defensive, clutching a pillow and accusing Bai Ying of being a straight-up predator. She tries to make a break for the door, convinced her life is over. Internally, she lamented, I thought he was one of the good ones, but he's just another opportunist. Bai Ying tries to explain, but she's too busy calling him a pervert to listen to logic. Finally, he has to pull a classic Cabidan move, pinning her against the wall to force her to shut up for 2 seconds. He tells her to calm down and actually listen to the how it started vs. how it's going of last night. Flashback time. Queque was so drunk she collapsed on the street, and Bai Ying had to carry her back like a sack of potatoes. Once he got her into the room, she didn't just sleep it off. She threw up all over him, complained about the bed being too hard, and then started stripping because she felt like a hot onion. Bai Ying had to literally close his eyes and throw clothes at her to keep things PG while helping her change. After she finished cussing him out and kicking him, she finally passed out, forcing him to sleep on the sofa. But in the middle of the night, he woke up from a nightmare only to find a new problem. Chibi Queque had crawled into his bed, clinging to him like a koala and babbling about how he was all her money. Back in the present, Bai Ying finishes his explanation while Queque stares at him in horror. Internally, she was dying of cringe, realizing she was the one being the pervert, while he was just trying to survive. She tries to play it off like he's capping and making up the whole story. That's when Bai Ying pulls out the receipts. Video footage of her Onion Godzilla performance, where she's literally drop-kicking him in her sleep. Queque immediately does a 180, bowing so low her forehead hits the floor and begging for mercy. Bai Ying plays it cool, acting like it's not a big deal while he internally enjoys the leverage. Desperate to make amends, Queque promises to do literally anything he asks. Bai Ying gets that suspicious, all according to plan look in his eyes. He leans in and asks, anything at all? Queque realizes she might have just signed a contract with the devil. But wait, there's an Easter egg for the real main story. It turns out Queque was surprisingly strong when she was drunk, and Bai Ying actually couldn't break free from her hug. He spent the night looking at her, his heart doing backflips while she slept peacefully. Every time he tried to move, she'd just grab him tighter or cover his eyes. Eventually, he sighed and decided to just let it happen. He wrapped his arms around her, deciding to enjoy the rare moment of closeness. He just wanted to stay like that for a bit longer, soaking in the quiet. They spent the rest of the night in a cozy chibi cuddle puddle. Bai Ying didn't actually fall asleep until 8 a.m., right before Queque woke up and chose violence. The morning after tension is an all-time high as Bai Ying looks Queque dead in the eye and asks for one thing: trust. He promises he'd never do anything to actually hurt her, hoping they can avoid any more messy misunderstandings. Queque is basically short-circuiting as she remembers how she completely misread the situation when she woke up in his bed. Seeing her internal struggle, Bai Ying keeps it cool with a simple okay. Relieved that she isn't being cancelled for her drunken behavior, Queque officially promises to trust him from now on. She even offers a favor for a favor, asking if there's anything practical she can do to pay him back for taking care of her. Bai Ying gives her a look that says he's definitely got something in mind. He plays hard to get, telling her he'll need some time to think about what he wants from her. Suddenly, the door opens and the rest of the squad walks in looking like they just crawled out of a blender. Queque immediately starts the interrogation, demanding to know where Autumn Xia and the class rep disappeared to last night. Both of them are rocking massive dark circles under their eyes, looking like they haven't seen a bed in 48 hours. They look completely blindsided by the question, exchange a panicked glance, and start blushing harder than a sunset. Their excuse? They claim they were just playing games all night long. Queque isn't buying it for a second, fuming because Autumn always rejects her game invites, but apparently has no problem pulling an all-nighter with the class rep. She scoffs at their disheveled state, wondering how they expect to go out in public looking that wrecked. The whole group is basically marinated in a lack of sleep and yesterday's clothes. It's confirmed. Not a single person in this room has touched a shower since the party started. Despite the grime, the crew hits the streets for some sightseeing. They slap on matching sunglasses to hide their eyes, looking less like a K-pop group and more like rebellious teenagers who just escaped from a rural village. They stop at a photo booth to capture the chaos. The resulting picture is peak awkwardness, with everyone trying to look cute while secretly dying inside. The rest of the day is a blur of street food and petting random dogs, finally acting like normal tourists. As night falls, the group realizes their flight is tomorrow, which also happens to be the big launch day for their new work. Bai Ying suddenly switches into professional mode, telling the others he needs to discuss some work matters with Queque alone. Autumn, sensing the heavy romantic flags, immediately pulls the wingwoman card and drags the class rep away so the main couple can have some privacy. The class rep is completely lost, asking Autumn if she actually has something to discuss with him. Internally, Autumn is screaming about how he's a total idiot who can't read the atmosphere to save his life. She admits the work talk was just a total excuse to get them alone. But the class rep has his own agenda, reminding her that she promised to take him somewhere nice after their Ferris wheel ride. He grabs her hand and tells her to trust him, leading her away into the night. Autumn is stunned by his sudden boldness. She's left speechless as the straight man of the group finally makes a move. Back with the main duo, the air is thick with will they won't they energy. Bai Ying asks Queque how she's liking her rental apartment. He casually suggests that since they work together so much, it might be more convenient if they just shared a space. Queque realizes this is her chance to finally fix her art's lack of emotional depth. She decides to stop playing it safe and just go for it. She brings up the favor she owes him from this morning. Internally, she's hyping herself up, thinking it's now or never. She blurts out the wildest proposal ever. Do you want to try a mock relationship with me? Bai Ying is absolutely floored, his brain probably rebooting in real time. He looks at her, wondering if this is a prank or if she's actually down bad for him. Queque quickly clarifies that it's strictly for research, to make their comic better. Bai Ying covers his face to hide his blush, clearly affected by the idea of being her fake boyfriend. He agrees, suggesting they should start with the basics, holding hands. Quicky's eyes go wide as she realizes this is actually happening. She stares at his hand, feeling the weight of the moment. They lock fingers under the city lights, making the simulation official. Bai Ying leans in and asks if she feels any different now that they're dating. They walk through the crowd, looking like a real couple to anyone passing by. Bai Ying can't help but let genuine smile slip. He's definitely enjoying this work assignment way too much. He softly tells her that he feels exactly the same way she does. Meanwhile, the class rep's nice place turns out to be a total dud. He leads Autumn to a dark, creepy bridge that looks like the start of a horror movie. He's frantically checking his phone, crying that the internet promised stars, but all they got was a cold breeze. He notices Autumn is shivering and panics. He offers to give her his jacket, even though it's one of those fake two-piece shirts and he'd basically be half naked. Autumn tells him to keep his clothes on, complaining that the only thing romantic about this place is the sheer amount of mosquitoes. The class rep leans in close, his face inches from hers. He tells her not to move, and for a second, it looks like a K-drama kiss is coming. Instead, he brutally slaps a mosquito right on her cheek. He immediately starts apologizing, worried he hurt her with his deadly swat. Autumn just sighs, realizing he's the ultimate straight man who has zero riz. An awkward silence falls over them as they stand in the dark. He feels like a total failure for ruining the surprise. But Autumn actually finds his clumsiness endearing. She tells him she doesn't need a fancy surprise, because being with a real him is interesting enough. As the wind picks up again, she takes the initiative and grabs his hand. She admits it's much warmer this way, effectively ending his panic. She gives him a look that says she might actually like this clueless guy. Blushes hard, his heart clearly doing backflips. They finally share a real, soft moment as they hold hands properly. With the mood finally fixed, they decide to head back to the hotel together. Back on the main route, Queque and Bai Ying are still walking hand in hand, but the reality of their simulation is setting in. Bai Ying suggests they should make a checklist of romantic tropes from their comic to experience in real life for better art. Queque is all for it, thinking this is the ultimate hack for her career. Bai Ying promises he won't go as far as the last step for the sake of work. Queque assumes the last step is just a kiss, but Bai Ying's blushing face suggests he's thinking of something much more adult. Realizing he's being a total pervert in his head, Queque screams and threatens to call the police on her new fake boyfriend. The countdown to the next chapter drop is officially on, and the hype is real. Lin Yitian Yitian is locked in, eyes glued to the screen as the seconds tick away. Autumn is right there with him, barely breathing as she waits to hit that button. Queque is sweating bullets, feeling the pressure of the release. Success strikes as she manages to snag the very first like and the top spot in the comments section. She's absolutely beaming, riding the high of a successful upload. Bai Ying notices her dazed expression and asks why she looks so confused. He admits that seeing their names on the trending page gives him a weird sense of pride he didn't expect. He tells her that creating something from scratch is a massive achievement. Queque gives him a soft smile, calling him Teacher Bai Ying as they share a rare, wholesome moment. Of course, Autumn immediately sniffs out the romantic tension and asks what happened last night. Queque drops the bombshell. They are officially a pretend couple for comic research. Autumn goes into full fangirl mode, screaming that she's been revived by this news. Lin Yitian asks if they're gonna go public in class, but Queque says it's strictly to keep Songrui at bay. Meanwhile, Lin Yitian is low-key wondering why the comic's main leads look suspiciously like him and Autumn. During the flight back, Bai Ying wonders if this fake dating plan will actually improve their work or just make things messy. Queque ends up passing out mid-flight, looking surprisingly peaceful. Bai Ying watches her sleep, his stoic mask finally cracking. He lets her lean on his shoulder, thinking about how this tiny bit of real closeness makes him happier than any dream. Back at the school, the group is back to the daily grind. Songrui tries to slide back into Queque's life with a smooth good morning and an invite to walk to class. Queque stares him down, knowing it's time to play her trump card. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and grabs hers firmly. Bai Ying steps into the frame, towering over them, and asks Songrui if he has business with his girl. Songrui is caught in 4K, looking absolutely blindsided by the interruption. Bai Ying doesn't stutter, declaring right then and there that they are dating. Queque doesn't miss a beat, confirming the relationship with a cold yes. Songrui is left speechless, his brain probably short-circuiting. He closes his eyes, trying to maintain his nice gay facade. He offers a forced congratulation and walks away, taking the massive L gracefully. Queque is shocked that he actually gave up without a fight this time. Internally, she's doing a victory lap because the fake dating strategy actually worked. However, she realizes Bai Ying is still holding her hand like his life depends on it. She tries to tell him to keep his distance, but he's not budging. He argues that since they're pursuing reality for the comic, they have to commit to the bit fully. He reminds her that Songrui is a professional schemer who's always troubled her. Bai Ying then asks if there's anything else she's been hiding from him. Queque goes silent, the tension in the hallway thickening. He warns her that the guy is cunning and probably spreading lies behind her back. As they walk, Queque realizes they're both from the same city. She asks him point blank if it's possible they've met before. The atmosphere shifts instantly as they stand in the middle of the corridor. Bai Ying keeps his cool, claiming he's definitely never seen her before. She pushes further, asking which training school he attended during his intensive art days. He brushes it off as the past and claims he can't remember. Internally, Queque knows he's gatekeeping a secret. She wonders what could possibly make him go to such lengths to hide his high school history. Later, as the rain starts to fall outside the school, the mood gets heavy. They reminisce about watching the rain together when they first started talking. Bai Ying suddenly tells her to reach out and catch the rain. Queque is confused, asking what kind of mischief he's planning now. He explains that the next episode needs a heavy interaction between the leads, and they need to simulate it. He tells her that experiencing it without a script will help her empathize with the characters more. She hesitantly reaches her hand out into the downpour. In the simulation, she feels the cold rain while her heart races at the thought of the male lead. Suddenly, Bai Ying leans in and whispers, "I'm here," right in her ear, catching her completely off guard. He pulls back and casually asks how the scene felt. Queque immediately calls it super greasy and cringe, while Bai Ying is offended because he spent ages thinking of that move. Their moment is ruined when Lin Yitian shows up with an umbrella, roasting them for looking like Thunder God and Lightning Mother. Bai Ying decides to choose violence and sends a voice message to Autumn, exposing Lin Yitian's stinky sleep farts. Lin Yitian loses it and chases him back to the dorms in a fit of rage. Left alone, Queque looks at her hand, wondering if she can actually handle this pretend game. Her face is beet red, and it's getting harder to hide how she actually feels. Meanwhile, Songrui is seen at home, spilling his drink and looking like a mess. His roommate tries to help him treat a burn with toothpaste while Songrui stares off into space. He's clearly not over the rejection, as nice guy mask is slipping. The next morning, the sun is shining bright over the city. Queque is trying to rot in bed since she has no morning classes. Autumn isn't having it and drags her out of bed, demanding she get washed up immediately. She's literally forced brushing Queque's teeth to speed things up. Queque is confused why Autumn is so dressed up and energetic this early. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out from the doorway. Queque's eyes go out as she realizes who it is. Bai Ying and Lin Yitian are standing there with their luggage, announcing that they're moving in right next door. The author is currently dying under a mountain of deadlines, so here's a beauty picking her nose to compensate. Don't leave yet and make sure to like and subscribe for more. The squad is officially leveling up as they celebrate moving into the same apartment building. While the drinks are flowing, Bai Ying drops a bombshell, admitting he would have called the whole move off if Queque felt even slightly uncomfortable. Seeing the tension, everyone around them is basically screaming, "Why are you two still pretend dating when the vibes are this real?" Autumn Xia decides to play the ultimate wingman, pushing Queque toward Bai Ying so they can work on their drafts. In reality, she's just clearing the floor so she can have some quality one-on-one time with the class rep. Lin Yitian sees right through the act, but he's definitely not complaining. Internally, Autumn cheered. Finally, some peace and quiet with my man. The mood gets serious when Lin Yidian asks why she'd blow her limited allowance on a place this expensive. He gets closer, basically asking if he's the reason she's going broke for this apartment. He admits that even though they go to different schools, he wants to see every side of her, not just the weekend version. He wants to be the first person she thinks of whenever she's in trouble, calling himself greedy for attention. He leaves Autumn completely speechless and blushing. She can't help but let out a soft smile at his honesty. She steps toward him, closing the distance. Dropping all the games, she admits the feeling is entirely mutual. Back at the apartment, Queque tries to send Bai Ying off to do some actual work. But then she gets a bright idea, suggesting the hallway is the perfect atmospheric spot to method act a scene for their comic. Bai Ying is skeptical, wondering what kind of scene needs a dark hallway. She explains the prompt. The female lead discovers the male lead's dark secret, and things get intense. She sets the stage, describing how the hero should step closer and use his fierce gaze to threaten her. Bai Ying doesn't hesitate, leaning in until he's inches from her face, whispering that she's dead if she speaks a single word. Queque is instantly blindsided by his ruse, her heart doing backflips. He immediately breaks character to tease her, noting that their comic's heroine wouldn't be standing there blushing like a tomato. Internally, she panicked. Don't fall for these fake hormones, Queque. It's just for the plot. Looking into his eyes, she realizes she needs to regain control. Suddenly, she flips the script, grabbing his collar and pinning him against the wall with a "you've got some nerve" energy. She tells him that if anyone's dead meat, it's him. Bai Ying actually laughs, genuinely impressed that she found her backbone. He's so inspired that he heads downstairs to rewrite the entire episode based on their little session. They exchange a casual goodbye, but the second the doors close, the cool act evaporates. They both lean against their respective doors, hearts racing. Both of them are internally screaming about how they barely survived that encounter. The next morning, Queque is barely awake when she opens her door. She's greeted by a very punctual Bai Ying, who's already geared up for school. She's caught in 4K looking like a total mess. Internally, she wailed. He's seeing me barefaced and drooling. My reputation is cooked. He asks to walk to school together, but she panics and tells him to go ahead because she's way too slow. Once the hallway is quiet, she thinks he's finally left. Checking her phone, she realizes she's actually running late because she stayed up late chatting with her online confidant Tree Hole. She goes into a high-speed makeup montage, scrubbing away the morning puffiness. She steps out 30 minutes later, feeling like a brand new woman. Too bad Bai Ying was standing there with a stopwatch the entire time. He mocks her morning comedy show, admitting he only stayed because he knew she'd be entertaining. As they walk, they bicker about setting up a secret knock for his next visit, proving their fake relationship is getting more domestic by the second. Meanwhile, the mood at the local bar is total trash. Songrui is moping in the corner, looking absolutely miserable. His friends aren't letting him off easy, asking if he's actually caught feelings for Queque. They remind him of the training camp days when he bragged that Queque was just a bit of fun, because she was funny to be around. A flashback reveals a younger Songrui and Queque, but the look on his face back then wasn't as cold as his words. He clearly said things he's regretting now. His fist clenches as the guilt finally starts to sink in. He storms into a downpour, unable to handle the truth. Back at the bar, the remaining friends lose a game of truth or dare. They decide to post the third photo from their phone, which happens to be from a training session years ago. They scroll back to February 2019. The photo is a total game changer. It shows Bai Ying and Queque together years ago, and they look way more comfortable than strangers should. In the present, Queque is walking through the rain, sighing about the endless gloom. Suddenly, a drenched Songrui appears out of nowhere. He looks absolutely wrecked and tells her he has something he needs to say. Queque finds Songrui standing outside in the pouring rain, looking like he's auditioning for a low-budget K-drama. He finally drops the pride and starts apologizing for being a total jerk in the past. Songrui straight up admits he was a massive asshole during their younger days and regrets his actions. He begs for forgiveness, hoping she'll look his way again, but Queque isn't falling for the sad boy act. She stares him down, her expression showing zero chills as she addresses him. Internally, she scoffed. Does he think a rainy background makes this okay? She drops some deep wisdom, reminding him that even if a wound heals, the scars are permanent no matter how many band-aids he tries to slap on. She admits she used to have feelings for him, but now it's just ancient history and he's just projecting his own self-affection. She gives him a polite bow, thanking him for the genuine heartbeat he once gave her before officially closing that chapter for good. Songrui is left soaking wet and rejected while bystanders wonder if they just witnessed a movie tier breakup. Enter the real MVP, Bai Ying, who tells Songrui to stop playing the tragic hero and get inside before he spreads germs to the whole class. Songrui is absolutely molding, asking why it had to be Bai Ying. He's furious that he missed the stars in her eyes and that Bai Ying was the one to notice them first. Bai Ying doesn't flinch, revealing his gaze hasn't left her since that winter 3 years ago and that she's the one who truly healed him. He grabs Songrui by the collar, warning the loser not to push his luck, while Songrui mocks him for being a hopelessly romantic dark horse prince. Songrui tries to play his last card, threatening to expose Bai Ying's secret identity to Queque. Bai Ying just smirks, knowing Queque probably won't even give the guy a chance to speak. He remembers Queque saying she only trusts trust what she sees with her own eyes when it comes to him. Song-ri finally accepts the L, laughing at how thoroughly he's been defeated in this game of love. Back at home, Chibi Queque is aggressively drying her hair, internally screaming about how pointless his late apology was. She is absolutely fuming over the audacity of him saying hurtful things behind her back for so long. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and she panics when she realizes it's Bai Ying while she's looking like a total mess. While rushing, her strawberry earring gets snagged and causes a sharp pain. She lets out a blood-curdling scream, causing Bai Ying to charge into the apartment to see what's wrong. Bai Ying finds her tangled up and starts helping her with the earring while she's still wrapped in a towel. He's totally clueless about how girl accessories work, so she has to explain how to twist the plastic back to release it. Their faces get dangerously close, and Queque starts short-circuiting over the proximity. Bai Ying lets out a low chuckle, pretending he's struggling with the earring just to stay close a bit longer. The romantic tension is through the roof as their heartbeats start racing in sync. He finally unhooks it with a smug grin, clearly enjoying the fact that he got it. Queque tries to shoo him away, but Bai Ying reminds her she literally invited him over for a gaming session. Internally, she facepalmed. I can't believe my brain just deleted that memo. Bai Ying suggests they put their simulated dating on hold during summer break, since they'll be separated for a while anyway. Queque is hit with mixed feelings, happy to stop hiding her true self, but disappointed he's not crossing the line. Bai Ying asks her how much longer she plans on staying in that pose hiding under the towel. She insists she looks like a gremlin without makeup, but Bai Ying wants to see for himself. She warns him he'll be terrified by her bare face, but he's not backing down. He gently pulls the towel back, telling her they should be honest and show their true selves since they're in a relationship. He blushes and tries to play it cool, saying she looks exactly the same as usual. Queque is low-key thrilled that he thinks her bare face is actually cute. Bai Ying immediately ruins the vibe by roasting her makeup skills, leading to a petty argument about who's a bigger dummy in cosmetics class. Fast forward through the summer, and the golden leaves of autumn signal the start of sophomore year. The squad reunites on campus, with one friend looking like a literal corporate slave dog after a summer of grinding. Some random guy tries to move in on Queque with a cringy pickup line about doors to happiness. She shuts him down with zero hesitation, proving she's the final boss of rejecting simps. The guy retreats in shame while Bai Ying stands there looking sleepy and totally unbothered. Her friends are impressed by how blunt she is, realizing Bai Ying has nothing to worry about. They mention that Song-ri switched tracks and won't be in their classes anymore, which is a massive relief. Bai Ying is still sweating over his secret identity, but Queque distracts him with the news that they finally got paid for their comic chapters. Bai Ying looks at her, deciding it's finally time to level up their relationship for real. Under the beautiful autumn trees, he officially asks Queque out on a real date for tomorrow, but things are getting weird fast as she stares at him in utter confusion. Internally, she's screaming because their big romantic outing involves wearing giant, puffy peach costumes in the middle of a busy square. Bai Ying explains this is a simulated date based on a scenario from her comic where the leads accidentally end up distributing flyers together. Queque is just glad it's not summer, or she'd be sweating enough to need 3 showers. Bai Ying suddenly points out an insect on her, and Queque loses her cool immediately. It turns out to be a total lie, and they start chasing each other around while a kid nearby tells his mom 2 giant butts are fighting. During the chaos, Queque goes for a counterattack but trips, leading to a classic trope moment where she pins Bai Ying to the ground. The kid's commentary continues, telling his mom the peaches are now sumo wrestling. Bai Ying starts laughing, leaving Queque wondering how this even happened. He finds it hilarious that their comic scenarios are happening so naturally, though he points out the genders are flipped. Queque stares at him, wondering if he's secretly a masochist for enjoying getting tackled. After ditching the costumes, they walk through the city as the sun sets. They bond over how exhausting the mascot life is, with Queque noting that real-life experience makes for better storytelling. Bai Ying teases her about her grades, and she tells him to stop throwing shade. Suddenly, Bai Ying reaches out and hooks his fingers with hers, asking to hold her hand for real. Queque's brain starts short-circuiting as she asks if this is also part of the simulation. Bai Ying just smirks, admitting he just wanted to see her clueless, funny face. She gets visibly annoyed, declaring she's going to the restroom just to escape the awkwardness. While trying to cool down and stop blushing, Queque is suddenly stopped by a guy she recognizes. It's a friend of Song-ri from her old art training camp days. He mentions he still has a random photo of her and Bai Ying from high school on his phone. Queque was blindsided because she didn't think they knew each other back then. He pulls up the photo, showing a younger, blushing Queque standing right next to a familiar-looking boy. Flashback to middle school, where Queque was the girl everyone whispered about. To escape the bullies who called her comics cringy, she found a hidden paradise behind the art school where she could cry in peace. One day, a voice from the other side of a wall startled her. The boy behind the wall knew exactly who she was, the girl who draws the romance comics. Queque assumed he was about to mock her too. She lashed out, asking if he'd said enough. But instead of an insult, he told her that her comics were actually pretty. Queque was stunned, asking if he was actually being serious. He praised her art style and the genuine girl's heart he saw in her work. She teased him for being a guy who reads romance comics in his spare time. He didn't mind, even though he knew most people would find it weird. Queque asked why he felt that way, and he replied that every boy has the right to pursue a girl's heart. She realized that talking to this stranger over the wall felt surprisingly relaxing. He admitted he used the spot to clear his mind too. They became treehole buddies, complaining about cafeteria food and school stress without ever seeing each other's faces. When the bell rang, Queque thanked him for listening to her rants. She confessed he was the first person she'd ever truly opened up to. The boy laughed, saying he'd talked more to her that day than he had all year. Queque asked to keep him as her treehole classmate. It was a place to pour out her soul. He asked if she really didn't want to know who he was. Queque admitted that even though they might recognize each other's faces now, she wanted to pretend they were strangers outside the grove. She didn't want her awkwardness with boys to ruin their unique connection. The boy agreed to her terms, hoping she understood. He promised to be there every day at 2:10 p.m. They kept this secret for seasons, through the falling leaves and the snow. Eventually, exam results came out. They celebrated their scores from opposite sides of the wall. Queque announced she was aiming for the visual communication major at Xiang University. The boy went quiet, realizing they might be going different ways. He noted his voice was changing due to puberty, wondering if she'd even recognize him later. Queque smiled, telling him how much she treasured their friendship. They agreed to stay internet buddies even if they didn't meet in person. When it was time for the big group photo, Queque felt a strange weight on her heart. She suspected this was their last encounter. Against her own rules, she turned back one last time. Through a gap in the windows, she caught a split-second glimpse of a boy with blue-purple hair. Outside, students were grabbing flower wreaths for the photo. Her friend helped her put one on, reminding her that at 18 they were all still innocent. While other guys were putting on princely masks, her secret friend stood behind her like a dark knight. He was someone hiding in the crevices of time. The memory was captured in a single, accidental photo. Back in the present, the blonde guy confirms that Bai Ying was Songrui's classmate back then. He laughs about how deflated Songrui has been since Queque started dating Bai Ying. Queque quickly asks him to send her that old photo. As the guy leaves, Queque realizes she has to check something immediately. The store might be closed, but the real drama is just getting started as Bai Ying suggests they keep walking since it's still early. Queque is deep in her thoughts, wondering if this man is actually the secret high school confidant she's been looking for. When Bai Ying mentions he wants to buy a soft mattress, Queque immediately calls him out, reminding him that he has a bad back and always preferred firm ones. Bai Ying freezes, visibly caught off guard that she knows such a specific detail. He quickly tries to play it off, claiming he heard about his back issues from a mutual friend, but he's clearly sweating the small stuff. Internally, Queque is squinting hard, thinking, nice try, buddy, but you're acting sus. She starts connecting the dots, remembering how he suddenly revealed secrets about her that no one else should know. Like the rainy night he showed up at her place, claiming he found her based on the class leader's info. But Queque knows better. She never actually wrote down her specific apartment number on that form. She wonders what else he's hiding behind that it's all in the past excuse. This whole mystery stems back to their high school training camp days. Back then, there was a secret friend she only knew as Treehole who was her biggest supporter. As they walk through the night, the resemblance between Bai Ying and her old digital friend is becoming impossible to ignore. If Bai Ying really is Treehole, Queque can't figure out why he'd keep his identity a secret. Honestly, if he had just been upfront from the start, she might have caught feelings way faster. Internally, her brain is a literal storm of confusion as she tries to reconcile the supportive online big sister persona with the cold editor standing next to her. She's spiraling, desperately needing to know if he's the one. She flashes back to a weird request she made in high school, telling her secret friend they should pretend not to know each other in person. She was so socially awkward back then that she literally couldn't handle face-to-face interactions with guys. Now she's face-palming, thinking, Xiang Queque, you absolute idiot. Did you cause this identity crisis yourself? But it's all just speculation for now, and she's terrified of how awkward it'll be if she's wrong. Their personalities are total opposites. One is a warm tree. The other is a straight-faced, ironclad man. Regardless, she decides it's time to take the initiative and force a confession. Mission impossible. Testing the editor begins now. Step 1. Send a bait message to Treehole while standing right next to him in a crowd. She hits send, but Bai Ying doesn't even reach for his pocket. Internally, she's screaming. How did he reply so fast without moving? Well, Bai Ying is secretly a master of the one-handed burner phone reply. Time for step 2, using personal intel to bait him. After class ends, she cheerily suggests they go grab some pineapple pizza. When he agrees without hesitation, Queque is absolutely floored. She knows for a fact that Treehole hates pineapple pizza more than anything. Little does she know, Bai Ying is prepared for her traps and has been keeping notes on every detail they've ever shared. Refusing to give up, she moves to step 3, the direct name shout. While they're out, she suddenly screams Shudong right behind him. He doesn't flinch, instead pointing out a literal tree hole in the botanical garden like a total pro. Queque is fuming, thinking this guy must have some kind of superhuman subconscious control. Meanwhile, Bai Ying is internally dying, terrified that he almost reacted to his old nickname. Since the subtle probes aren't working and are only making her look crazy, Queque decides it's time for a pro-gamer move. She's tired of being left in the dust by his short-leg jokes and secret keeping. She realizes she has no choice but to resort to the ultimate move. Late that night, she shows up at his apartment and starts hammering on the door. A very sleepy, towel-clad Bai Ying answers, looking like he just stepped out of the shower. He's confused as to who would be knocking at this hour. When When he sees it's Quake, he's stunned that she'd come over so late. He lets her in, asking why she's suddenly trespassing in his territory. She pushes past him, claiming she's just thirsty and needs coffee, which is a total lie. He calls her out, noting that she usually hates coming over unless it's for work. Quake tries to act natural, saying she's just exhausted from homework and wants to play games to relax. He buys it for a second, asking if she brought the game cards. As he hands her a cup, Queque's hands get unsteady. She accidentally spills the coffee all over his shirt, putting her tactical plan into motion. She frantically tells him to go shower and change, hoping to get him out of the room. Internally, she's smirking because the coffee was just a distraction to get to his phone. She's going full detective mode to verify his identity once and for all. As soon as he's gone, she grabs her phone to send a message to Tree Hole, waiting for his device to ring. Inside the bathroom, Bai Ying is starting to realize Queque is acting way too suspicious. He feels like she's intentionally trying to catch him off guard. Suddenly, he realizes he brought the wrong phone into the bathroom with him. The Tree Hole phone is sitting right there on the table, completely exposed. Queque is staring at the phone, waiting for a reaction. She's sent several messages now, but the screen is staying completely dark. She's baffled because normally the notification should light up the display. Suddenly, Bai Ying bursts out of the bathroom, claiming he's already changed. Queque jumps, startled by how fast he moved, and finds him squatting behind her. She's still holding her phone, looking guilty as double hockey sticks. He notices her eyeing his old phone and casually mentions it's just an old one he kept. He claims he uses one for work and one for personal use to keep things convenient. Queque asks to see it, but he insists it's dead and there's nothing interesting on it. She flashes a sweet smile, claiming she's been wanting to buy this brand and wants to try it out. She starts hunting for a charger, ignoring his attempts to stop her. He reaches out to grab her hand, telling her to wait. She ignores the tension and insists on plugging in the cable. When he grabs her hand firmly, she acts offended, demanding to know why he's being so aggressive. She accuses him of having a charger made of gold or something since he's being so protective. Bai Ying leans in close, his tone dropping as he asks if she's absolutely sure she wants to turn it on. He warns her that he can't guarantee the wallpaper is clean. Quicky's eyes go wide as she immediately labels him a pervert, wondering what kind of spice stuff he's hiding. But she can't stop now. Her curiosity is at an all-time high. She thinks, the more you tell me not to look, the more I have to see. She snatches the phone and stabs the charger into the port. The screen flickers to life, and Queque prepares herself for the worst. But when the display clears, she's completely blindsided. The unclean wallpaper is a super cute photo of the two of them together wearing cat ears. Bai Ying looks a little embarrassed, but he's still got that smug energy. Queque is fuming, realizing she was the one who got agitated and provoked while he stayed cool. She decides she's had enough and turns to leave, completely done with his games. But as she reaches for the door, Bai Ying calls her name. He looms over her, telling her that since she trespassed into his territory, he isn't going to let her escape that easily. The high-stakes psychological warfare continues as Queque finds herself blindsided by Bai Ying's gaming skills. Bai Ying is showing zero mercy, wearing a smirk that says he's been waiting for this. He's literally crushing her in the game until she's miserable, ignoring her desperate pleas for him to spare her since she's actually trash at this specific title. Meanwhile, in the next room, Qiuxia and her old cadre are having a total sweatfest, screaming about first blood and surrounding the enemy like their lives depend on it. Flashback to a quieter time at school, the bell is ringing and students are clearing out. Queque is passed out at her desk, looking like she pulled a triple all-nighter because concealer can't even hide those dark circles anymore. Bai Ying catches her mumbling about her tree-hole classmate in her sleep, which totally catches him off guard. Seeing her so vulnerable, he thinks that maybe, while she's asleep, he should finally try confessing the truth to her honestly. He leans in close, whisper calling her name while his heart does gymnastics. He's inches away from dropping the truth bomb that he is indeed the secret friend she's been looking for. Internally, he's panicking. Then Queque finally blinks awake with a sleepy mumble. She sees Bai Ying has face planted on the desk right next to her. He's playing dead and pretending to be asleep because he's too embarrassed to face her after that almost confession. Queque realizes they were basically sleeping face to face and starts shirketing, wondering if anyone caught them in 4K. She stares at his sleeping face, her pulse racing as she realizes how close they are. She thinks that if he's asleep, maybe she can finally say the words she's been gatekeeping. She leans in, blushing hard, and whispers Bai Ying, I like, but of course she hits the panic button and flees the scene before finishing the sentence, deciding she'll just keep this secret crush until she dies. Little does she know, Bai Ying was awake the entire time. He's lying there with his eyes wide open, heart racing against the desk. He's officially caught in his feelings, wondering what she was about to say like doing what, or like who. Cut to Qiuxia, who is ditching her party animal friends because she's got plans with a friend tonight. Lin Yinian shows up looking sharp, and the friends are low-key suspicious about whether he's a guy or a girl. He's actually there to pick her up from school, showing off some rare main character energy. Internally, Qiuxia is proud, thinking her training of this old-fashioned guy is finally paying off. Some random haters in the background start whispering that he's too mid for her and must be her brother, because there's no way she'd fall for him. Qiuxia is ready to throw hands over the disrespect, but Lin Yinian just shuts them down by saying he's not her boyfriend at the moment. He's actually been studying how to conquer a wealthy woman like a total dork, trying to figure out how to act cool. They watch the sunset together, and Queque is genuinely impressed by the view. He tells her that since meeting her, he's experienced a ton of firsts that he never expected. First time sprinting with a girl, first time actually learning to read the atmosphere between couples, and first time climbing a mountain just to see non-existent stars. It sounds a bit cheesy, and Queque thinks it sounds weirdly intense. She laughs it off, feeling like a bad girl leading a good boy astray. He looks at her with a serious gaze, wondering if now is finally the time to make his move. But then he hears more people talking trash about his nice figure, but claiming he doesn't look like her boyfriend at all. They're even joking that he's not even 5'9" and must be her brother. He starts getting in his own head, looking down at his shoes. He stops talking mid-sentence, looking totally defeated by the gossip. He clenches his fist and asks her to teach him how to dress better so he doesn't look like a rustic old cadre anymore. Queque just smiles at him with pure affection. She tells him he's perfect exactly the way he is and doesn't need to change his unique style for anyone. He's still feeling a bit insecure, but she's willing to wait for him to realize he's the right match. Back to the main drama, Bai Ying is stressed because Queque is 15 minutes late and hasn't replied on WeChat. He heads to her place and starts pounding on the door like his life depends on it. He calls out her name, and when she finally opens up, she looks like a walking ghost with messy hair. She tells him to go on without her because she feels off, but then she totally collapses right in front of him. Next thing she knows, she's waking up in a hospital bed with the sun streaming in. She's confused as to why she's even there, looking up at a worried Bai Ying. He explains she's suffering from overexertion and low blood sugar because she forgot to eat while drawing all night. Queque immediately starts stressing about her grades and in-class assignments like a true overachiever. She's losing her mind over the extra updates she hasn't finished for the holiday. She tries to act tough, saying she's pretty tough, and it was just a one-time accident. She even tries to leave to catch up on work as soon as the IV is finished. This finally makes Bai Ying snap, and he starts lecturing her about how her health is more important than a single update. Queque bites her lip as the pressure mounts, and then she just explodes, yelling at him about how much competition there is in the comic industry. She starts venting about why she has to update weekly and why she thinks her art is ugly. She lists off every minor inconvenience, from snobby advisors to kids kicking seats on the bus. The stress finally breaks her, and she starts crying, realizing how annoying everything is. Bai Ying reaches out to her, realization hitting him that she's been carrying the world on her shoulders. He lets out a small laugh at her long list of complaints, which totally offends her. Queque gets even madder, asking how he can laugh when she's already like this. But he's actually happy she's finally sharing her true feelings from the depths of her heart. He knows she doesn't want anyone to see her looking pathetic, so he pulls her into a tight hug, hiding her face against his chest. He stares down at her with pure devotion, telling her to just pour her heart out. As she sobs into his shirt, he whispers her name, promising to be the support she needs. Queque is currently letting out all that pent-up stress, sobbing her heart out right into Bai Ying's chest while he holds her tight. She's basically a human fountain at this point, and Bai Ying just stands there in silence, taking the emotional hit. After what feels like an eternity of crying, the waterworks finally start to dry up. Internally, she realizes she's been clinging to him like a koala and pulls back, telling him she feels much better now. Bai Ying is left a little stunned by the sudden exit, wishing the moment could have lasted just a bit longer. She looks down and realizes she's completely soaked his shirt with her tears, which is definitely not the professional vibe she usually aims for. But Bai Ying is a total class act, telling her it's fine since he was going to wash the shirt anyway. He looks at her with those intense, shimmering eyes, clearly feeling some type of way. He gently cups her face, leaning in for what looks like a peak romance manhwa moment. He tells her that whenever she needs to vent, his clothes are basically her personal tissues. He then drops a line so smooth it's almost illegal, saying he hopes she only shows this vulnerable side to him. Queque is absolutely blindsided by the sudden riz, her face turning a bright shade of pink. Internally, she's screaming, why is he acting like a Wattpad lead all of a sudden? She realizes he's literally quoting a cheesy line from a comic, and instead of her heart fluttering, she just wants to catch these hands because of the second-hand embarrassment. Since they're both technically sick, Bai Ying suggests they play hooky and go for a walk in the park to clear their heads. Queque is totally down for the plan, needing a break from her drawing tablet. While they're strolling through the park, Bai Ying casually asks if she's free the day after tomorrow. Queque wonders what's so special about that date, totally oblivious. Then it hits her that's the birthday of her mysterious online friend, Tree Hole. Bai Ying tries to set up a more formal outing, but Queque shuts him down, saying she has to stay home and grind on her drafts. She apologizes, having no idea she's literally rejecting a date with the guy she's supposed to be celebrating. Bai Ying goes into full mom mode, warning her to eat and sleep, or he won't be responsible for carrying her to the hospital next time she faints. Suddenly, his editor calls, and he has to step away to talk business. Queque watches him from a distance, reflecting on how they've spent almost every single day together for the past 6 months. They bicker, they work together, and they've basically become each other's support system. She remembers when everyone on campus called him a cold, aloof male god. It's hard for her to believe that this bright, conspicuous guy could be the same person as the low-key and cautious Tree Hole hiding behind a digital wall. Her deep thoughts are interrupted when she notices a toxic situation unfolding nearby. Some absolute loser is verbally abusing his girlfriend in public, accusing her of looking at other guys and insulting her outfit. The guy is a walking red flag, screaming that being her boyfriend is a curse from his past 8 lifetimes. Queque isn't about to let that slide, internally fuming that she needs to deal with this trash human immediately. She marches over to intervene, just as Bai Ying finishes his call and wonders why she's looking so aggressive. The jerk tells her to mind her own business, but then he stops dead in his tracks. He recognizes Bai Ying's face and is visibly shaken. Bai Ying is also caught off guard, staring at a ghost from his past. The guy's name is Lu Renjia, an old friend from elementary school who used to be a total bully. He claims they were close, but the flashback shows him pulling Bai Ying's hair while he cried. He asks if Bai Ying remembers those days, sporting a punchable smirk. He mocks Bai Ying for becoming manly, because back in the day he was obsessed with romance novels and was considered a total sissy. The jerk starts laughing, trying to embarrass Bai Ying in front of his girlfriend. He even doubles down, saying everyone thought Bai Ying was into pink and was basically gay. Queque, being an absolute savage, decides to play along with a sarcastic smile. She asks if these manly guys are all supposed to be good at fighting too. The loser brags that fighting is a skill every real man must have, totally falling for the bait. He even takes a jab at Bai Ying, saying it might be too hard for a sissy like him to understand. Before he can finish his sentence, Queque delivers a massive kick right to his gut, sending him flying. Bai Ying watches, completely stunned by the sudden display of violence from his artist. The guy is reeling in pain, asking if she's lost her mind or has a death wish. Queque looks down at him with pure disdain, telling him he's clearly not manly enough yet if he can't even take a hit. Bai Ying watches her hair blow in the wind and a core memory is unlocked. Internally, he realizes she is his sparrow, the same girl who used to protect him when they were kids. She's always been like this, standing up for the weak. She's the one who always brought him smiles when he was at his lowest. In his mind, she's the one holding onto his heart and helping him escape his lonely world. The bully tries to get up and strike back, calling her a stinking woman and raising his fist. He lunges at her, screaming for her to die. But before he can touch a single hair on her head, Bai Ying intercepts, grabbing the guy by the throat with a look of pure coldness. He asks what kind of man strikes a woman, then tosses him aside and tells him to never show his face again. After the trash is taken out, the atmosphere turns serious. Bai Ying tries to lighten the mood, saying they're even now since they've both seen each other's out-of-control sides. But Queque isn't having it. She tells him it's not even because he's still keeping secrets from her. Bai Ying looks conflicted, asking if she'd still want to know a secret that might make her regret deeply. He remains silent as the sun sets behind them, the tension reaching a breaking point. He thinks the decision of whether to regret or not should be his burden to carry. But Queque looks him dead in the eye, making it clear that the choice of whether to regret knowing the truth should be hers and her alone. Qiuxia is out here living her least best life, sitting alone and dying of boredom. She figures her favorite old cadre, Lin Yinayan, is usually a safe bet for some company, so she decides to shoot him a call. She hits him up with a casual invite to hang out, expecting him to jump at the chance. Instead, he hits her with the classic "I'm busy with the student council" excuse and curbs her. Qiuxia plays it off like it's no big deal, telling him to go ahead and handle his business. But as soon as the call ends, the vibe goes south. She's left staring into space, feeling the sting of being rejected for the first time. Internally, she's trying to rationalize it, but being sidelined by Lin Yinayan is a total system shock. However, the rejection isn't even the worst part. Her heart sinks when she spots him walking by with another girl, looking like he doesn't have a care in the world. Meanwhile, Bai Ying is wandering the streets solo, feeling like a total NPC while Queque is busy working on her drafts. Suddenly, his phone starts blowing up with notifications. For a split second, he hopes it's a message from Queque, but it turns out to be a pathetic birthday spam text from his mobile provider. Now he's feeling even more depressed, wondering which faceless corporation is going to haunt his inbox next. Just as he's reaching peak loneliness, his phone lights up again. It's a voice call from Queque, her first time ever calling his tree hole identity, and he immediately starts short-circuiting. He's terrified that his real voice will blow his cover, but he can't just ignore her. He finally picks up, and Queque comments on how this is the first time she's heard him speak since his voice changed. Bai Ying is sweating bullets, barely able to squeeze out a greeting. Queque just laughs, telling him he sounds like a world-weary old man from the streets. He quickly fakes a cough and claims he's just got a nasty cold, thanking his lucky stars he took those voice acting classes. He asks if something is wrong, since a random call is pretty out of character for her. She tells him it's nothing big. She just wanted to be the first person to wish him a happy birthday in person this year. She figured a phone call was more sincere for their third year of friendship. When she hears he's just wandering around alone, she calls him out for being sad and asks if he has no friends to celebrate with. To fix his lonely night, she sends him to a trendy new dessert shop for some egg tarts. She gets bossy, telling him he has to try the original flavor and not to trust the weird ones. Bai Ying follows orders and buys two, while the waitress wonders if this handsome guy just burned his throat or something. He takes a bite and realizes the food is actually fire, which makes Queque brag about how well she knows him. She doesn't stop there, sending him on a literal shopping quest to bookstores for popular novels. She's listing off fountain pens and internet-famous projects like a human encyclopedia of trends. The recommendations just keep coming. By the end of the night, Bai Ying is exhausted and his wallet is crying, but he's actually happy. It honestly felt like they were on a real date, shopping together through the city. As the clock nears midnight, Queque realizes time is flying. They've been talking for hours and the day is almost over. Right at the stroke of 12, she sings him a happy birthday. She calls him her treehole classmate, and the moment is peak wholesome. Suddenly, Bai Bai Ying gets a weird feeling. He starts wondering if he's actually losing his mind. It feels like Queque's voice isn't just coming from the phone, but from right behind him. The sound is so close it's impossible to ignore. He freezes, his eyes wide as he tries to process what's happening. He looks around the crowded street, telling himself he must have heard it wrong. But then he sees her in the crowd, and she calls him by his real name, Bai Ying. He's stunned, but she plays it cool on the phone, asking if he's still listening. He recovers and thanks her, admitting she's the first person to ever wish him a happy birthday right at midnight. Queque is all smiles, promising to do this every single year from now on. When he asks what she wants for her own birthday, she jokingly tells him to just pluck a star from the sky for her. The next day, Queque is waiting at the plaza, looking totally unimpressed. Lin Yinian shows up looking like a budget K-pop idol, rocking a trendy jacket and a chain. The glow-up is so sudden it's actually awkward. Queque is baffled, wondering why he suddenly changed his entire vibe. He tries to act smooth, asking if this isn't the kind of style all girls like. She asks him point blank if he's just doing this to be popular. He admits he wanted to be cooler for her, thinking his old cadre self was too stiff. But Queque isn't having it, asking how he had time to shop for new clothes if he was so busy yesterday. He starts panicking, lying through his teeth about buying the outfit online. Internally, she's already checked out of this conversation. Seeing him lie to her after she caught him with another girl yesterday is a total deal breaker. She thought he was different from other guys, but he's just another liar. She asks if he's trying to charm the flowers with his fancy new look. Lin Yinian is completely blindsided, having no clue what she's talking about. She tells him straight up that she hates lies, whether they are well-intentioned or not. She was attracted to his honest heart, but that's clearly gone now. She realizes that the closer she tries to get to him, the further away he actually feels. She turns her back on him, leaving him in the dust. He tries to chase after her, begging for a chance to explain himself. He's left standing alone, wondering exactly where went wrong. All he wanted was to be someone worthy of her, but his insecurity ruined everything. Back at the apartment, Queque is dead to the world until her phone starts ringing off the hook. She answers it while still half asleep, looking like a total mess. It's Bai Ying, who already knew she'd forget to set her alarm. She's shocked by his prediction. While he reminds her she was up all night working and talking to him, she asks why he's calling instead of just knocking on her door. He tells her to just open the door and look, and she starts getting suspicious that he's up to some mischief. She heads out to the balcony, wondering what he's planning. When she looks down, she sees Bai Ying standing next to a massive heart made of golden leaves. He claims it's just a plot point for a comic and asks if she's moved, even though he's clearly nervous. He starts rambling about how cheesy it is and offers to change it, but Queque just stares down at him. Looking at the effort he put in, she finally smiles and admits that this time she's actually truly moved. Bai Ying isn't playing games anymore and demands to know the actual truth. Queque tries to pivot back to the comic, claiming the readers will love the development, but Bai Ying presses her on how she feels about being his pretend girlfriend. A heavy silence hangs over the line as she processes the question. Internally, Bai Ying's chibi self is sweating bullets, praying he didn't just overplay his hand. He grips his phone so hard his knuckles are turning white, waiting for any sign of life. Finally, Queque lets out a soft admission that she actually likes it, her face glowing like a neon sign. Fast forward to school, and the vibe is officially trashed because Lin Yinian looks like he's been through a blender. Queque sits him down for a much-needed intervention while Bai Ying watches the resident old cadre crumble. Lin Yinian looks her in the eye and asks the ultimate self-deprecating question. Is he even worthy of a girl like Queque? Queque doesn't hold back, roasting him for being a boring, old-fashioned straight man while Queque is a literal queen. But then she pivots, telling him that from a friend's perspective, he's a total catch. She's convinced that beneath his mid-appearance is a heart purer than distilled water, and Queque definitely sees it. It all comes down to the genuine warmth he radiates when he isn't being a total brick. Lin Yinian isn't convinced, worried that his recent lies have made him look like a total villain in her eyes. Bai Ying scoffs, asking if he thinks he's some kind of fresh meat that's already gone past its expiration date. Lin Yinian just sighs, wondering if he's truly as clueless as everyone says. The main couple tag teams him, basically confirming he's the last person to realize his own density. Queque tells him to stop moping and wait until class is over to corner Queque for a one-on-one talk. She insists that as outsiders, they can't keep meddling in his messy love life. She explains that because of Queque's toxic exes, she's got zero sense of security and hates vague relationships. If he actually likes her, he needs to stop the cap and give her a clear response. She's basically been waiting for him to finally grow a backbone and make a stand. Bai Ying watches the lecture, probably wondering if he should be taking notes for his own secret identity crisis. Lin Yinian finally gets the message, but then asks how two people who fight 24/7 like Queque and Bai Ying even survive as a couple. Internally, they both realize that their constant bickering is basically just aggressive flirting. They share a look of mutual annoyance that perfectly summarizes their relationship. Lin Yinian is officially done with their chaotic energy. Later, he asks Queque if the pretend dating experience has actually helped her comic work. Bai Ying smirks, admitting the experience hasn't bad at all. He seems pretty satisfied with the arrangement, but he wants to know if Queque feels the same way. Suddenly, Queque mentions another person, sending Bai Ying's jealousy levels straight into orbit. She introduces her very good friend Shudong Tongsu, also known as Tree Hole. She teases Bai Ying, asking if he might know the guy, while he tries to keep a straight face despite being the literal person she's talking about. She starts describing the mysterious online friend, leaving Bai Ying in a state of high alert. The scene shifts to the school courtyard as the bell rings. Lin Yinian is immediately intercepted by the fashion student who gave him his makeover, and she's surprised to see him back in his boring old clothes. She playfully scolds him for wasting her expertise and forgetting everything she taught him. But before things can get friendly, Queque appears out of nowhere with a don't touch him energy that could freeze the sun. Lin Yinayan looks like he's about to faint from the sudden death flag. Queque goes off, accusing him of lying about student council work just to flirt with pretty girls. She scoffs at his surprise excuse, thinking he's just out here playing the field. She tells him she really misjudged his character, which sends him into a panic. She asks what the point of makeover even is if he's just going to loaf around with other girls. Lin Yinayan is blindsided, struggling to find the right words to save himself. He finally snaps, confessing that he just didn't want to be mistaken for her little brother or a pity project anymore. He shouts at the top of his lungs that he just wants to be a man who is actually worthy of her. Queque is stunned, her anger evaporating in an instant. A small, victorious smile begins to form on her lips. She starts listing every single thing he's done for her: the beach sunsets, the gaming invites, the constant following, and asks what he's really after. She corners him, demanding to know his true intentions. She wants him to say the words out loud, once and for all. Lin Yinayan clenches his fists, finally done with being a coward. He screams that he likes her, making sure the entire pus can hear him. He keeps yelling it, basically short-circuiting from the sheer intensity of his own confession. Queque bursts into laughter, revealing she totally baited him into saying it. She leans in close, teasing him for finally taking the bait like a total fool. Lin Yinayan, now fully committed, looks her in the eye and asks to officially be his girlfriend. She smiles warmly and gives him the of course he's been dying to hear. But the honeymoon phase lasts 2 seconds before she warns him never to lie to her again. She admits it's partly her fault for being impatient, but she was tired of waiting for him to stop being so stiff. She tells him to be more confident because if she chose him, he's the only one worthy, while Queque and Bai Ying watch from the sidelines. Queque calls her out for ditching their girls' night the second a guy shows interest. Queque doesn't care, claiming she's got plans with her old guard now, and tells Bai Ying to take care of Queque. The main couple is left standing there, feeling a bit salty about being ditched. Queque looks up at Bai Ying, wondering where they should go to eat. She trails off for a moment. Then she realizes she knows the perfect spot. They head to a dessert shop because Queque's friend Tree Hole told her the egg tarts there are top tier. Bai Ying's jealousy flares up again, and he asks if this Tree Hole guy really means that much to her. Queque confirms he's her most important male friend, completely oblivious to the irony. As they walk in, the shopkeeper welcomes them with a bright smile. But then, she drops a massive bombshell, recognizing Bai Ying and mentioning he was just there the other night with a sore throat, effectively catching his secret identity in 4K. The shopkeeper is about to blow Bai Ying's cover, asking if it's his first time here while he desperately tries to play it cool. Queque tries to order 2 chocolate egg tarts, but Bai Ying's muscle memory kicks in and he reflexively corrects her. He insists on 1 chocolate and 1 plain, basically outing himself as a regular. Internally, Queque is already smelling a rat, noticing how suspiciously familiar he is with the menu. He tries to save face by claiming everyone prefers the original flavor anyway. Queque decides it's time for a little interrogation, asking what he was really doing the night he turned down her mock date. Bai Ying starts sweating bullets, claiming he was just a homebody reading books. She drops the bait, asking why he didn't answer the door when she came over to find him. He completely falls for it, nervously claiming he was wearing headphones and didn't hear her. He even has the audacity to tell her to call next time. That's when she reveals the ultimate trap. She never actually knocked on his door. Bai Ying realizes he's been caught in 4K, wondering if he's being way too obvious with his lies. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as the truth starts to surface. His eyes dart around as he tries to process the fact that his secret identity is hanging by a thread. Suddenly, his phone dings, breaking the awkward silence. It's a text explaining that the old grove behind the school is fenced off because some local thugs have been causing trouble. Bai Ying looks troubled, clearly distracted by the news. Queque announces she's heading to the restroom, warning him not to sneak any snacks while she's gone. As she walks away, she notes that he's an absolute pro at keeping a poker face despite her constant testing. Internally, she wonders if she should just confront him about being Tree Hole directly, but she cringes at how awkward that would be. She scoffs, that would be like slapping my own face. Of course, the girl has zero sense of direction and immediately realizes she's taken a wrong turn. She wanders into a dark alley, looking for the bathroom but finding trouble instead. A voice calls out to her, stopping her in her tracks. It's a pair of shady guys who recognize her from the park, and they immediately realize she's Bai Ying's girlfriend. They recall a past encounter with Bai Ying, clearly holding a massive grudge. The lead bully complains that the spot where she kicked him last time still hurts and demands compensation. Queque tries to stay brave, warning them that the area is under surveillance, but they aren't scared. Back at the table, Bai Ying wonders why she's taking so long, assuming her internal GPS failed her again. He checks his phone and sees a location share and a message telling him to come here. He immediately realizes something is wrong because the tone doesn't sound like her at all. The waitress returns with the tarts, but Bai Ying is already gone. He sprints away, leaving the confused shopkeeper behind. The shopkeeper watches him go, certain that he's the same guy from that night. She remembers the passionate expression he had while talking to his girlfriend on the phone back then. She realizes that despite his cold exterior, he's absolutely head over heels. Bai Ying charges through the streets, his heart racing as he searches for her. He finds her cornered by the 2 thugs who are thrilled to see their target. They mock the 3 brothers being back together, ready to settle an old score. Bai Ying's face goes dark, his eyes filled with a terrifying intensity. The bullies laugh, noting that the feminine kid from their childhood has grown up quite quite a bit. They mock his past, laughing about how he used to read romance comics and was a total crybaby. One of them gives him a hard shove, trying to bait a reaction. They tell him to start crying for like he used to. Queque tries to intervene, but the bully gets right in Bai Ying's face, telling him not to get cocky just because he got lucky in the park. They are determined to settle new and old scores tonight. Bai Ying remains silent, slowly taking off his jacket. He turns to Queque, his voice surprisingly calm as he calls her name. In a move of pure main character energy, he pulls his hoodie over her head so she won't have to see the violence. Queque is left in the dark, only able to see the ground beneath her. The bullies think he's still a coward, laughing at his supposed weakness. They taunt him to throw a punch like a man. They call him a scary cat right before he snaps. A massive tiad echoes through the alley as Bai Ying finally lets loose. He delivers a brutal punch, stating this one is for the way they treated Queque. Then comes another for himself, for having to tolerate their pathetic teasing. He doesn't stop there, unloading years of repressed rage for the time they locked him in the girls' bathroom and doused him with water. He throws another punch for his mother, who saved up for a year to buy him the backpack they threw in the river. He's a literal demon now, punishing them for burning the comic books he collected for years. He stands over their broken bodies, finally reclaiming the self-esteem they spent 10 years trying to crush. He's breathing hard, blood dripping from his lip as the adrenaline starts to fade. Queque pulls the hoodie back, seeing the most vulnerable and raw version of Bai Ying for the first time. He turns to look at her, his expression a mix of pain and shame. She calls out his name, her heart breaking for what he's been through. Suddenly, Bai Ying collapses into her, whispering a desperate apology. He's terrified that she'll find his past and his dirty side disgusting. He begs her not to hate this version of him, his voice trembling with fear. He's completely broken, pleading for her acceptance. He buries his face in her shoulder, hiding his tears. Queque calls him an absolute idiot, her own eyes welling up. She promises him that she could never hate him, no matter what. She holds him tight, letting him feel the warmth he's been missing for a decade. Bai Ying finally lets the tears fall, the weight of 10 years of bullying finally lifting. She tells him that he's worked so hard and it's okay to let go. As they stand together in the moonlight, Queque realizes that the boy from the art school's back garden, the one who called her his tree hole, has finally come home. After the brutal showdown with the bullies, the vibes are heavy as Queque holds Bai Ying close, her heart racing faster than a speedrunner. She looks at him with eyes full of concern, silently asking if he's alright. Bai Ying tries to play the tough guy card, sporting a faint smile despite the literal blood on his neck and lip. Queque isn't buying the "I'm fine" act for a second and demands he get his butt to the hospital immediately. Later at the clinic, Queque is still fuming, internally screaming, "I should have caught those scumbags in 4K and finished the job myself." Bai Ying is surprisingly chill, telling her to let the past go since he basically turned those thugs into human pretzels. Queque just sighs, wondering why the world is constantly spawning such NPCs. Bai Ying tries to flex his tough physique to prove he's built different and that the injuries are no big deal. Suddenly, a massive Queque sound effect ruins his cool guy moment. Our boy is clearly short-circuiting as the pain finally catches up to his ego. A loud bang echoes as his body basically gives up on him. He doubles over, complaining that his bones are actually screaming. Queque tells the old-timer to take a seat before he actually breaks a hip. As they sit together, his band-aid starts peeling off like a cheap sticker. Queque leans in close to fix it, warning him to stop moving before he causes a secondary injury like a total noob. Bai Ying stares at her intensely, dropping a soft "thank you, Xiang Queque." She beams back at him, reminding him that she's the one who should be grateful since he was her literal knight in shining armor today. Internally, she panics because the rom-com atmosphere is getting way too spicy for her heart to handle. To kill the tension, she slaps his shoulder like they're gym bros, causing him to groan in pain all over again. To make it up to her, Bai Ying promises to take her somewhere special for Christmas tomorrow. Queque tries to act like she's too cool for surprises, but internally, she's already manifesting a luxury villa stay. The next day at school, the campus is looking like a typical high school anime. The vice monitor is out here doing the absolute most, carrying stacks of books to show off his good guy energy. He spots Queque and starts simping immediately, telling her she's as beautiful as ever. Bai Ying just stands there with a expression, clearly not amused. The monitor is glowing with "I'm in a relationship" energy, and Bai Ying thinks he might as well just tattoo it on his forehead at this point. The rest of the class starts roasting the monitor, demanding he treat everyone to celebrate his new girlfriend. He's out here living his best life while the single dogs in the class watch in pure envy. But then the spotlight shifts and someone asks why Queque and Bai Ying aren't official yet. Queque is blindsided, wondering why they're suddenly being dragged into the gossip mill. The classmates point out the receipts they walk to and from school together literally every single day. Queque starts panic denying everything, waving her hands like she's trying to fly away. The guys tell Bai Ying to stop being a shy beta and finally be more proactive. Queque insists they are just good friends and nothing more. But the class isn't buying the just friends cope. They bring up the evidence. They're always laughing together in class. They're inseparable during club activities. Someone even claims they saw the duo out on a full-blown date by themselves. They straight up ask if the two are just messing around with everyone's emotions. Queque keeps trying to shut it down, but she's fighting a losing battle. Suddenly, Bai Ying decides he's done with the games. He puts a firm hand on Queque's shoulder, claiming his territory. He looks the whole class in the eye and declares that they are, in fact, seriously dating. The class absolutely loses it, celebrating the fact that their favorite ship has finally sailed. They start chanting for treats from the new power couple. Queque immediately goes into feral mode, dragging Bai Ying away by the ear like a disobedient pet. She demands they talk in the back alone, and her angry cat energy is off the charts. The classmates just watch them go, convinced this is just some cute lover's quarrel. Once they're alone, Queque explodes, asking why he just went along with the lie. Bai Ying hits her with some big brain logic. If they simulate a relationship, the gossip stops and work becomes way more convenient. He claims it's better to just admit it openly so people stop whispering behind their backs. Queque pauses, realizing that his logic actually low-key makes sense, but she's still salty he didn't consult her first, forcing a quick apology out of him. He starts to turn back to clarify the truth to the class. Queque panics and tells him to wait a minute. She realizes that if they take it back now, everyone will think they're weirdos, so they just have to go with the flow for now. Later, a classmate catches them, sweet-talking in the hallway, and teases them. He tells them the class president already agreed to a karaoke night and they need to split the bill. Bai Ying shuts that down instantly, stating they already have other plans. The classmate is shook by the rejection. He whispers something spicy into Bai Ying's ear that makes him blush. Bai Ying loses his cool and tries to kick the guy into next dimension. Queque is confused, asking what the heck was said to trigger such a reaction. Bai Ying just avoids eye contact, looking like he's about to overheat. Queque starts kicking him too, yelling about how expensive his lying is becoming. The classmate just watches the domestic violence from a distance, thinking they're a perfect match. Fast forward to their Christmas date, and the city lights are giving off peak romantic vibes. Bai Ying used his pro makeup skills to cover his bruises so the classmates wouldn't start imagining things again. Queque claims she's not worried about him, but she's definitely feeling the guilt for his injuries. She asks where this nice place is, and Bai Ying points to the bathroom. He clarifies he just needs to use the restroom first, ruining the moment. Queque waits outside, wondering what kind of mischief he's actually cooking up. Suddenly, a girl recognizes her. It's the shop assistant from before, who apologizes for mistaking Bai Ying for her boyfriend previously. Queque tells her she actually didn't make a mistake about him being the person on the phone. But then she drops the classic, "He's just a good friend" line. The girl is shocked because the two of them look like a top-tier couple. Then she decides to spill some tea. She tells Queque that there's no way they're just friends based on the way he looks at her. Queque is genuinely confused, asking what looks. The girl explains that the way he looked while talking to her on the phone and the next day was way too obvious to be platonic. She spells it out for our dense protagonist. That's the exact look someone gives when they're facing the person they truly like. Queque is absolutely reeling after the shop assistant drops a massive truth bomb about Bai Ying's feelings. The assistant winces, noting that the handsome guy is clearly suffering from a heavy case of unrequited love. Queque is left frozen, trying to process the fact that their fake relationship might be a lot more real than she thought. While she's buffering, Bai Ying is still busy in the restroom. She realizes that everyone is shipping them, from her classmates to random restaurant staff who've only seen them twice. Even though she's starting to sense a vibe, she's still in denial. Internally, she doubted herself. There's no way a top-tier guy like Bai Ying actually has feelings for a plain Jane like me. As she leaves the shop, her phone rings with a call from the man of the hour. He starts giving her GPS directions through a sketchy-looking alleyway. And Queque isn't exactly feeling the Christmas spirit in the dark. She starts getting creeped out, wondering why there isn't a single streetlight in sight. She calls out his name, hoping she isn't about to walk into a horror movie plot. The tension builds as she rounds the corner. She demands to know what he's planning. Suddenly, a loud toot echoes through the air. Queque's eyes go wide as the darkness is instantly deleted. Bai Ying is standing in front of a massive, glowing Christmas tree, looking like a total shoujo lead. He drops a line so smooth it should be illegal, telling her that while he can't pluck the stars, he can light them up in her eyes. He tops it off by wishing her a happy birthday. Queque is stunned, wondering how on earth he knew it was her birthday today. He sheepishly admits he may have sneak peeked at the class leader's private records. Internally, she teased, "Wow, so you're a hacker and a stalker. Keep going, I'm listening." He promises to respect her privacy from now on. Queque can't help but smile, touched that he went through all this effort for a surprise instead of a scare. He asks if she really likes it, and the romantic atmosphere is at an all-time high. But Queque is a practical queen and immediately starts worrying about the massive electric bill this tree is racking up. Bai Ying stares at her, probably wondering how she can think about utility costs at a time like this. He can't help but let out a soft laugh at her reaction. He watches her with an intensity that could melt the winter frost. Flustered, she demands to know why he's smiling so much. He simply thinks she's being way too cute for his own good. He reminds her that she was the one who told him he looks better when he smiles. He leans in, telling her to look closely. He vows to be more obedient and listen to her more often. Queque decides to test just how obedient he's willing to be. Internally, she smirked. "If you're such a good boy, you can definitely handle my homework for tomorrow." The two share a lighthearted moment under the glowing lights, officially ending their Christmas date on a high note. As winter break approaches, they make plans to take the high-speed train back to their hometown together. Later, at home, Bai Ying is getting dressed up, looking exceptionally handsome. He confirms he's heading out for another date. His relative catches him at the door, asking why he's still hiding his true identity after all this time. She pressures him to finally come clean with the girl. Bai Ying looks determined, deciding that today is finally the day the secret comes out. Queque meets him outside, waving energy energetically as she spots him in the crowd. Bai Ying looks like he walked straight off a runway in his winter coat and scarf. She immediately shows him a photo of their classmates, Autumn Xia and the class president, who are busy being a lovey-dovey couple. They both agree the atmosphere for those two is looking pretty sweet. Queque pouts, wondering when it's finally going to snow in their city. Bai Ying points out the cold hard facts. It hasn't snowed here in 4 years. Queque shares a legend she heard, claiming that snow only falls when something truly good happens. She asks him if he's ever tasted snow, but he finds the idea pretty boring. He looks at her, thinking that her weirdness is actually kind of sweet. They head to the arcade where Queque absolutely thrashes him at games, gloating about her victory. Bai Ying takes the loss in stride and tells her he has one more special place to take her. Queque gets suspicious, asking if he's going to pull another "I'm in the restroom" prank. He promises this place is different and smiles mysteriously. As they step into the elevator, she teases him about obsession with mystery and sense of ceremony. He stops and looks at her seriously. He asks if all his effort and surprises feel like a burden to her. She quickly reassures him that she's used to his antics and that his surprises always impress her. They begin walking through a grove of barren trees that looks increasingly isolated. Queque starts getting a weird sense of déjà vu, feeling like this place is strangely familiar. Bai Ying calls out her name, his tone becoming dead serious. He asks her a hypothetical question. Would she be able to forgive someone who lied to her? Queque stops, looking at him with a confused expression. She listens as he continues to push the subject. She senses something is wrong and asks him to explain. He asks if she could forgive a lie that was spread over several years. Queque goes quiet, looking down as she considers his words. She tells him that whether it's years or decades, forgiveness is a heavy choice. She explains that everything depends on the moment the lie finally becomes the truth. Bai Ying takes a long look at her, absorbing her answer. He closes his eyes and simply says, "Got it." Suddenly, Queque shouts his name in excitement. He looks up, his eyes widening. Against all odds, white flakes begin to drift down from the sky. Queque is over the moon, shouting that it's actually snowing. She remembers her legend and tells him that something good must be happening today. Bai Ying seems to disappear for a second, leaving Queque confused. Suddenly, her phone starts ringing with a voice call from her treehole classmate. Her heart skips a beat as she looks at the screen. She realizes the signal is coming from right in front of her. The voice on the other end tells her to part the branches in front of her. She nervously reaches out and pushes the foliage aside. The realization starts to hit her like a freight train. The truth is finally out. She stares ahead, completely blindsided by the reveal. She looks around and realizes they are standing in the woods behind her old high school. This is the place where her secret confidant watched the leaves fall with her for 3 years. He was the one who spent all that time by her side. He was there through all the rumors and the high school drama. He was the person who helped her survive the gossip. He was the one who silently guarded every promise they made. Bai Ying stands there with his phone to his ear, a gentle smile on his face. He is the one who has been hiding his identity as her treehole classmate all along. Queque is frozen, her eyes filling with tears of shock and joy. He simply says, "Hi." Queque beams at him, the pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place. She finally greets her longtime protector, saying, "Hi, confident tree classmate." The tension in the air is thicker than the winter snow as Bai Ying finally drops the bombshell. He's been her secret treehole classmate this whole time. Instead of romantic swoon, Queque looks at him like he's lost his mind, calling him a total brat for keeping such a massive secret. Bai Ying looks genuinely defeated, admitting that keeping up such a heavy lie was a total mess. He explains that he only did it to honor the promise of anonymity they made back in the day, even if it meant facing her as a completely different person. He pulls her scarf closer, looking her dead in the eye while asking if she can ever forgive him for the deception. Queque's eyes soften as she looks at the man who's been her digital anchor for years. She leans in close, but instead of a confession, she drops a reverse card that completely blindsides him. Internally, she's laughing as she reveals that she's actually known he was the confidant all along. Bai Ying's brain officially short-circuits, and he turns into a blushing, stuttering mess. He's absolutely shook, demanding to know exactly when she figured it out. Queque just scoffs, "I'm not an idiot, buddy." She points out that they spend every single day together, and no matter how hard he tried to play it cool, his disguise had more holes than a piece of Swiss cheese. Bai Ying realizes he's been caught in 4K this entire time and wonders if she was just waiting for him to finally man up and come clean. Queque admits that bringing it up herself would have been peak awkwardness, so she's just been inceptioning him into confessing. Still feeling like a villain, Bai Ying asks one more time if she's really okay with him lying. Queque tells him he's a dummy and that she should be the one apologizing for making it so hard for him to be honest. She immediately ruins the vibe by demanding he stop being mysterious and spill all his childhood secrets to honor their camaraderie. Hearing this, Bai Ying literally collapses into a squat of pure relief, finally exhaling all the stress he's been carrying. He was terrified that the truth would make her hate him, but Queque shuts that down immediately. She tells him that whether he was the voice behind a wall or the guy behind a screen, he was always her source of courage. They sit together in the snow, a couple of emotional wrecks finally finding common ground. Internally, Queque is cringing at her own main character energy, wondering how she managed to say something so cheesy. She realizes she's really changed if she can drop lines like that without throwing up. Bai Ying is moved to silence, soaking in the fact that she's truly grateful for him. He gives her a soft look, thanking her for always staying by his side through the madness. Queque stares back, her eyes glowing with a newfound intensity. She immediately ruins the vibe by demanding he stop being mysterious and spill all his childhood secrets to honor their camaraderie. camaraderie. Bai Ying catches her hand, asking if what's between them is really just camaraderie at this point. Queque gets serious for a second, admitting that her feelings for him have evolved past friendship or kinship into something way deeper. Bai Ying agrees, knowing they both pulled each other out of some dark places. He then pivots to a sensitive topic, her father, whom she's been dodging since they met. Queque takes a deep breath, admitting that her childhood was a bit of a train wreck because of him. She reveals that her dad was dirty, not in a literal sense, but morally bankrupt in a way that made her ashamed to even mention him. He was a Jekyll and Hyde type, perfectly sweet one minute and a swearing, object-throwing stranger the next. Even though he never got physical, the psychological warfare and cold wars were enough to scar anyone. Bai Ying asks why her mom never just packed her bags and left. Queque sighs, explaining that after 20 years, her mom just got used to the toxic cycle and prioritized long-term security over her own emotional needs. Luckily, her mom is finally living her best life now, hanging out with friends and getting her heart healthy. Bai Ying wonders if this family trauma made Queque afraid of the whole happily ever after concept. He knows firsthand that some wounds from the past just don't stay buried. Some memories are basically tattooed on the brain. Queque is surprised, assuming a hottie like Bai Ying must have been the most popular kid in school. He laughs it off, saying it was the exact opposite. Standing out just made him a prime target for malicious people. It started with verbal jabs and sissy comments before escalating into straight-up physical bullying. They even tried to break him psychologically, forcing lipstick on him to turn him into a clown for their amusement. But meeting Queque that one summer changed his entire trajectory, giving him the guts to finally be himself and wear what he wanted. He credits her for making his life simple and relieving him of that heavy burden. Queque realizes that if he's giving her all the credit, then she owes her own growth to him as well. Bai Ying starts panicking internally, wondering if this means his actual confession plan can finally get off the ground. Queque admits that fake dating him for 6 months proved that relationships aren't actually as scary as she thought. She jokingly tells him that instead of a scumbag like her dad, she realized she could just end up with a bonnet-headed straight guy like him. To her, a guy with no major moral red flags is a massive win. She beams at him, calling him a top-tier romantic prospect. Bai Ying looks at her, the moment finally feeling right to ask the big question. He asks if she would actually choose someone like him for a real relationship in the end. Queque remembers her friend's advice about how you can tell someone likes you just by the way they look at you. She flips the question back on him, asking if he'd choose someone like her. The silence between them is heavy as she waits for his response. The question hangs in the air, a total make-or-break moment for their fake status. They sit back-to-back in the snow, both of them vibrating with nervous energy. Bai Ying finally says, "Of course." But Queque immediately goes into full defensive mode, shouting that they're just battle buddies. She starts laughing hysterically, trying to play off the awkwardness as relationship-destroying nonsense. Internally, they are both absolutely spiraling, with Queque wondering if she's being too obvious and Bai Ying wondering if he should just send it and confess right now. Both of them are stuck in a mental loop of to confess or not to confess, leaving their future totally up in the air. Winter break is supposed to be for relaxing, but Queque's mom is out here acting like a human alarm clock at 9 a.m. She screams at Queque to get up before the moon starts sunbathing, which is honestly a top-tier mom roast. Looking at the disaster zone Queque calls a bedroom, her mom wonders how she'll ever get married with such messy habits. Internally, Queque just wants 5 more minutes of sleep, but she finally manages to address her mother. Instead of arguing about the laundry, Queque drops a massive bomb and asks how you can tell if a guy actually likes you. Her mom instantly shifts into FBI mode, demanding to know if this guy is a real person or just some 2D character on a screen. She chases Queque around with a duster, warning her not to end up with a total jerk like her father. Once things calm down, Mom decides to share her legendary dating wisdom. To figure out if a guy is down bad for you, Queque needs to look for specific signs. She tells her daughter to take the following actions to test his feelings. Step 1, check the eyes, because a guy in love will look at you with nothing but affection. Queque tries this out during a Valentine's Day gaming session, pretending to take a selfie to catch Bai Ying staring. She expects a dreamy gaze, but the reflection tells a different story. Bai Ying is actually looking at her like she's a total idiot, completely short-circuiting her romantic plan. Mom's second tip is that a guy who likes you will special care of you in the small details. Queque tries the classic weak girl move by struggling with a water bottle cap in front of him. She claims her hands feel unusually weak today, hoping he'll play the hero. Bai Ying opens it easily, but instead of handing it back, he decides she's too weak to handle the drink and chugs it himself. Queque is left standing there in dead silence, questioning everything. The third rule is that he'll subconsciously try to sit close to you. On a freezing bus ride, Queque starts huffing and puffing about how cold it is, practically begging for a jacket or a hug. She looks at him with puppy dog eyes, waiting for him to notice her shivering. Bai Ying just asks if she's warm enough before completely ignoring her hints. Queque is officially fed up because nothing matches her mom's useless advice. She realizes this straight guy either doesn't play by the rules or is just a grandmaster at hiding his feelings. But with the new semester starting and off-campus inspection coming up, she decides to go for the ultimate test. During the bus ride for the school trip, the vice class leader drops a massive update, She's arranged for Queque and Bai Ying to share a room. Queque puts on a show of being outraged, demanding a roommate reshuffle. Her classmates aren't buying it, telling her to stop playing hard to get since everyone knows they're a thing. While Queque is busy protesting, Bai Ying is in the background giving a literal thumbs up to the plan. He leans in and tells her not to be so shy, suggesting she take a leaf out of his book. He asks if she's really that scared of sharing a room with him. Then he deals the finishing blow, asking if she's just afraid he'll hog the bathroom. Internally, she fumes, "Who's afraid of who, buddy?" The reality of sharing a room for the next few nights finally sinks in, and Queque is low-key panicking. Bai Ying watches her, thinking she's way too easy to read after all her failed tests. They sit in awkward silence on the bus, both caught in their own heads. Little does she know, Bai Ying is actually mentally preparing to take the initiative and confess for real. When they arrive, the class is told the first person to reach the mountaintop gets a free cable car ticket, while the losers have to walk back down. Queque uses Bai Ying's back as a literal desk to fill out her forms, treating him like furniture. The whole class is basically a line of couples showing off, leaving the single students feeling completely helpless. As soon as the race starts, everyone sprints toward the top like their lives depend on it. Queque is hyped, but Bai Ying tells her to save her energy so she doesn't run out of steam. Her friend Autumn teases them, saying they should win so they can have a romantic gondola ride together. Things get chaotic when Queque ends up getting a piggyback ride from the female class lieutenant instead of her boyfriend. She's loving the cozy ride and thanking her friend for the lift. Bai Ying's face goes dark, realizing he shouldn't have expected a normal, warm relationship with this girl. He spots something on her dress and his expression immediately changes. He cuts in and demands the lieutenant put her down, acting super protective over his wife. Queque is confused until he leans in and whispers that he's looking at her body. He clarifies that her dress is actually dirty, and Queque realizes her monthly visitor has arrived at the worst possible time. She's mortified because she completely forgot to bring supplies, and her secret date with nature just got moved up. Bai Ying immediately takes her toward the bathroom, while their classmates watch on in confusion. While she's hiding out, Queque realizes she didn't buy anything and feels like she's about to die of embarrassment. She worries that girls might be taking pictures of her fail, but Bai Ying is outside keeping guard. The period cramps start hitting her like a truck, making her back and stomach ache. Bai Ying suggests they skip the mountain climb and just sit down for a while. However, Queque's pride won't let her lose, claiming they need to finish first for the dignity of a soldier's couple. She drags him toward the finish line, shouting that whoever gets a bellyache at night is a puppy. Fast forward to that night, and Queque is literally whimpering in bed, fully accepting her new life as a puppy. Bai Ying comes in with hot water, telling her he warned her not to overdo it. Queque tries to act independent, claiming she's not paralyzed, but her hands are so unsteady she almost spills the drink. Bai Ying has to step in and hold the cup for her to make sure she doesn't make a mess. Looking at him being so caring, Queque remembers she wanted to take the initiative. She thinks back to her mom's ultimate trick for the final boss of love. The trick is to look into his eyes enchantingly when he least expects it and call his name to see the reaction. Her mom claimed that's how she won over Queque's dad, even if he turned out to be a jerk later. Queque decides it's now or never. She sips her water and prepares to drop the enchantment. She looks up with sparkling eyes and softly says, "Thank you, Bai Ying." The effect is instant. Bai Ying's face turns bright red and he's completely caught in 4K. He's so flustered that his hand starts shaking and the water almost spills again. He frantically tells her to go to the bathroom and change her clothes, even asking if she needs help walking. Seeing him this rattled gives Queque a massive confidence boost. She decides that since they've come this far, she might as well go for something incredibly bold. She fidgets with her clothes, acting shy but calculated. Then she looks him right in the eye and asks, "Would you help me change?" Bai Ying is left completely blindsided, his brain totally short-circuiting at the request. Queque is really pushing the limits of Bai Ying's sanity during this school trip. She hits him with a bold command to take it off while lying in bed, testing her mother's dating advice to the max. Bai Ying is absolutely blindsided, staring at her like he's seen a ghost. Queque is basically trolling at this point, teasingly pointing out that she's still wearing a t-shirt underneath her cardigan. Internally, Bai Ying is short-circuiting, trying to figure out if this is some kind of blatant seduction, or if she's just playing games. The romantic tension is snapped when a phone call comes in from the class vice president, inviting them to the next room for some group activities. Queque is ready to cause chaos, but Bai Ying tries to shut it down, reminding her that she's a total lightweight who can't handle her drinks. She isn't having it and tells him to just go ahead and have fun without her. Cut to the next room, and the class is already deep into a rowdy game of truth or dare. One girl is forced to call her mom and admit she failed her final exam again, which is a massive death flag for her upcoming holiday. Another guy admits to a cringeworthy elevator encounter where he congratulated a teacher on her pregnancy, only for her to reveal she just ate too much for lunch. The dares keep getting more unhinged, including a card that demands the player tell the person on their right that they look gorgeous. Two guys are forced to follow through, and the resulting awkwardness is caught in 4K for everyone to laugh at. Then it's Xiao Hai's turn and the bottle points right at him. He picks dare and pulls a card that requires a cheek kiss with the person on his left, who just happens to be Queque. The room starts buzzing with drama because everyone knows Bai Ying is standing right there. Queque is fuming, internally screaming about how no one even asked for her consent in this nonsense game. Just as Xiaohei prepares to move in, a hand suddenly snatches the dare card away. Bai Ying steps in like a protective main lead, declaring that Queque isn't willing to participate in that dare. Queque is left stunned, staring up her unexpected savior with sparkling eyes. The crowd isn't letting him off that easy though, demanding he take a penalty drink for breaking the sacred rules of the game. Bai Ying decides to be the man and downs the shot in one go while Queque prays for his soul. The class cheers for their hero, completely unaware that he's actually a glass cannon when it comes to alcohol. 5 minutes later, the inevitable happens. Bai Ying is officially wasted, singing about tigers and acting like a complete fool while his classmates record the evidence. Queque realizes she has to call it a night and drags the human disaster back to their room before he's something even crazier. She looks at his dazed face and wonders what on earth goes through his head every single day. The guy is literally hallucinating that he's a piece of conveyor belt sushi or a revolving door. Back in their room, Queque notices he looks even more gone than the last time he got drunk. She figures this is the perfect opportunity to finally get some honest answers. She calls out his name to make sure he's still somewhat conscious. Standing face to face with the drunk editor, she prepares to drop the ultimate question. She finally asks him straight up, "Do you like me?" She adds that if it's true, she might actually consider giving him a real chance. Her face is bright red as she finally lets the cat out of the bag. She admits that she wants to be with him if his feelings are real. She stands there nervously, waiting for a reaction from the guy who's barely standing. Queque breathes a sigh of relief, thinking he'll just forget everything by tomorrow morning anyway. But suddenly, Bai Ying pins her against the mirror, his gaze turning surprisingly sharp and focused. He leans in close and whispers that he isn't just pretending to be drunk. Queque is totally blindsided, completely frozen by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. However, the romantic moment dies instantly when he doubles over and says he's about to throw up. Queque hides in the corner, wondering what the heck just happened to her heart rate. She questions how someone with zero tolerance could possibly be faking his level of intoxication. Meanwhile, over the sink, it's revealed that Bai Ying is actually conscious and freaking out because he heard her say she likes him. Turns out he's been training his alcohol tolerance for months just to prepare for a moment like this. He realizes she's finally open to the idea of love and can't help but smirk at his own success. The next morning, the pair looks like they've been through a war zone with matching dark circles under their eyes. The class heads to a park where they're told a creative group called the Zayu Kids will be scouting for talent. Queque hears they're looking for top-tier scripts and artists to join their film industry projects. She tells Bai Ying it sounds like exactly the kind of thing he'd be interested in. Bai Ying is barely listening, looking like his brain is still buffering from the night before. In reality, he's mentally spiraling about how to pull off the perfect confession. He starts overthinking what Queque would actually like the most. Should he go with the classic 99 roses in a flower field? Or maybe a heart-shaped sparkler show on the beach? He even considers the fake bathroom break into a sea of lights maneuver. Then he remembers he already pulled that move on her birthday last Christmas. He's desperate to make it dazzling, but he's becoming a mess of indecision. Queque snaps him out of it by pointing toward the trees. The cherry blossoms are in full bloom, painting the entire park in shades of pink. She smiles, completely captivated by how beautiful the scene is. Bai Ying looks at her instead of the trees, finally finding his focus. She reminds him of when she was his classmate tree hole, and they looked at the blossoms together through a window. He agrees, his gaze softening as he stares at her. To him, she is the one who is truly beautiful. While she looks up at the flowers, he can't take his eyes off her face. Queque starts reminiscing about all their major milestones, like the day he revealed his secret identity. Memories of handing out flyers, walking in the rain, and beach trips flash before her eyes. She realizes they've really experienced a lot over the past year and asks if he's still feeling hungover. Suddenly, she stops and notices something. There's a stray petal caught right in the middle of Bai Ying's hair. She tells him to hold still so she can grab it for him. Bai Ying is confused, asking if it's on the left or the right side. He keeps missing it, which makes Queque lose her patience. She finally leans in to do it herself, and the distance between them completely vanishes. In that moment, Bai Ying realizes that fancy plans and detailed scripts don't matter at all. He pulls her into his arms, finally deciding to just be honest. He confesses that he's liked her since high school and has always loved her. After the legendary cherry blossom confession, Bai Ying decides to play it cool, telling Queque not to feel pressured and suggesting they just stay normal friends, while she processes her feelings. But Queque is officially done running away and tells him she doesn't want to evade the truth anymore. She tries to muster up the courage to say those 4 magic words, but her brain is basically lagging at 99%. Internally, she's screaming, "This is too hard," while Bai Ying wonders why she's making such a big deal out of a simple sentence. The two get into a heated Kibi-style debate about who's had it tougher, with Queque claiming it's not that easy to just blurt things out. She's clearly been struggling with her anxiety, but Bai Ying thinks he's been torn up way longer than she has. Finally, she snaps and screams that she likes him, asking if he's finally satisfied now. Bai Ying is completely blindsided by the sudden outburst, staring at her in shock. He needs to hear it one more time just to make sure he isn't dreaming. Queque is blushing so hard she's basically a human tomato, but she doesn't back down. She repeats the confession, and they finally melt into a romantic embrace under the falling petals. Bai Ying confirms he's been down bad for her this whole time, and for a moment, everything is perfect. Later that night, the mood is still heavy as Bai Ying looks at her with those main character eyes. The atmosphere is shimmering with pure romance. Fast forward to the hotel room where the two are supposed to be sleeping in separate beds. Queque tries to fake a snore to prove she's asleep, but Bai Ying calls her out on her terrible acting immediately. She complains that she's a picky sleeper and misses having a body pillow to hold. Seeing his chance, Bai Ying asks if she really needs a pillow that badly. He then drops a total bombshell, telling her to just come over and hold him instead. Queque sits up, wondering if he's actually lost his mind. He doubles down, telling her to use him as her personal body pillow. Internally, she's short-circuiting, asking if he's joking. He taunts her, asking where all that confession courage went now that it's time to actually share a bed. Then comes the ultimate death flag for her heart when he pauses. He asks if she's actually expecting him to do something more than just sleep. Triggered by the challenge, Queque jumps into his bed to prove she isn't a coward. The second she lands, she realizes she's played herself and can't go back now. Bai Ying asks if it's warm enough, while Queque tries to act like this is totally normal. He gives her a final warning about being so unguarded around him. They lie there in the dark, the tension high enough to power the whole city. Queque whispers that she trusts him not to do anything inappropriate. Bai Ying looks at her, his expression unreadable, and tells her that her trust is a heavy thing. Queque quickly turns her back to him, claiming she just prefers sleeping on her side. Bai Ying complains that it's getting colder. Suddenly, he pulls her into a back hug, catching her completely off guard. He claims he's just trying to warm up, leaving Queque wondering if this is even legal after only being a couple for 5 minutes. She wonders if she learned nothing from all the shoujo manga she's drawn, but honestly she's too flustered to think. He whispers a good night right into her ear. They eventually settle down back to back, finally trying to get some rest. Internally, Queque is suspicious, wondering if this was some kind of 200Q strategy to get back at her for ruining the mood earlier. She worries she's been a mood killer one too many times. As Bai Ying drifts off, he looks peaceful, but his last conscious thought is that he's reaching his limit and can't hold back much longer. The next morning at 5 a.m. Queque wakes up because she drank too much water before bed. She decides to check if her clothes have dried on the balcony, but as she looks out, her eyes go wide. A masked creep is literally caught in 4K stealing her underwear. Bai Ying wakes up to her scream, confused as to what's happening. Without thinking, Queque sprints out of the room after the pervert, shouting at him to stop. Internally, she's face-palming. Why did I hang these outside on the first floor? She actually manages to catch up and grabs the thief, telling him he's going straight to the police. The thief isn't even scared, he just asks her if she even knows where the nearest police station is. Queque realizes she's lost in a random construction zone and is officially in trouble. The thief laughs, saying he's never had anyone chase him this fiercely before. Queque realizes she's stepped into a dangerous situation. The creep pulls out a knife and tells her she's basically delivered herself to his doorstep. Queque is stunned into silence. He threatens to slash her face for being so nosy. He swings the blade at her. Suddenly, there's a massive thud as someone intervenes. Queque closes her eyes, expecting the worst. She slowly opens one eye to see what happened. Bai Ying has arrived like a literal guardian angel, pinning the thief to the ground. His eyes are full of murderous intent as he asks the creep who he thought he was going to slash, telling him he's basically asking for death. The situation turns into a complete comedy of errors when the apprehended thief starts begging for mercy, claiming his blade was just a toy he used to scare her. Bai Ying isn't buying the "it's just a prank, bro" excuse for a second and gives the punk a look that promises a world of pain if he ever shows his face again. Realizing he's outmatched by a guy who actually touches grass, the thief books it into the distance faster than a speedrunner. Bai Ying stares at the discarded toy, looking absolutely done with the morning's chaos. He takes a deep breath, trying to lower his blood pressure after the adrenaline spike. He turns his attention back to Queque, his expression softening but still radiating serious, "we need to talk" energy. He immediately goes into protective mode, scolding her for being so reckless and asking what would have happened if the knife was actually real. He looks genuinely shaken, his eyes filled with a mix of relief and lingering fear. Internally, he felt guilty because he yelled at her without thinking, but his worry was just off the charts. Queque goes quiet, looking like a cat that just got caught knocking a vase off a table. Instead of being her usual stubborn self, she actually apologizes and admits she was way out of line this time. She confesses that seeing the knife actually terrified her, and she'll definitely think twice before playing hero again. The tension breaks when Bai Ying notices she's missing a slipper, probably lost during her Olympic-level sprint after the thief. Before she can complain about the cold ground, he swoops in for a legendary Princess Carrie, because he's not letting her walk barefoot. He teases her, suggesting that since he's carried her before, he's definitely owed a hug in return. Queque's face turns into a tomato, arguing that this situation is totally different, and she's not even drunk this time. Internally, she grumbled, "Stop being so smooth, it's cheating," as he carries her away in chibi-style glory. As they move through the city, he tells her to look up at the horizon. The sky is currently putting on a 5-star show, with a cinematic sunrise that would make any influencer jealous. Bai Ying's eyes reflect the morning glow, but he's mostly just looking at her. Queque realizes this is actually the first time she's ever watched a sunrise with someone she's caught feelings for. He whispers her name, and the vibe is suddenly 100% romance. He doesn't waste any time and asks if he can kiss her right then and there. Queque's brain completely short-circuits, but she doesn't pull away as they share a perfect morning kiss. Afterward, Bai Ying admits he's been holding back since last night because he didn't want to lose control. The romantic atmosphere takes a sudden nosedive when they realize they are officially lost and have no idea how to get back to the hotel. Meanwhile, at the local local police station, the cops are already on the move after receiving a tip from Bai Ying. They're looking for a guy in a mask and baseball cap who's currently failing at his escape. The thief is so bad at being a criminal that he literally runs straight into the police, delivering himself like a doorstep package. Back with our lost couple, they stumble upon a massive flower field that looks like a high-budget anime background. They decide to take a break and sit among the blooms since they have time to kill. Queque brings up the past, asking if he was actually lying about staying local for college just to follow her. She wonders if he's creepy for always following in her footsteps instead of doing his own thing. Bai Ying gives her a look that's pure sincerity, telling her she needs to remember one thing. He explains that she's the reason he regained his confidence in the first place. Because of her, he actually found hobbies and strengths he never knew he had. She even inspired him to chase his dream of becoming a screenwriter. He finishes by saying she's the one he's chosen to protect for the rest of his life. Queque gets flustered by the sudden confession, asking if he ever gets embarrassed saying such cheesy things. He counters by saying it's all the truth and asks why she can't say something sweet back for once. She tells him not to provoke her, reminding him that he already did strange things to her last night. Bai Ying's eyes go wide, wondering if he did something wild in his sleep that he doesn't remember. She clarifies that him hugging her from behind in bed was definitely weird enough for her. He starts pinching her cheeks, telling her she has no clue how much he's been holding back. Queque pinches him right back, reminding him that she's also a grown adult with her own self-control issues. He's surprised because he thought she always preferred to keep things platonic and one of the guys. They continue their playful bickering in the middle of the field, looking like a total power couple. A butterfly suddenly catches her eye, distracting her from their argument. The distraction causes them to tumble into the flowers together, landing in a very suggestive position. Staring into her eyes, he suggests that maybe they should both just stop holding back. Queque panics in chibi mode, telling him to keep holding back because he's getting way too carried away. He gives in with a soft smile, promising to play by her rules. He leans down for a gentle kiss, telling her he'll wait until she's ready. It's honestly hard to tell who's more flustered at this point. They finally decide it's getting late and they need to find their way back to civilization. When they finally make it back to the hotel, their friend is waiting for them and looks absolutely stunned. The couple looks like they've been through a literal hedge backwards, with clothes that are messy and covered in leaves. Their friend finally spots them and rushes over, looking like she's seen a ghost. She starts yelling about why they weren't in their room and why they disappeared. She's been trying to call them all night, but their phones were basically useless. Queque tries to play it cool, claiming she just went out for some fresh air, but the friend cuts the small talk, telling Queque she needs to pack her bags immediately. There's been a massive emergency at home, and they need to catch the fastest flight back right now. The romantic getaway is officially over because reality just slapped Queque in the face with a family emergency. Bai Ying doesn't waste a second, rushing her back to the city as fast as possible. He promises to stay by her side through whatever mess is waiting for them. All the sweet, fluffy vibes from the flower field are replaced by pure anxiety as they head toward the hospital. On the ride home, the silence is deafening. Bai Ying keeps a close eye on her, sensing that she's on the verge of a total breakdown. He reaches out and firmly holds her hand, trying to be the anchor she needs right now. When they finally arrive, the news is Queque's mom is in a hospital bed, barely hanging on with an oxygen mask. The doctor drops a massive bomb. Her condition has relapsed, and she only has a few months left unless she gets a heart transplant. Bai Ying listens from the door, his heart sinking as the doctor mentions that the cost of the surgery is astronomical. Hearing the price tag, Mom weakly suggests they just give up and let nature take its course. Queque isn't having it and tells her mom to stop talking nonsense because they're getting her on that transplant list no matter what. She tries to put on a brave face, telling her mom to just focus on resting while she and her dad handle everything. But speaking of her dad, the man finally shows up, looking more like a stranger than a parent. He doesn't offer a hug or even a kind word. Instead, he tells Queque to take a look at some papers. It's a divorce agreement. This absolute deadbeat is trying to bail while his wife is literally fighting for her life. Queque stares at him in disbelief as he coldly tells her to just sign the papers. He claims he has to go to work and leaves a lawyer to handle the rest, walking out like he's just finishing a business meeting. Bai Ying catches the man in the hallway, looking ready to throw hands. He tries to call the guy out for being a coward. Internally, he hesitated. If I start a fight now, it'll only make things harder for Sparrow. He clenches his fist so hard his knuckles turn white, forcing himself to stay calm for Queque's sake. He watches as the man walks away, completely unbothered by the wreckage he's leaving behind. Queque charges out of the room, screaming that he's a rotten scumbag. She catches up to him in the hall, refusing to let him leave without a piece of her mind. The dad has the audacity to act like he's the victim, telling her she'll understand when she's older. Queque goes off, listing every single one of his failures, from his gambling addiction to the way he ruined their family with his coldness. He tells her to show some respect, but the bridge is already burnt. She asks him point blank if he's really going to abandon them when they need him most. He just gives a cold, one-word answer, fine. Queque's expression goes dark as she realizes the man she called dad is officially dead to her. She decides that if he wants to leave, he can leave in style. She reaches down and grabs her shoe. She hurls it at his head with everything she's got, screaming at him to get out and never come back. The man is stunned for a split second. He looks back one last time, but there's no regret in his eyes. He turns his back on his daughter and walks out of her life. As soon as he's gone, the adrenaline wears off and the trauma hits. Queque remembers the happy memories of him from her childhood and starts to sob. Bai Ying is right there to catch her before she hits the floor. He pulls her into a tight embrace, letting her cry into his chest. They stand there in the middle of the hospital hallway, two kids facing a problem way too big for them. Internally, Bai Ying felt a crushing weight. I'm so powerless. I have nothing to give her. He looks at her with pure heartbreak, wondering how he can possibly protect her future when he's just as penniless as she is. Later that night, Queque sits by her mom's bed, trying to act like everything is fine. She tells her mom to sleep, even though she's the one who looks like she's about to collapse. The next day, the squad gathers to talk numbers, and the situation is bleak. Their friend points out that they're just students and can't exactly take out a massive mortgage. Queque decides she's going to double her comic release schedule to bring in more cash. Bai Ying immediately protests, knowing she's going to work herself to death. She tries to joke about it, saying she's already an expert at fainting, so she'll be fine. Bai Ying isn't laughing, he knows she's masking her pain. He looks at her, feeling a mix of admiration and total desperation. Internally, he made a vow. I have to find a way to pay this off for her. His hand trembles with the pressure of it all. He hates that he doesn't have the means to solve her problems right now. Queque tells them not to worry too much because she doesn't want to drag them down. She puts on a cute, chibi-style persona to lighten the mood, promising to borrow from relatives. She eventually sends them off to school, waving goodbye with a forced smile. But as soon as they're out of sight, the mask slips. She slumps down on the hospital bench and finally lets the tears flow in private. Back at the university, the atmosphere is just as heavy. Bai Ying and his friend discuss the reality of the transplant cost. They brainstorm everything from online fundraising to predatory loans, but nothing seems like enough. They end up sitting through a guest lecture by Danny Gao, a famous screenwriter. The professor catches them whispering and gives them a warning to focus. After the class ends, teacher Danny calls Bai Ying over. Bai Ying is confused, thinking he's in trouble. Danny reveals that he was reviewing the pop quiz scripts from earlier. He tells Bai Ying that his story was top tier and stood out from all the generic garbage. He then drops a life-changing offer. He wants Bai Ying to join his professional creative team. Bai Ying stares at him, realizing this might be the miracle he's been praying for to save Queque's mom. Danny Gao is laying out the ultimate career bait. A massive signing bonus and a once-in-a-lifetime chance to study abroad. He leaves Bai Ying with a business card and a lot of life-changing decisions to think about. Bai Ying hits the streets, desperately trying to secure any kind of side hustle to help with the bills. One shopkeeper shuts him down immediately because they aren't looking for part-time college students. Another recruiter rejects him because his major doesn't match the skilled labor they need. Then a shady lady tries to recruit him for a high-paying job based on his image, which is a total red flag. He wanders the city at sunset, feeling the crushing weight of being absolutely penniless. Internally, he's stressing about his script work and wondering if Queque is struggling with her own weekend shifts. Suddenly, he spots Queque working like a literal mule, hauling heavy boxes as a courier. Her hand starts cramping up under the weight of the massive package. Before she can drop it, Bai Ying swoops in and snatches the load from her. Queque is completely blindsided to see him standing there in the middle of her shift. He looks at her with a serious "what are you even doing" stare. Queque tries to flex some main character energy, claiming she's just being a courier to cover the medical expenses. She laughs it off, insisting she can always squeeze in more work. Bai Ying isn't buying the fake optimism for a single second. He notices her right hand is looking rough from all that manual labor. Internally, he's fuming because that hand is meant for creating art, not being destroyed by hard labor. He tells her he's not taking no for an answer, he's finishing the delivery shift with her. They grind through the packages together until the city lights come on. In a cute chibi moment, Queque scolds him for taking a nasty fall because a random dog scared him. She's actually feeling hyped because the holiday pay is double today. But the vibe gets serious when Bai Ying pulls out disinfectant to treat her scrapes. He knew she was too stubborn to go to a hospital for what she calls a minor injury. He looks her in the eye and makes her promise to always put herself first. Queque tells him not to worry since her mom already borrowed some money from relatives. That's when he drops a heavy question. If an opportunity came to broaden her future, would she leave everyone behind to grab it? She stays silent, processing the weight of the question. Then she honestly admits she probably would. He tells her she's right to prioritize her future over any romantic feelings. He looks a bit pained, but he knows the reality of their situation. He sighs and agrees that he's making the right choice. They start their usual bickering as they walk home, with him calling her Granny Queque and her telling him he's an old man. Once he's back home and alone, the reality of the situation hits him hard. He stares at Danny Gao's business card while cooling off from his run. He's torn between staying and securing the funds they desperately need for the transplant. Finally, he closes his eyes and makes the life-changing call. He asks to speak with teacher Danny. Next thing we know, they're at a high-end cafe and Danny is officially welcoming him to the Freedom Kids team. Bai Ying thanks him but gets straight to the point. He asks about the signing bonus being paid out early. Danny just smiles behind his shades, not bothered at all. He promises to transfer the money and handle all the school negotiations. The catch, they're flying out to London at the start of next month. Danny tells him to spend his last few days with the person he cherishes most. Meanwhile, Queque is out on the street when she gets a sudden phone call. She's completely stunned by what the person on the other end is saying. The hospital informs her that the heart transplant fee has been paid in full and her mother is officially on the list. She's confused because she knows she didn't have that kind of cash. Then she spots Bai Ying walking toward her. He's still acting like everything is normal even as she's delivering packages. She runs up and asks if he's the one who paid for her mother's medical expenses. He looks at her calmly and simply says yes. She's shook, wondering where a college student managed to find that much money. He explains he came to talk to her about exactly that. He tells her he signed with the professional team and the money was his signing bonus, but he's leaving for London in a few days. Queque's heart sinks as she asks if he only signed because her mom's situation. He grabs her hand and insists he made the choice for his own future, so she shouldn't feel guilty. She asks the big question, how long will he be gone? He looks away and tells her it'll probably be 3 years. He tells her not to feel pressured to pay him back. Then he asks if she's willing to wait for him. 3 years is an eternity for 2 college students. But she looks him in the eyes and promises she'll wait. He's visibly moved by her answer, his eyes sparkling. He reaches out for her hand. He pulls her into a tight hug, telling her to quit the courier job and get back to her comic. He asks if she'll be willing to spend every possible second before he flies out. Of course, she says yes. They decide that for the next few days, they're going to do everything a real couple should do. The chapter ends with a sweet, blushing smile as they finally face their future together. Queque is officially speedrunning her final hours with her man, ready to cram an entire relationship's worth of dates into a single day. Bai Ying is visibly blindsided by her actually using the word date, but she's just giving him the lovey-dovey energy he's been begging for. First on the itinerary is a horror movie marathon where Bai Ying is the one hiding behind a pillow while Queque stays completely unfazed. Then they attempt a makeup challenge, and Bai Ying's skills are so mid that Queque ends up looking like a rejected mascot. Next, they hit the grocery store where she's literally riding in the cart like a toddler while he does the heavy lifting. Of course, they get caught in 4K by a staff member who tells these grown-ups to act their age. The vibe shifts when they decide to spend their final night together, though Queque's heart rate is clearly hitting triple digits. Bai Ying keeps it respectful, promising he's not going to try anything funny and just wants to hold her. Queque stares at the ceiling, the reality sinking in that he's heading to the airport in just a few hours. She tries to be the ultimate hype woman, telling him he better grind hard now that he's joined Danny Gao's international team. Bai Ying tries to play it humble, claiming he just got lucky. She isn't buying it, insisting his script writing is elite, and that he could even branch out into other genres. He drops a massive cheesy line saying other stories don't have her in them, so they aren't worth writing. Internally, she's short-circuiting from the cringe, wondering how much dairy is stuffed in his brain. Apparently, he's got a mental library of 600 more lines, just like that one. Morning light finally hits the room, signaling the end of their final sleepover. He wakes her up with her Sparrow, nicknamed One Last Time. He starts to get his luggage together, but before he can even think about making breakfast, the plot takes a wild turn. Queque gets a call that changes everything. A heart match was found for her mom. She's absolutely ecstatic, but realizes she has to bail on their airport goodbye to get to the hospital. They agree to meet up as soon as things settle, and she sprints off while he tells her to stay safe on the road. Later, Bai Ying meets up with Danny Gao, looking like he's in his feels. He's rushing to get his life together before the flight. At the airport, Danny asks if he's still waiting for his girlfriend to show up. Bai Ying tells the boss to go ahead without him while he lingers by the gate. He's constantly checking his phone, worried because she's not picking up any of his calls. Suddenly, Queque appears in the terminal, waving like a total maniac. She didn't answer her phone because she wanted to deliver the news in person. The surgery was a massive W. Her mom is stable and recovering, and she knows none of this would have happened without him. Bai Ying finally lets out a sigh of relief, his biggest stressor finally gone. The airport intercom starts screaming that his flight to London is boarding immediately. He gets serious for a second, telling her that he can't offer her money or status right now, but he makes a firm promise that he's all in. They seal the 3-year commitment with a final kiss before she tells him to get moving so he doesn't miss his plane. He accepts the mission. They trade one last goodbye. It's a 3-year long-distance contract, signed and delivered, that officially wraps up the college chapter of their lives. Fast forward 3 years later, and Queque is at a bookstore, picking up the latest releases for Healthy Mom. She's grabbing the new Danny Gao trilogy, which is basically a staple in their house now. On the TV in the background, the Green Jade Bamboo Awards are being broadcast. The Best New Screenwriter award goes to none other than Bai Ying. The locals are hyped, bragging about their hometown hero being both talented and a total snack. Queque just smiles to herself, knowing her man is absolutely crushing it. She heads home, where her mom is doing great, and immediately starts nagging her about the books. Mom mentions that Bai Ying is returning to the country any day now and asks why Queque isn't at the airport. Queque explains he wanted to surprise her, which her mom thinks is peak romance. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. It's not the boyfriend, though it's her friends, coming over to leech some of Mom's famous braised pork. They start grilling her about when the mischief maker, Bai Ying, is actually landing. One friend notices that Queque has really matured since graduation. However, her guy friend ruins the moment by saying she looks more like a disenchanted old lady. She nearly catches a case over that comment, threatening him with a firm fist. Internally, she starts to wonder if she really has become indifferent to everything while waiting. Is this just what being an adult feels like? Her phone starts ringing. It's him. He tells her he's finally here. There's a massive rumble sound vibrating through the phone. He tells her he's waiting on the roof of the shopping mall right across from her house. She ditches her mom and the food, sprinting out the door in her slippers. She bursts onto the roof, completely out of breath. When she sees him, her entire face lights up. This man didn't just take a taxi. He pulled up in a whole helicopter like a straight-up CEO. They run toward each other across the rooftop. She leaps into his arms for a high-speed hug. He whispers that he missed her. After 3 long years, the wait is finally over. Back from London and straight into a hug, the tension is already off the charts as Queque realizes her little sparrow heart can't handle as much proximity. They catch a breather on the steps, where Bai Ying drops the news that his team is moving back permanently to focus on the domestic market. And he's even got a brand new studio ready to go. Queque is beaming, officially declaring that being an award-winning screenwriter comes with some top-tier perks. while Bai Ying just stares at her like she's the only trophy he actually cares about. He gets serious for a second, asking if she's really given up on her dream of creating original comics. Queque plays it off with a smile, claiming that being a comic assistant is actually a pretty sweet gig. Internally, she's trying to convince herself that a smaller paycheck is worth the lack of stress. Bai Ying doesn't look entirely convinced, but he lets the subject drop for now. Changing the vibe, he invites her to come check out his new workspace. They arrive at a massive, ultra-modern villa that looks like it belongs to a tech billionaire, and Queque is absolutely floored by the flex. She's already imagining throwing massive hot pot parties in the living room, because the place is straight up cavernous. Bai Ying explains that since the rest of the team hasn't moved back yet, he's currently the only one rattling around in this giant house. Queque thinks living alone in a mansion sounds like the dream, but she's curious about his personal space. With a simple "follow me," he leads her toward the master bedroom. The moment she steps inside, she's greeted by a massive, glowing portrait of herself right above his dresser. Queque immediately goes into chibi mode, screaming that he's a total pervert and demanding he take it down. Once the chaos dies down, she asks if he's actually scared living in such a big place all by himself. Bai Ying catches her off guard, admitting it gets lonely, before dropping the ultimate line, "Can you stay with me for the night?" Quicky's brain practically short-circuits as she tries to process the request. She starts stammering about needing to get used to this new dynamic, reminding him that they've only ever kissed once, and that was years ago. She's basically a blushing mess, shouting that she's still way too shy for this. Bai Ying leans in close, promising to take it slow and not do anything she's not ready for. The riz is undeniable as he closes the gap between them. He just wants to be near her, claiming he just wants to smell her scent, while they sit on the edge of the bed. But then disaster strikes, someone trips, and the mood goes from romantic to a literal downfall. Suddenly, Queque finds herself pinned to the mattress with Bai Ying hovering right over her. He apologizes, joking about what her mother would think if she saw them like this. Queque huffs, calling him a jerk and realizing he's definitely learned a few moves during his 3 years abroad. Bai Ying smirks, asking what she really thinks about the changes he's gone through. Queque takes a long, hard look at the man before her. She notices his Adam's apple is way more prominent than she remembered. His shoulders have gotten broader, filling out his suit perfectly. Everything about his voice and presence feels more intense, more masculine. She pauses, searching for the right words. Bai Ying waits, his eyes locked onto hers. Finally, she admits it. She thinks she likes him even more now than she did before. That honest confession is a direct hit to Bai Ying's heart, and he's the one blushing now. He covers his face, totally blindsided by her sincerity. He collapses onto her, hiding his face in her shoulder and telling her she needs to say stuff like that less often. Queque is confused, wondering why she has to hold back when she finally mustered the courage to be bold. After all, hasn't he always wanted her to be more vocal about her feelings? Bai Ying whispers the truth against her skin. He's scared that if she keeps being this cute, he won't be able to resist taking things further. They end up spending the night just like that, wrapped in each other's arms in the middle of the giant bed. The next morning, Queque wakes up feeling refreshed and realizes she's borrowed one of his shirts, which is basically the newlywed starter pack. She wanders into the kitchen to find Bai Ying already at the stove, looking like a literal domestic god. The vibes are immaculate, it's like they've been married for years. He serves up a breakfast that looks like it belongs on a 5-star Instagram feed. Queque happily tucks in, expecting a gourmet experience, but the moment she bites down, she realizes something is very wrong. The food is so tough she can't even chew it, and her perfect morning takes a hilarious hit. Bai Ying is baffled, claiming he followed his mentor Danny's recipe to the letter. Queque can't help but laugh. It turns out even the perfect Bai Ying has a glaring flaw: he's a disaster in the kitchen. She looks at him, noting that he's wealthy, handsome, and charming. He seemed almost unreal to her before this moment. She mentions that compared to him, she's just an ordinary office drone. Bai Ying shuts that down immediately, telling her he won't allow her to belittle herself. He insists that the person he is today only exists because of her. He looks her in the eye and asks the big question: "Do you want to collaborate on a comic with me again?" He's got a notebook ready for a new adaptation project. Queque is stunned, her mind racing. He knows she usually hates drawing other people's scripts, but he hopes that since it's him, she'll reconsider. Queque looks down, her expression complicated. Her eyes are full of a mix of nostalgia and hesitation. Bai Ying reminds her that she used to love a challenge and never gave up, no matter how tough things got. She sighs, telling him that people change and 3 years is a long time. She insists she just wants to be a good assistant for now, keeping her expectations low. Bai Ying stares at her, seeing right through the facade. He knows her better than anyone, and he can tell when she's faking a smile to hide her true feelings. He gives in for now, saying he understands. He tells her the offer stands whenever she changes her mind, while he tries to salvage the breakfast situation. Queque stays silent, her thoughts a mystery. Bai Ying takes a bite of his own cooking and finally realizes why she was struggling: it's basically inedible. He gives up, suggesting they just go out to eat and stop torturing their taste buds. Queque agrees and then suggests they go visit her mom together. Bai Ying's face lights up at the idea of seeing his mother-in-law. They arrive at her mom's place, and Queque announces her return. Her mom is in high spirits, dusting the place and immediately teasing Queque about staying out all night. Mom's eyes go wide when she sees Bai Ying standing there. She goes into full panic mode, apologizing for the mess and wishing she'd known her son-in-law was coming over. Bai Ying is a total gentleman, telling her not to worry and joking about mooching a meal. Mom is thrilled, declaring they're all family now and rushing to the kitchen. Bai Ying just gives a small, satisfied yes to the family comment. While Mom cooks, Bai Ying takes a look around the apartment where Queque grew up. He asks to see her room, and Queque warns him that it's definitely not going to be clean. She wasn't lying, the room is a total disaster zone, with classic Queque messiness everywhere. Clothes are unfolded, the desk is a wreck, and there's literal garbage on the floor. It feels like they're a newlywed couple as Bai Ying rolls up his sleeves. They spend the next hour cleaning together, and Queque jokes that he's earned a 5-star rating as a nanny and asks what reward he wants. Bai Ying doesn't answer with words. He catches her off guard, causing her to trip again. He scoops her up into a lap hug, holding her abruptly. He claims he just needs a quick hug, but his eyes say something else entirely. Queque is panicked, reminding him that her mom is literally right outside the door. She thinks he's acting like a big needy puppy, but she's secretly falling for the cuteness. Bai Ying leans in, a small smirk playing on his lips. He gets close to her neck, the atmosphere turning heavy. Queque gasps as she feels his breath on her skin. She whispers his name, her heart racing, but Bai Ying isn't stopping, leaning in for a nibble as Queque can only whisper wait, while her resolve completely melts. Bai Ying is officially in full-on flirt mode, nuzzling into Queque's neck like he's trying to win a reward for being the most clingy boyfriend on the planet. He pulls the big doggy card, acting all innocent and claiming he just loves to smell around, which is honestly a top-tier simp move. Queque is absolutely short-circuiting, her face turning a shade of red that would make a tomato jealous as she tries to resist his puppy dog eyes. Internally, she groaned, "This guy is a menace to my sanity." He even goes as far as barking for her, proving he has zero shame when it comes to getting her attention. The romantic atmosphere is instantly nuked when Queque's mom walks in, catching them mid-cuddle and looking like she's ready to document the whole thing for the family group chat. They both jump apart like they've been caught in 4K, snapping to attention the moment she announces dinner is ready. Things get even more awkward at the table when mom casually drops the marriage bomb, nearly causing Queque to choke on her rice. Queque tries to play it off as being way too early, but her mom just laughs, claiming she won't rush them as long as they're happy together. Bai Ying, being the master of winning over mothers-in-law, starts praising the braised pork and asks for a cooking lesson to secure his spot in the family. Mom is totally vibing with the flattery, bragging that her cooking beats any restaurant in town. Since Bai Ying claims he has plenty of free time, he suggests a lesson later that evening. Mom takes it a step further and tells him to just sleep over, essentially giving him the green light to move in. Bai Ying pretends to be hesitant for about half a second before agreeing. He makes a weak excuse about having no clothes, but Mom tells him to just order a delivery, leaving Queque wondering when she lost control of her own life. Queque finally snaps, asking if anyone is going to consult her about this sleepover arrangement. The two of them just stare at her with matching deadpan expressions, basically telling her that her opinion doesn't matter. Defeated, she buries her face in her hands, realizing she's been outvoted in her own home. Still, seeing them get along so well gives her a warm feeling she can't quite shake. Watching them together in the kitchen makes everything feel surprisingly domestic and right. Later that night, Bai Ying emerges from the shower rocking Queque's oversized clothes, and honestly, he's pulling it off. Queque notices that his glow up since moving to London is no joke. The man is definitely more toned than he used to be. The shirt is clearly struggling to contain his muscles, which he casually points out while adjusting the collar. Queque gives him a sarcastic thumbs up, teasing him about how much he must have hit the gym overseas. He admits the competition was fierce, so he had to stay in peak condition. As she stares at his physique, the thought of actually touching those muscles crosses her mind. He catches her staring with those intense eyes and gives her a playful okay to go ahead. He wears a smug smirk, knowing exactly what he's doing. He invites her come closer, but instead of a romantic moment, Queque flips into artist mode, using his body as a literal anatomy reference for her shading and highlights. Tired of being treated like a mannequin, Bai Ying grabs her wrist. He pulls her close and guides her hand to his chest, telling her to stop focusing on the top and feel the actual muscles. Queque is officially panicking, her brain completely frying from the proximity. Right on cue, Mom barges in again without knocking, holding a plate of fruit like a tactical distraction. She casually reminds Bai Ying that he's not allowed to sleep on the sofa, basically forcing him into Queque's room. She gives them a knowing stare that screams, "I know what you're up to." Her silent question hangs in the air, leaving Bai Ying blushing and Queque wondering if her mom is secretly a professional wingman. Mom continues her commentary from outside the door, telling them to cover up and stay warm. Once the door is shut, the tension returns instantly as Bai Ying pins Queque down on the bed. He asks if she touched him earlier, and she sheepishly admits she did. He decides it's time for an equivalent exchange, suggesting he gets to touch her back. Queque is losing her mind, calling his logic totally sleazy. He doubles down, offering his abs for her to feel too, while she internally screams about how much he's changed. He playfully blames her for his new personality. The two end up in a chaotic wrestling match under the blankets. They eventually settle down, and Queque starts asking for his workout routine, admitting she's been training for months with zero results. Bai Ying gets serious for a moment, leaning in close and reminding her about that equivalent exchange. Queque stares back, her heart racing as she tries to process what he's implying. Things get incredibly heated as they disappear under the covers, with Queque trying to tell him to wait. He whispers her name, noticing her ears are glowing bright red from the intimacy. She tries to act tough and tells him to stop, but the romantic tension is through the roof. They both end up flustered and blushing, lost in the moment. Suddenly, Queque makes a sound that could definitely be misinterpreted, and she immediately claps her hands over her mouth in horror. Bai Ying is just as shocked, his face turning beet red as they both realize how that sounded. Mortified, they both dive under the blankets and call it a night before things get even more out of hand. The next morning, the sun is shining over the city terrace. Queque is already up and grabbing breakfast, But Bai Ying is still dead to the world, struggling with the time difference. Mom slaps Queque's hand away from the food, telling her she has to wait for Gus to wake up. Instead of eating, Mom sends her on an errand to the bookstore to pick up the latest release from her favorite author. Queque tries to argue that they could just get a copy from Bai Ying's studio, but Mom isn't having it. She insists on contributing to her idol's sales because it's her only hobby. Queque realizes there's no winning against a hardcore fangirl and heads out. The bell rings as she enters the bookstore. The shopkeeper greets her immediately, knowing she's a regular. Queque explains that her mom already finished yesterday's book and needs the new one. While the shopkeeper looks for it, she mentions how the author's work is selling like hotcakes. Queque decides to wander around for a bit. She finds herself standing in front of the comics section. She looks up at the shelves of new releases, and her hand drifts toward a specific volume. It's a copy of Romantic Shoujo by Little Bird, her very own secret identity from back in the day. Standing there, she gets lost in her thoughts, looking like a character in a movie as she reflects on her past. She stares blankly at the books, remembering Bai Ying's face when he asked her to collaborate. His voice echoes in her head, asking if she wants to draw again. She looks conflicted, her eyes filled with a mix of longing, hesitation. Suddenly, she's pulled back to reality by a conversation nearby. A young student is asking the shopkeeper why she can't find any comics by Little Bird anymore. The girl is looking for the artist who drew the lovey-dovey girl's comic. The shopkeeper admits they haven't stocked it in a long time. The student looks heartbroken, her eyes brimming with disappointment. Queque can't help herself and approaches the girl, asking if she really likes Little Bird's work. The girl's face lights up instantly, and she starts gushing about how much she loves the author. She's devastated that the author hasn't released anything new. She mentions how people said the later comics were ordinary or unpopular, but she thinks they were amazing. Queque listens intently as the girl explains that the comics were her lifeline. They got her through the dark days of middle school. They gave her the confidence she never had. Because of Little Bird, she even dreamt of becoming a comic artist herself. Seeing the genuine passion in the girl's eyes, Queque finds herself tearing up. She tries to wipe the tears away, making excuses for her emotional reaction, to thank the girl for her support. Queque tells her she actually has a signed copy of the debut work and offers to send it to her. The fan is absolutely losing it with joy, thanking her over and over. Queque smiles, realizing that she's the one who should be saying thank you for the motivation. She laughs, noting how much the girl truly loves the work. They share a heartwarming moment as fellow comic lovers. But as the girl leaves, her final wish lingers in the air. If only she could continue drawing. Queque stares into the distance, the words hitting her harder than any professional offer ever could. She remembers the nights spent at her tablet, the joy of drawing in class, the excitement of reading under the covers with a flashlight, and the thrill of holding a new book. Her eyes spark with a renewed fire as she finally accepts the call to keep on drawing. Queque is finally done playing hard to get with her own talent and bursts through the door with a major announcement. Bai Ying is practically blindsided as she declares she's ready to stop moping and start drawing the comic adaptation of his work immediately. He's clearly winning because plan to reignite her passion worked perfectly, and he tells her it's time they fight side by side again. Internally, she's feeling herself, thinking, watch out world, the queen is back and I'm making this IP legendary. Since the contract is at the studio, Bai Ying tells her she needs to pack her bags and head over with him. While grabbing a drink, Queque spots the studio building and it's basically a high-end mansion, making her wonder if she's joining a creative team or a country club. The rest of the Free Kids crew arrives, looking like they just survived a boss fight after a grueling long-haul flight. Danny, the guy in the shades, is immediately confused about the random pink-haired girl standing in their lobby. Bai Ying doesn't miss a beat, introducing Queque as his girlfriend while Danny claims he's basically the group's nanny. Next up is Enki, a shy girl who uses a plushie as a human shield because social interaction is clearly her kryptonite. Then there's Yu Tian, the friendly one who mentions he hears about Queque every single day, much to Bai Ying's embarrassment. Finally, we meet Wang Wanner, who is already radiating major pick-me energy and glaring daggers. Queque catches the vibe in 4K, realizing this girl definitely has a massive crush on her man. The team welcomes her, mentioning they'll be seeing her every single day from now on. Queque is confused because she thought this just a meeting, not a permanent sleepover. Danny drops the bomb that since they're deep-level collaborators, she's officially moving into the studio house. Internally, her brain is short-circuiting as she realizes her commute just became a trip to the next room. Bai Ying tries to sell it as the ultimate professional environment where they can work 24/7. He promises that being closed means they can fix any issues on the fly without waiting for a Zoom call. It's all for the sake of the work, or so he says with a straight face. The boys all give a massive thumbs up, fully supporting this professional living arrangement. Of course, they leave the final decision up to her, even though the trap is already set. Queque figures that if it helps the comic, she might as well lean into the chaos. While Bai Ying heads upstairs to grab the paperwork, he takes a secret victory lap. He gets on a call to check in on a job well done. It turns out the devoted fan Queque met earlier was actually an actress he helped out. The girl on the phone admits she was shaking in her boots trying to act in front of her idol. Bai Ying smiles, asking if the role was too much for her to handle. She tells him it wasn't all acting because she truly loves Queque's work and wanted to touch her heart. Bai Ying admits he he was just probing her feelings to see if she still had the spark. The fangirl promises to keep supporting them and tells him he better protect Queque at all costs. He watches her from the balcony, internally promising that he's got her back forever. Back downstairs, Danny apologizes for the mess since they just moved back from London. Wang Wenner is busy struggling with a heavy bag and complaining about her mom's overpacking skills. Queque decides to be the bigger person and offers to carry the load for her. Wenner just points toward her room like she's dealing with a hired help. Once they're inside, Queque asks if there's anything else she needs moved. Wenner immediately starts trash-talking, wondering how someone as ordinary as Queque landed a guy like Bai Ying. She mocks Queque for not having fame, titles, or even a decent fashion sense. She claims that a high-tier guy like Ying only deserves an exceptional woman like herself. Quicky's expression goes totally blank as she prepares to end this girl's whole career. She leans in close, whispering that despite how exceptional Wenner thinks she is, Bai Ying hasn't shown a lick of interest in her. Queque drops the bag right there, telling her to move the rest herself since she's clearly not exceptional enough to be her porter. Wenner is left screaming in rage while Queque walks away like a boss. Later, the news of the move-in reaches Queque's house and her mom is absolutely shook. Queque tries to act like she's worried about leaving her mom alone, offering to cancel the whole thing. But her mom is already speed-running the packing process, practically throwing her clothes into a suitcase. Mom tells her she's been fine for 40 years and doesn't need a young thing hovering over her. Internally, Mom is celebrating, thinking that living together means grandkids by next year, and she finally gets to meet her idol, Danny. Back at the studio, it's time to celebrate with a round of drinks. Danny officially welcomes Queque to the Free Kids China sub-team family. Queque is all smiles, asking everyone to take good care of her as they toast to the future. The guys plan to party until dawn, talking about karaoke, late-night snacks, and spa trips. Cut to a few hours later, and the entire team is absolutely wasted face down on the furniture. Queque realizes the work pressure must be insane if these pros drop like flies after 2 drinks. She decides to head to her new room to prep for their first real meeting in the morning. Bai Ying walks her to the door, promising to help her clean up if her room gets messy. Internally, she scoffs, asking if he's trying to be her manservant now. She jokingly asks if being a manservant means he has to work the night shift too. Bai Ying gives her a look that is pure riz, making Queque realize she just walked into a trap of her own making. Suddenly, Danny appears out of nowhere like a jump scare, asking what they're up to. He warns them that while the team doesn't forbid romance, they absolutely cannot cross the line at home. Queque is totally lost, but Bai Ying seems to know exactly what the rules are. He tells Danny to mind his business and get back to work. Once they're alone, Queque asks what the actual standard for crossing the line is. Bai Ying leans in until they're practically breathing the same air, whispering that it's anything beyond a kiss. He leaves her standing there, completely flustered, as he wishes her a very suggestive good night. The next morning at the studio mansion, Queque wakes up and rubs the sleep from her eyes, feeling the weight of the new project already. She heads downstairs to find the rest of the team already gathered for breakfast, and Danny welcomes her to the table. She greets everyone with a bright smile, looking refreshed and ready to tackle the day. The scene shifts to the backyard pool area, where the sun is just starting to hit the water. Bai Ying tracks down Danny to ask where the star artist disappeared to, only to find out she's already been grinding in the backyard for hours. He finds her buried in stacks of paper, looking incredibly focused and serious. She shows him the revised female lead designs and a full spreadsheet of storyline suggestions she whipped up. Internally, she scoffed. Who needs coffee when you have the pressure of a deadline? Bai Ying is clearly impressed, suggesting they sit down and go over her work together. Queque catches him staring and asks why he's looking at her with that intense expression. Bai Ying adjusts his glasses, admitting that the sight of her working just made him feel a bit nostalgic. It reminds him of their college days, back when they were both struggling and trying to find their footing in the industry. Queque smiles, recalling how she was the one who gave him a shot as a scriptwriter back then. Now the tables have turned, and he's the one giving her the chance to be the lead artist on a major IP. He gets a little cheesy, asking how she plans to make up for the 3 years of emptiness he felt while she was gone. Queque immediately shuts down the cringe with a swift head bonk, telling him he spent way too much time being slick with his words. She gets serious for a moment, asking if they can keep their progression gradual from now on. She points out that with so many people in the studio, acting like a couple would be super awkward and unprofessional. Bai Ying realizes he's been a bit inconsiderate of her feelings. He takes a moment to process her request, his expression softening. He then proposes a gradual progression rule to keep things comfortable. Queque is confused, asking what kind of weird gaming logic he's trying to apply to their relationship. He explains they should start with basic levels of intimacy, like holding hands or hugging. Once she's used to that, they can move on to the next stage of interaction. He looks her in the eye, waiting to see if she'll accept the terms. Internally, she thought, this actually sounds safe and reliable. Wait, am I being played? She finally agrees to start with the first step. They stand together, and she asks where they should actually begin. Slowly, their hands move toward each other in the morning light. They finally interlock fingers, testing the waters of this new rule. It's a simple, quiet contact. He asks this level is okay, and she blushes, looking away while nodding. Internally, she's screaming, it's fine, but my heart is literally trying to escape my chest right now. However, she quickly points out a major flaw. Holding hands makes it pretty inconvenient for her to actually draw. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the romantic atmosphere like a chainsaw. It's Wang Wan'er catching them in 4K and looking completely done with their nonsense. She scoffs, pointing out that after all this time, she can't believe they're still just at the hand-holding stage. The couple freezes in total silence. Queque stays quiet for a beat, processing the insult. Then she fires back, telling the stranger that they definitely shouldn't be doing the other stages in front of an audience anyway. The bold comeback leaves Bai Ying blushing furiously while Queque instantly regrets being so assertive. Wan'er loses her cool, screaming about how annoying they are and how she's over their PDA. She tosses a phone at them, yelling that it's been ringing in the dining room for ages and she only came out to stop the noise. Bai Ying watches her storm off, noting that she's the editor from the comic adaptation platform. He picks up the phone and greets the editor-in-chief. As he listens, his face goes pale and his expression turns cold. He's clearly blindsided by the news. Queque notices the shift and asks what's going wrong. He explains that the platform claims the story outline lacks a hook and won't pass review without major, tone-shifting changes. Queque is worried. Forcing a cheap hook into the story would ruin the original vision they both believe in. Bai Ying sits her down, explaining that if they don't want to sell out, they might have to switch platforms or even go independent on social media. But the reality check is harsh. Going indie means no platform promotion and no regular salary for her. Queque looks down, the dream of the project suddenly feeling very fragile. She looks up at him, reminding him that he's the parent of this story and needs to let it grow the right way. She tells him not to worry about her salary because he's already taking care of her mom's medical bills and her living expenses. Internally, she decided, I'd rather be penniless than work on a story that's been stripped of its soul. She promises to support him no matter what path they choose. Bai Ying is visibly moved, his eyes shining as he looks at her. He makes his final decision. A small, confident smile returns to his face. Queque decides they need a change of scenery and asks if he has time for her to show him a special place. They share a cute, lighthearted moment as she gets him to follow her. Bai Ying is curious about where she's leading him. They arrive at a breathtaking, hidden lake tucked away from the city's noise. Queque presents the view like a prize. She explains she found this spot by pure coincidence. She tells him that whenever she felt sad or lost while he was gone, she'd come here to stare at the water and let her soul heal. Bai Ying watches her, his heart heavy with the realization of what she went through alone. He wonders about the struggles she faced during those 3 years apart. Queque tries to brush it off, admitting she just felt like she was being replaced by newcomers in the industry. She confesses that even though she survived, something was always missing without him. Now that he's back, she wants to be his pillar of support through his own professional troubles. They stand on the bridge, the scenery reflecting their new resolve to endure together. Bai Ying looks at her, his mind completely made up. He's ready to bet everything on their partnership. He gives her a soft, genuine smile. He tells her they are going to go it alone, refusing to rely on platforms or outside connections. They will bear the burdens and reap the rewards as a team, regardless of the outcome. He asks if she's truly willing to take this leap of faith with him. With a bright, happy smile, she says she's absolutely willing. Bai Ying is instantly filled with fighting spirit, looking ready to take on the world. They decide to head home and get Danny in on the new plan. But as they turn to leave, Queque Shu catches on a loose plank of the bridge. She loses her balance with a shocked cry. Before Bai Ying can reach out, she plunges straight into the lake with a massive splash. Things go from 0 to 100 real quick as Bai Ying dives into the lake to save Queque. He drags her to the surface, gasping for air and looking like he's finished a marathon. He's absolutely panicking, screaming for her to say something and asking if she's okay. Queque finally manages to open her mouth, but she isn't coughing up water. Internally, she's a bit embarrassed as she drops the bombshell. She actually knows how to swim. An awkward silence follows as the realization of his unnecessary heroics sinks in. The vibe is basically a Stickman-level facepalm for Bai Ying. However, the tension breaks and they both end up laughing in the water. Bai Ying jokes that the view from underwater is actually pretty great, though he's clearly looking at her. Another quiet moment passes as they drift close together. They lock eyes, the air getting heavy with a romantic tension that's definitely not gradual. Queque whispers his name, leaning in. They are centimeters away from a watery kiss. But Bai Ying pulls back, apologizing for moving too fast and promising he won't touch her until she's ready, sticking to their new relationship rules. The duo walks in looking like drowned rats, prompting Danny to ask if they decided to go for a casual morning swim in their street clothes. The crew is definitely judging them in 4K. Danny tells them to hurry up and change before they catch a cold and start a studio-wide plague. Once they're dried off, it's straight back to business as Queque suggests they finalize the character designs. They agree to push forward and give this independent project everything they've got. Queque's eyes are burning with resolve. She gives a firm yes to the plan, with a final look of determination. They seal their partnership with a fist bump. A montage kicks in showing the team grinding through the month, buried in research and eventually passing out on their desks from pure exhaustion. Fast forward to the night before the big launch, and the nerves are hitting hard. Bai Ying is staring into the void, his brain refusing to shut down. He checks the common area and finds Queque is also a member of the No Sleep Club. She's trying to distract herself with some video games to feel sleepy. Bai Ying notices she's playing a title he's never seen her before. It's a Stray Cats escape game. Queque admits she's completely stuck on the current level. Bai Ying starts backseat gaming, reminding her she's been terrible at these since their college days. He tells her to move over so he can give her a hands-on tutorial. Queque is completely blindsided as he moves into her personal space. Suddenly, she's caught in a full-blown back hug as he takes the controller. Internally, she's short-circuiting, wondering what kind of pro-gamer move this position is supposed to be. Bai Ying acts like it's totally normal, and Queque finds herself slowly getting used to this kind of progress. Things are getting real cozy until Bai Ying realizes he might be pushing the gradual rule. Suddenly, a wild Anki appears, sleepwalking and demanding orange juice. Bai Ying tells a stunned Queque to just ignore her, since the kid apparently does this all the time. The next day finally arrives. The studio is vibrating with enough nervous energy to power the whole city. Queque's heart is doing marathons as she prepares to go live. Bai Ying looks like he's about to explode from the tension. Together, they hit the issue button and send their work into the digital wild. The results are instant shares and comments start flooding in immediately. Readers are praising the innovative theme and the top-tier art. Amidst the celebration, Bai Ying's back finally gives out from the weeks of crunch. Queque tells him to sit down so she can help. She starts giving him what she calls a professional back rub. Bai Ying's face turns into a literal tomato. Internally, he's screaming because this is definitely not the gradual approach they agreed on. He asks how she managed to go so far past the hand-holding stage so suddenly. Queque looks at him with pure innocence, asking what's wrong with a simple massage. Bai Ying is basically short-circuiting from the physical contact. Queque realizes she's finally found his weakness. She starts teasing him for having a shy spot and pinches him. She laughs at the fact that the cool screenwriter is actually flustered by her. She tells him he's nothing special while playfully poking his face. Bai Ying snaps and bites her finger, leading to a chaotic chase around the house. The screen fades for a moment as the playfulness settles. Queque stops running, her expression shifting to serious. She catches a glimpse of Wonner through a doorway. Wonner is on a sketchy phone call with someone named Chen Hao, telling him not to contact her again. She mentions a meeting at the Saint Heaven Hotel, leaving Queque suspicious about what she's up to. But the mood shifts back when Bai Ying pops again. To celebrate the launch, Danny announces a team-building trip to the hot springs. Everyone is hyped and agrees that the schedule is clear. Danny starts booking rooms and casually suggests that Bai Ying and Queque should share one. Queque is caught in 4K, completely stunned by the suggestion. Her eyes go wide as she processes the idea. Wonner throws some shade, asking if they're really still just at the hand-holding stage after all this time. Fed up with the teasing, Queque bites the bullet and agrees to share the room with Bai Ying. Queque is officially catching everyone off guard with her sudden intelligence boost. Back at the house, Danny is chilling on the couch, wondering where his favorite headache, Wang Wanner, has run off to since she isn't home yet. He tries to play the big brother role, claiming that even though she's a total brat, she's actually a softie deep down. Internally, Queque is scoffing, "Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England." Queque isn't just sitting there, though. She's got the receipts. She mentions she overheard Wonner talking to some dude named Chen Hao earlier in the day. The room goes dead silent as if someone just announced the series finale cancellation. Danny practically teleports to his feet, screaming about whether she heard that name right. Turns out they were planning to meet at a hotel nearby, and the vibes are officially rancid. Queque asks what the deal is with this guy and why everyone is short-circuiting. Danny explains that Chen Hao is a professional creep who's been relentlessly pursuing Wonner for years, and almost caused a major disaster once before. The squad mobilizes immediately, calling the cops while Danny tells the girls to stay behind and wait for news. But Queque isn't about that damsel in distress life and insists on joining the raid to save her rival. They hit the Lethbridge Hotel and Danny starts barking orders like a budget action hero, telling everyone to split up and search, while the guys are playing detective at the front desk. Queque notices some flyer distributors just finishing their rounds. She starts running through the halls, knowing that aimless searching is a one-way ticket to a too-late scenario. She realizes Wonner is a social media addict who probably posted a selfie the second she arrived. Sure enough, she finds a classic outfit of the day post from 20 minutes ago. Enhancing the photo like a CSI agent, she spots the lit-up 6 on the elevator panel in the background. She calls Danny to tell him to get the squad to the 6th floor ASAP. She reaches the hallway but realizes there are way too many doors to knock on blindly. She knows the front desk won't give up a room number to a random girl, so she has to get creative. She notices something. Most doors have flyers tucked into the handles. She calculates that if Wonner entered a room after the flyers were placed, the flyer would be on the floor. She spots room 602 with the flyer on the ground and knows she's found the lair. She even spots a stray airing on the carpet. It's definitely Wonner's, and the situation just got real. Queque locks in, her eyes going cold. She gives the door a solid knock. Pretending to be room service, she claims she's there for a special anniversary gift package. The door opens and the creep finally shows his face. She confirms he's Chen Hao, and then bam. She pins the guy to the floor before he even knows he's caught in 4K. She demands to know where Wonner is and finds her huddled on the bed under the covers, looking completely blindsided. Wonner explains the guy lured her there with a fake promise to stop bothering her, only to start ripping her clothes off the second she walked in. Queque gives her a hug, letting her know she's here and the nightmare is over. Outside, the flashing lights of the police cars prove the rescue was a success. Danny and the guys arrive just in time to see the girls walking out safely. Bai Ying rushes over, checking Queque for injuries like a worried mother hen. Queque just flexes, bragging about how she took the guy down in minutes. Bai Ying isn't impressed. He's actually low-key fuming that she acted so recklessly. Queque just rattles off her resume taekwondo jiu-jitsu, boxing basically, she's a lethal weapon. Later that night, things finally calm back at the house. Bai Ying brings her some fresh milk milk to help her sleep. He admits he only knew about the milk trick because he's been stalking her social media for the last 3 years. Internally, she thinks, "You really have a lot of free time, buddy." She notices he's wearing glasses and asks when he became nearsighted. He explains that staring at a screen for 2 years ruined his eyes. The tension in the room suddenly gets heavy enough to choke on. He leans in close, and Quicky's heart is doing backflips. She grabs his glasses and puts them on herself. She immediately gets dizzy from the prescription, but she manages to tell him he looks even more handsome now that she can see him clearly. He tries to deflect by asking if her greasy flirtiness splashed onto him, wondering if she finally understands how he felt before. He gets serious, making her promise to never face danger alone again. She smiles and gives him her word. Finally, it's the big day. The squad is officially heading out for their 3-day hot spring trip, and things are about to get even more interesting. The hot spring trip is finally here, and Queque is on a mission to stop being a background character in her own love life. She's hyping herself up to finally make a move on Bai Ying, telling herself that being timid is officially out of style. Once they get to the hotel suite, the air is thick with enough tension to power a small city. While Queque plans her romantic offensive, Bai Ying is internally screaming, trying to be a gentleman, respect her space while his heart is doing 100 on the highway. The awkwardness peaks, and they both bolt for the hot springs to cool their heads before things get too spicy. Over at the women's bath, Queque runs into Anki and her former rival Wang Wanner. Queque is in full big sister mode, pinching Anki's cheeks because she's just too adorable to ignore. However, Wanner is just staring them down, looking like she's about to drop a diss track. Surprisingly, the Ice Queen melts and admits that Queque's latest project with Bai Ying is actually pretty fire. She finally drops the act, thanking Queque for the rescue and apologizing for being a hater in the past. Even though she's blushing like crazy, she insists that Queque is pretty decent at best. She can't help but throw one last jab, saying Queque is only barely a match for someone as perfect as Bai Ying. Queque realizes her rival isn't a villain, she's just a massive sunder, and the two end up bickering like old friends. Back in the room, Bai Ying is looking like a total snack in his yukata. They realize they're basically wearing matching outfits, which makes the vibe even more intense. Queque tries to break the ice by suggesting drinks, but she quickly realizes that drunk Queque is a liability and shuts it down. She tries suggesting a game or talking about work, but Bai Ying shoots down the boring ideas. He approaches her, telling her that the whole point of a trip is to just relax and enjoy the moment. He gets close enough for her to count his eyelashes, and the atmosphere turns into a straight-up K-drama. He suggests they just turn off the lights and go to sleep, leaving Queque's brain short-circuiting. They trade awkward goodnights while hiding under their blankets. The gap between them on the floor is wide enough for a truck to drive through. Queque notices Bai Ying is practically hugging the wall to give her space. She complains about the cold, and when Bai Ying offers an extra blanket, she decides it's time to take a risk. Internally, she clenches her fists, screaming that she's going for broke. She skips the blanket and straight up grabs him, deciding she'll just sleep while holding him instead. Bai Ying's brain nearly crashes as he asks if she's just dizzy from the hot springs. Queque leans into the lie, murmuring that she's feeling dizzy just to stay in his arms. Seeing how serious she is, Bai Ying realizes the green light is officially on. He hovers over her, the tension finally snapping. He reminds her that these are her own words and she can't back out now. Queque panics, realizing she might have accidentally skipped a few chapters in her master plan. Internally, she's yelling that she just wanted some honest sleep, not the full experience. She wonders if he thinks she's trying to skip straight to the final boss. Bai Ying just gives a low-key smile. He whispers that it's simply too late to stop. Things get heated as they finally lean in. Bai Ying pauses one last time to make sure she's really okay with this. Queque sets a boundary, saying not till the end, and Bai Ying softly agrees, proving he's a top-tier ML. Outside, the evening breeze rustles the trees as the two spend a night they'll never forget. The room is quiet, but their hearts are screaming. Bai Ying checks on her again, his voice full of concern. He worries he went too far, but Queque isn't letting him retreat. She grabs his hand, telling him to go on. Bai Ying can't help but smile at her newfound boldness. The next day arrives, and the sun is way too bright for their current mood. Queque is in the bathroom, washing her face and trying to process the night. She realizes that maybe being intimate with Bai Ying isn't as scary as she imagined. But then she catches a glimpse of herself in the mirror and realizes she's been caught in 4K. A massive mark is staring back at her, and she immediately panics about finding enough concealer to hide the evidence. Outside, the rest of the team is waiting. Danny immediately clocks the weird energy, asking why the two are standing 5 feet apart like they're in a social distancing PSA. Queque panics and shouts that she's going to get dinner, even though it's literally 8 a.m. The team is convinced the two had a massive blowout fight. Queque retreats to a vending machine to hide her red face, wondering what to drink. She decides she needs coffee to perk up after her sleepless night. Suddenly, Bai Ying appears, and they both jump like they've been electrocuted. They start awkwardly insisting the other person go first, looking like a pair of malfunctioning robots. Queque realizes that despite the massive progress they made last night, they've somehow gone back to square one of being shy messes. Queque starts the morning with a suspicious cough, looking like she's trying to hide a massive secret. Bai Ying, being the worried boyfriend, asks if she's coming down with a cold, but she's saved by the bell when Anki calls them over to hang out. As the group walks together, the girls are already planning their next shopping spree. Since Queque's outfit is severely lacking in the pocket department, she hands her phone over to Wanner for safekeeping before they get distracted by some delicious-looking snacks. The girls are still buzzing with energy while the guys are basically running on fumes. The men are officially traumatized after taking over 400 photos for the girls, with Danny complaining that his old body just can't handle the influencer lifestyle anymore. Hoping for some alone time, Queque announces she's grabbing milk at a convenience store, and Bai Ying immediately volunteers to be her bodyguard. Walking through the streets, they realize it's been ages since they just wandered around like a normal couple. Queque brings up a night back in college when they were cornered by his classmates, but Bai Ying just wants to bury that memory in the past. Internally, she thought, that was the first time I saw his most genuine side, as she tells him it was actually a super significant moment for her. Just as things are getting sweet, a random girl recognizes Bai Ying from his TV appearance. Suddenly, they're swarmed by a mob of fangirls who think they've found a wild idol in the streets. The girls start firing off questions about their relationship status, and the awkwardness levels are hitting the ceiling. Seeing no other choice, Bai Ying grabs Queque's hand, and they pull a full-on track and field sprint to escape the paparazzi. They duck into a nearby gymnasium to hide from the crowd. Meanwhile, the security guard is just trying to finish his shift and go home. He sees two blurs fly past him and wonders if he's starting to see ghosts. The fangirls try to follow, but the guard stops them right in their tracks. He tells the girls the gym is closing and kicks them out, completely oblivious to the VIPs hiding inside. The girls are left wondering if they hallucinated the whole thing while the guard grumbles about kids these days. Hiding in the shadows, Bai Ying checks to make sure the coast is clear. They finally collapse in a corner, totally exhausted from their unplanned cardio session. Queque can't help but tease him, joking that she finally understands what it's like to date a celebrity. Bai Ying blushes, begging her to stop making fun of his sudden fame. Deciding it's safe, they stand up to finally head back to the hotel. But then they hear a definitive click. The guard, dreaming of a foot massage, has officially locked the doors and checked out for the night. They scream for help, but it's no use, the man is already gone, leaving them trapped in the dark. Bai Ying stays calm, reaching for his phone to call Danny for a rescue mission. Too bad the universe has other plans, because his battery is officially dead after taking all those photos. He looks to Queque, hoping she's got some juice left on her device. That's when the realization hits. Her phone is still with Warner because her dress doesn't have pockets. Bai Ying can only stare in disbelief. Queque starts panicking because she had a whole plan to sleep in a separate room to keep their relationship on the down low. Bai Ying was thinking the exact same thing, planning to hide out in Danny's room to avoid any caught in 4K moments. Now they're stuck in a tiny storage room together, and the post-intimacy awkwardness is reaching critical levels. Internally, she groaned, this cheesy melodrama plot is actually happening to me. While Bai Ying tries to reassure her that the team will eventually notice they're missing. Spoiler alert, the team doesn't care. They assume the two are off having a spicy private session and decide to just go play cards instead. Back in the storage room, Bai Ying notices something on Queque's neck. He realizes it's a hickey he left there, and the guilt starts setting in. Internally, he worried, I didn't mean for it to be that obvious. While Queque realizes her concealer has completely failed her. She sighs, mentioning how she'll have to hide her neck for days to avoid questions. Looking at him, she decides it's time for some payback. She asks if he wants to even the score, psyching herself up to finally take the initiative. Internally, she cheered herself on. You can do this, Queque. Go for it. She leans in, telling him if she has to deal with a mark, then he should have to bear the same burden. She tells him it's only fair that they both look suspicious. Bai Ying is completely blindsided, his face turning beet red. Queque immediately gets embarrassed by her own boldness, stuttering that she was just kidding. They sit in a heavy silence for a moment, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. But then, she decides to go through with it, telling him she's giving him one back. She leans in and plants a kiss right on his neck. In the quiet of the gymnasium storage, the deal is sealed. Once she's done, she pulls back and declares that they're finally even. Bai Ying is short-circuiting, asking if she's been taking love potions lately to get this brave. Queque gets salty, snapping at him for making fun of her when she worked so hard to find her courage. Internally, she ranted, do you have any idea how much I had to hype myself up for that? Bai Ying chuckles and apologizes, promising not to tease her anymore. But he's not done. He tells her they forgot the most important step from the night before. He leans in close, his eyes full of main character energy, and asks if he can kiss her properly. Queque's heart is racing as she whispers that a short moment is fine. The two share a deep, romantic kiss that makes all the storage room drama worth it. Eventually, they make it back, but the night isn't over. Anki is wandering the halls, feeling great about the team trip. She notices something by the door and picks it up with a curious look. It's a box of cold medicine with a note telling them not to overdo it, proving that someone in the studio definitely knows what's up. Locked in a dusty gym storage room while a mob of fans roams outside. Most people would panic, but for these two, it's basically an accidental date night. Queque realizes they're stuck for the long haul, but the rock-hard floor is a total deal-breaker for her beauty sleep. Bai Ying, being the ultimate survivalist boyfriend, goes on a scavenger hunt through the equipment. He manages to stack up some mats and blankets, turning a storage locker into a makeshift VIP lounge. He checks to see if the setup is cozy enough for his girl, looking way too smug about his interior design skills. Queque is actually impressed and invites him to test out the padding with her. Bai Ying's brain immediately short-circuits as he stares at her. He leans in, wondering if this is a low-key invitation for something more than just a nap. Internally, Queque is fuming. Seriously, We barely have a bed, and this guy is already lost in his own spicy fanfiction. Despite her acting tough, her heart is doing a full gymnastics routine in her chest. They settle in, and the atmosphere gets surprisingly warm as they snuggle up. Bai Ying can't help but tease her, asking why she's still acting like a shy maiden when they've already shared a bed plenty of times. Queque tries to keep her dignity intact, insisting she's a mature adult who definitely isn't blushing. But when the heat gets to be too much, she tries to kick the blanket off and accidentally delivers a high-speed slap to his face. She immediately snaps out of it, panicking and checking to see if she actually broke him. Bai Ying plays the victim card, clutching his jaw and whining that it hurts. Queque is stressed, demanding to see his face to check for any bleeding. He pulls her closer, pointing out that his lip is swollen, but then reminds her that her mouth is probably a bit puffy too after Wei did earlier. Before she can argue, he goes in for a kiss to make it even, effectively shutting her up. Flustered, she declares they're square and tells him to go to sleep before she accidentally attacks him again. As the night goes on, Bai Ying gets surprisingly sentimental, admitting he never thought he'd actually be sharing a bed with her after all these years. He thinks back to their high school days, and that one groove of trees where their story really began. He thanks her for changing her mind about him and finally accepting the idea of being in love. He starts painting a picture of their future, imagining them as old people in wheelchairs still holding hands. He wonders if decades from now, they'll still remember this weird night in a storage room. This emotional damage is too much for Queque, and she starts crying happy tears. She confesses that she used to be terrified of men and love, but he's the one who made her feel whole. Bai Ying is touched by the confession, looking at her with total adoration. He whispers that he really likes her, and she whispers it right back. But then, he decides to completely destroy the romantic vibes by asking if she wants to have kids. Queque's internal alarm goes off, and she yells at him for killing the mood with such a heavy question. The next morning, the pair finally makes their way back, looking like they just crawled out of a trench and getting a solid scolding from the security guard. They wonder if the rest of the studio team spent the night worried sick about them. Turns out, the team didn't care at all and is currently passed out on the floor in a messy pile. Queque decides that since the storage room floor ruined her back, she's joining the nap party immediately. Meanwhile, Anki wakes up and notices a blanket she definitely didn't have when she fell asleep. She looks over and sees her colleague, who is looking a bit too self-conscious for someone who just woke up. He awkwardly asks if she wants to go grab a drink, and they head out to the vending machines. He buys her an orange juice and asks if her cough is getting better, revealing he was the one who gave her cold medicine. He tells her the weather is getting chilly and she needs to dress warmer. Anki pouts, thinking that if she wears too many layers, she won't look cute. Right on cue, a breeze hits her and she sneezes, proving him right. He laughs and plops his hat on her head to keep her warm, sending the romantic tension through the roof. Anki panics and sprints back inside to escape the awkwardness. He stands there confused, wondering if he's just overthinking things or if she's actually starting to catch feelings. Inside, Queque and Bai Ying are finally getting back to reality. The team notices Anki's face is bright red, but she lies through her teeth, claiming it's just a sunburn from being outside for 2 minutes. They all decide it's time to pack up and head back to the main studio. Later, Queque storms into Bai Ying's workspace to demand the next script. She stops dead in her tracks when she notices a giant hickey on his neck that he isn't even trying to hide. She freaks out, asking why he didn't cover it up, but he just shrugs and says everyone already knows the deal. Queque isn't having it and orders him to sit down so she can perform a miracle with some concealer. She jokes that it feels just like their freshman year makeup class. She teases him about how he used to be so clueless he couldn't tell mascara from an eyebrow pencil. Bai Ying just smiles, realizing it's already been 7 years since those days. He starts squirming because the brush is ticklish, which Queque finds hilarious. She starts a tickle-tackle war, laughing about how she's finally found his weakness. Suddenly, a loud cough breaks the silence. It's Danny, and he's standing right in the doorway while they're in a very compromising position on the bed. Queque tries to play it off like they're just doing some physical exercise for their health. Danny isn't buying the cap for a second, but he has no time for their games because he has something serious to discuss with Bai Ying. Danny is absolutely roasting Bai Ying, asking if he's even bothered to check the comment section, where readers are calling his pacing a total snooze fest. Bai Ying tries to defend his slow burn style, but Danny isn't buying their artistic setup excuse. He gets brutally honest, asking if Bai Ying actually plans on making any money with this work or if he's just writing for himself. Danny rants that this is a commercial manga for a mainstream audience, not some award bait project, and tells him to swallow his pride and cater to the fans. Bai Ying looks completely defeated as the manager drops the hammer on his creative vision. He mumbles a quiet, "I got it," while Queque watches from the shadows, her heart breaking for him. Internally, she worried. He's so proud of his work, this reality check must be absolutely wrecking his confidence. She realizes she can't just stand by and let him spiral into a pit of self-doubt. Even the chibi versions of the crew are shook, noting that they've never seen the man look so down in the dumps. Everyone is wondering if their lead writer is going to be okay after that verbal beatdown. Queque springs into action, asking Angel and Yutian if she can borrow their printer for a top-secret mission. She gets to work immediately, snapping into high gear as the printer starts spitting out pages. She asks the duo to help her cut out the designs, leaving them wondering what kind of DIY project she's cooked up now. Angel starts sneezing up a storm, and Queque tells her she needs to stop being a workaholic and go catch some Z's. Chibi Angel gets sent to the sidelines to recover before she turns into a full-blown biohazard. Yutian plays the concerned gentleman, telling her to make sure she's actually under the covers. Queque catches the vibe immediately and gives Yu Tian a knowing look. She calls him out on his obvious crush, sending him into a total blushing meltdown. Internally, she scoffed. It's literally obvious to everyone on the planet except for Angel herself. Yu Tian tries to play it cool, but his face is basically a glowing red light district at this point. Queque asks him when he's finally gonna stop being a coward and just confess. He sighs, thinking Angel is way too naive to understand his feelings anyway. He's terrified that if he actually shoots his shot, she'll end up hating him. Queque acknowledges that Angel is a bit of a sensitive soul who plays it passive, but she points out that deep down, the girl is just looking for someone she can truly lean on. She chides him for being so dense, wondering how he expects to win her over with zero effort. She tells him to stop overthinking and just let his feelings leak out bit by bit. Queque can't believe she's actually out here playing relationship coach when her own life is a mess. Meanwhile, Bai Ying is outside moping, wondering if he's actually a failure who's just going to be a burden to Queque. He's lost all his swagger, feeling like his career is basically dead on arrival. He questions if he's even qualified to be a scriptwriter in the first place. Suddenly, Queque's voice cuts through his depression cloud. She finds him at his usual moping spot, knowing exactly where he goes to clear his head. She tells him to stop being a drama king because she's taking him on a mystery trip. She grabs his hand, determined to drag him out of his funk. The chibi version of her is leading the way, full of chaotic energy. They arrive at the destination, and Queque reveals her big surprise with a huge grin. Bai Ying is stunned, not expecting whatever she's about to show him. Back at the house, Yu Tian finally grows a spine and knocks on Angel's door. He finds her still typing away on her laptop like a gremlin instead of resting. He lets out a frustrated sigh at her stubbornness. He marches over there with a look of pure determination. Angel looks up, completely caught off guard by the sudden intensity in the room. Before she can protest, Yu Tian pulls a total K-drama move and Princess carries her to bed. She panics in chibi form, screaming for him to let her go while he tucks her in like a toddler. He laughs at her reaction, calling her his little dumpling. Angel is shook, asking why he's still using that embarrassing childhood nickname. He explains that since he's the one who gave her that name, it's his special way of seeing her. He looks at her with a gaze so soft it can melt butter. Angel starts to feel the heat, realizing this might be more than just friendly behavior. She mentions that she always felt like just a kid to everyone. Yu Tian admits that in their eyes, she's always been the baby of the group. But then he remembers Queque's advice about letting his real emotions out. He stops holding back, his face getting serious for the first time. He acknowledges that even though she's the youngest member of the squad, he blushes hard, preparing to drop the biggest truth bomb of his life. He looks her dead in the eye and tells her he's always seen her as a woman, not a kid. Both of them immediately short-circuit from the awkwardness, with Yu Tian running for water while Angel hides under the blanket. Back at the exhibit, Bai Ying is standing under a literal sea of glowing stars. Queque tells him to look closer at the stars. She's hung up all over the room. He leans in, his eyes widening as he realizes what he's looking at. They aren't just decorations, they're the printed comments from all the fans who actually love his slow burn storytelling. Queque tells him that for every hater Danny mentioned, there are hundreds of fans begging him not to give up. She promises that they'll keep improving and creating banger stories together. Bai Ying is so moved he can barely speak, his confidence finally returning. He scoops Queque up into a hug, promising her he'll give it his all from now on. The two of them share a sweet, emotional moment surrounded by the light of his supporters. Internally, he realized, out of everyone in this world, I'm the luckiest guy because the person I met was you. Queque starts the morning by giving Bai Ying a reality check, reminding him that before he jetted off for studies, they actually had a hit series together. Bai Ying admits he might be a bit rusty with the commercial grind, so Queque offers to be his personal coach since she's been in the industry trenches. Internally, she's feeling like a total boss while they discuss their next big move over breakfast. She tells him that even though she isn't a script pro, she knows it takes serious skill and finesse to make a story pop. Bai Ying just smiles, promising to organize a document to show her exactly what he's working on. Suddenly, the vibe shifts as he reaches out. He gets all sentimental, wondering what he even do without her and asking how he could ever repay her for the support. Queque is caught off guard, reminding him that if he hadn't given her a shot at collaborating, she'd probably just be rot-maxing at home. Bai Ying leans in with that main character energy, asking if that means she officially owes him one. Queque, now in full chibi panic mode, asks what he actually wants from her. He just stares at her while munching on his toast, keeping her in suspense. He touches his neck nervously, clearly plotting something. Finally, he tells her he'll let her know once he's actually figured it out. Queque isn't buying the mysterious act, thinking, this guy is definitely up to something sneaky again. The romantic tension is interrupted when Enki wanders in looking like a total zombie. Yu Tian follows right behind her, but the two are acting incredibly weird after yesterday's drama. They lock eyes for a split second and the awkwardness is physically painful. Before anyone can even say pancakes, they both bolt out of the room claiming they need to work or take a nap. Queque and Bai Ying are left sitting there in total silence, wondering what just happened. Queque finally realizes this must be how their friends felt watching them be awkward back in the day, and it's honestly annoying. Another housemate drops by to mention that Danny and the rest of the crew are headed out of town for an awards ceremony tomorrow. She gives them a look that says she knows exactly what's up, noting it's rare for the two of them to have the house to themselves. She drops a final warning for them not to do anything weird. Queque gets defensive immediately, telling her to stop talking nonsense while she finishes her makeup. Once they're alone, Bai Ying notes that the more he gets to know the cool housemate, the more he realizes she's actually just a carefree girl. He then pivots back to their solo night, asking Queque if she wants to do something special. Queque's brain starts short-circuiting, thinking he's making a move, but he clarifies he just wants to play games or cook a meal together. She's so relieved she practically explodes, agreeing to the plan while Bai Ying tries to hide his ladder. Later, Queque finds Yu Tian moping by the window looking like a rejected drama lead. She asks him if he's still overthinking his situation with Enki. Yu Tian tries to play it off, asking why the two were acting so strange earlier. He admits he tried to take the initiative, but then Enki walks in and the tension returns. Enki looks completely dejected, her heart basically sinking into her slippers. She overhears them talking and assumes the worst, wondering why she's even bothering to hide. Yu Tian keeps digging his own grave, telling Queque he's too clueless to understand what Enki is thinking. He sighs, clearly frustrated with his own lack of progress. He doubles down on the little sister narrative, saying she's just the sister they've always cherished. Enki hears this and decides she's had enough, turning to walk away before she loses it. Queque has had it with his dense behavior and literally slaps some sense into him. She tells him to stop overthinking and show some actual courage before Enki is gone for good. Yu Tian finally realizes his sister's excuse is just a cover for his own cowardice. Queque gives him a smirk, promising him that a real confession will definitely work. He's still worried she'll hate him, but Queque claims Herman's sixth sense says he's in the clear. The next day, the group prepares to head out, leaving the little couple to watch the house. Queque notices something is off with Enki's expression. The poor girl looks like she's about to cry under her fluffy hat. Yu Tian tries to be a gentleman and offers to carry her heavy bag. Enki snaps at him, insisting she isn't a kid and can handle it herself. When he tries to grab it anyway, she literally claps his hand away, yelling that she said no. Yu Tian is stunned by the sudden aggression. Danny and the others are confused, asking if the two are in the middle of a lover's quarrel. Yu Tian brings up the time she fell and broke a bone, trying to justify his overprotectiveness. Enki fires back that it's none of his business, and that he shouldn't interfere since she's just a sister. Yu Tian looks wounded, asking what she's even talking about. The other housemates try to step in and stop the fighting, but Queque holds them back, telling them to let the two idiots sort it out themselves. She realizes Enki only heard half of yesterday's conversation and is totally misunderstood. Enki starts listing every single romantic thing Yu Tian has ever done for her, from chasing away creeps to picking her up in the rain. She lists all the times he stood up for her and remembered every important date. Her voice trembles as she reaches her breaking point. She screams, asking if he'd really do all that for just any random girl younger than him. Yu Tian stays silent for a long beat. He looks down, his face turning bright red. Finally, he blows up, yelling that of course he only does those things for her because he's an idiot who's been in love with her for years. He's fuming, wondering how she could be so dense after all this time. Yu Tian covers his face, admitting he was just too weak to say it until now. He confesses that it was basically love at first sight from the moment they met. He explains that he waited because she wasn't an adult yet, and he was terrified that she'd avoid him if he spoke up. And Queque finally softens, telling him she's not a kid anymore and could never actually dislike him. She admits she only dressed up and endured the cold just to look cute for him. Yu Tian is caught in a total moment as she pouts at him. She shoves her bag at him, telling him if he wants to be useful, he can carry it to the airport. She rushes off, claiming they're going to be late for their flight. The rest of the crew follows, teasing the little couple as they head out. Queque and Bai Ying watch them go like a set of relieved parents. With the house finally quiet, Queque decides it's time on her draft. Bai Ying mentions he bought fresh ingredients and offers to teach her how to cook later. He pats her head, and she jokingly asks if he really thinks he can teach her anything. He teases her, saying that even if she isn't the smartest, she can learn if she puts her heart into it. Queque gets heated, calling him the real kid as they bicker their way back to their rooms, leaving their home date for tonight.